Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Luffy Fanfics, back with the amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Godlike Luffy ate mythical devil fruit and became the god? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Monkey D. Luffy, an infamous person known worldwide for the incidents he committed. Most would call him a troublemaker rookie who stumbled his way into a victory against a warlord of the sea, Crocodile in Alabasta, and became notorious from that fortunate win. Yet, recent events have made people reform their views on this individual. One of the most notable incidents this man has produced was the destruction of the Judicial Island, better known as Anai's Lobby. It was devastated. Perhaps it served as a symbol that fairness disappeared. The message passed after seeing the island burn was that criminals could no longer be judged fairly. But to some scholars, the concept of fairness never existed in the world to begin with. Sad, but it was the right line of thinking. All one could say was, it was truly unfortunate. Monkey D. Luffy, the pirate, the criminal, the worst. His body was in tatters after fighting numerous grueling battles from Impel down to Marineford. Critical wounds covered his body enough to make a man crippled for life. If that wasn't enough, he also suffered the tragic loss of his older brother Portgas Diaz, who died at the hands of Admiral Akinu, and in the process of sacrificing himself, he saved Luffy's life. There was nothing else the man Portgas Diaz could have done. To save his brother, Ace gave his own life. There weren't just physical wounds on Monkey D. Luffy's body, there were also deep, unending scars. These scars did not mar his body. Instead, they branded his mind and his heart, terrible scars that constantly hurt. Nevertheless, these mental scars wouldn't have time to do that terrible work, to state the truth and nothing but the truth. Monkey D. Luffy, this man with the straw hat, this man whose goal was to become Pirate King, this man who wanted it all, this man was dying. They say a moment is all that's needed to change history. A single moment can upset the balance of the world and give birth to hope. However, hope can only be born in the face of despair. The question remains, Monkey D. Luffy, the dying man, could he ever grasp hope and salvation amid the drowning sea of despair? On a distant sea, after the War of the Best where both Ace and Whitebeard had made their last stand, a submarine of yellow paint emerged from the water. That submarine was owned by none other than the Heart Pirates. If one would ask, the Heart Pirates are an infamous and notable pirate crew from the North Blue Sea. Their captain, Trafalgar Law, is a member of the worst generation. What is Luffy's condition? We would like to know. An impossibly stunning woman walked. Her steps were bold and loud. There was a marine battleship docked on the side of the submarine. On the marine battleship, unusually, there were many life-size statues of Marines on board with hearts on their eyes. They weren't sculptures, no. They were humans who turned into stone. They would probably remain so for a long time, or even forever. It all depended on the mood of the most beautiful woman in the world and one of the most powerful warlords of the sea, the pirate Empress Boa Hancock. To those who turned into stone, there was no difference from death, and by the lovely woman's mood, they were as good as dead. There was no other way to say it. Those Marines were dead by her design. Man, good job figuring out that we emerged here. I thought the Marines were still tracing us or something. Is this some kind of sick joke? A white bear with an orange jumpsuit asked, ignoring Hancock's question about Luffy's status. We had Salem trace you on the ocean floor. She can truly swim well. Boa Hancock pointed at her unusual royal snake, her precious companion. After the War of the Best, she had no injuries on her person. She was still peerless as ever, which in turn showed her perfect strength. And you, bear, how dare you try and change the subject like that, you mere beast. Boa Hancock chastised the bear for ignoring her question about Luffy's condition. The white bear lowered his head, depression setting in. Sorry. The white bear managed to speak out amongst his downtrodden depression. So weak-willed. The other two crew members of the Heart Pirates cried in surprise at the weakness and cowardice of the bear when other people talked poorly of him. Trafalgar Law opened the door, rubbing his bloody hands in a cloth. His face had some drops of blood that he finally wiped. Captain, the bear cried, I did all that I could, although for this type and difficulty of operation. Well, his life is currently being preserved, but he continued getting off the blood in his hands. Boa remained silent. He's accumulated an unbelievable amount of damage. There's no sign that he will be able to come back. After that revelation, Boa Hancock still stayed silent. Her blue gem-like eyes glittered with worry, a cold sweat on her forehead. He had a voice reverberated in the air. What in God's name is that? The Heart Pirates cried in surprise once again at the new arrival. A man wearing a strange leather suit with a giant head compared to his body, having a purple afro and purple makeup, yelled. His body was leaning from the marine ship. He was an individual named Emporio Ivankov, king of Kamabaka Queendom. His people were also with him on the deck of the marine ship. That's right, Straw Boy gave his best. Thanks to him, we managed to escape. Ivankov showed off what Luffy did for them. The prisoners from Impel down. It seems that they're on Luffy's side. They snuck on the Marine's ship, Boa remarked with a bit of an unimpressed tone. They were Luffy's friends, so she would tolerate them for the time being. Now we can finally journey to Kamabaka Kingdom we've been dreaming for years. From Nukama Land to the headquarters of Nukamas. They cheered on his speech as the Heart Pirates stared dumbfounded at them. Ivankov landed on the submarine deck. He then took a more serious tone. Straw Boy's body was already withered to the point where he could no longer even stand and impel down. I'm amazed he was able to cause so much mayhem on Marineford. Ivankov gave a bit of praise for Luffy's wild side. It was all for the sake of rescuing Ace. And to think that same elder brother died in front of him, protecting him. Straw Boy. Ivankov had a bit of a forlorn expression. If I give up here, I'll regret it. Ivankov thought back to what Luffy said. What god would permit that? That's something that would easily crumble someone's mind. Nay, two minds. To think Straw Boy is passing through something so tragic. Ivankov was sweating with worry. Come on, you can do it, Straw Hat. Hang in there. The Nakamas cried, remembering the chant they did back in the prison when he was poisoned by the Great Warden Magellan. What a tragedy. We wish we could have gone in his place. Poor Luffy, Boa Hancock said as she faced away, her warm tears cascading down with worry for his mind. The Heart Pirates cried in envy because the Pirate Empress' affection was directed at the little guy with the straw hat, although thinking again that wasn't a very enviable position to be in. Critical condition and stuff, it wasn't worth it. By the by, who are you? Are you Straw Boy's friend? Ivankov asked the supernova. One of the members of the worst generation. No, I am not. Law answered. I have no obligation of saving him either. If you're that worried about my motives, I could come up with a reason. Law continued as he faced Ivankov. Ivankov crossed his arms. No thanks. There are times where our bodies move without reason. Ivankov responded. Hey, wait. One of Law's crewmates shouted. Jimbei, you are still hurt. The crewmate continued his warnings. The Knight of the Sea arrived on deck while huffing and puffing due to the pain of just moving his muscles. His body was bandaged through and through, hiding his sunbrand. He clutched his chest. His body had sustained 2 injuries in the war from Admiral Sakazuki, the human with the power over light. Only now had the warlord awakened from the war. Trafalgar Law of the North Blue. I thank you for saving my life. Jimbei thanked the captain of this submarine wholeheartedly. Go back to your bed and sleep, Jimbei. You are going to die. Ivankov said, seriously. The way he said die would have given any normal person a shiver up their spine. Jimbei with his honorable nature explained his feelings and heartrending pain while retelling stories of Ace and how important he was to the Knight of the Sea as a highly regarded friend and comrade in arms. My heart will not settle down. Not when Luffy-kun is wavering between life or death. For me who was close to Ace-san, this sense of loss is impossible to bear. But what I am most afraid of is the time that he wakes up. Luffy-kun is his brother. The sense of loss isn't heartbreaking anymore, it's soul-crushing. Jimbei said, making everyone realize how bad of a situation Luffy was in. Beast, do you have a transponder snail? Boa asked. Yes, we do, ma'am. Sorry. The white bear's depression returning. You are like the Empress slave or something. His crewmate commented, receiving another sorry from the bear. If we call the Kuja pirates, we can cross the calm belt and heal Luffy. If Luffy's survival is made known to the government, they will not relent. We witnessed this at Marineford. We must hide in my kingdom, and as long as we hold the title of warlord, we will be able to treat him safely and without foreign interference. Boa Hancock ordered the men around as if she were their captain. The big-name pirates were a bit taken aback by her authoritative prowess. Well then, my mission to protect Straw Boy ends here. Can I leave the rest to you, Jimbei? Ivankov said as he jumped towards the ship where his people were situated in. Yes, I still can't swim freely with these wounds. I will ascertain Luffy's recovery with my own eyes. The Nakamas cheered them a goodbye as Ivankov steered the ship away from the submarine and the Kuja pirates' ship that had arrived. If fate may have it, then let us meet again. Don't you die now, Luffy. With Luffy's fate still uncertain, the coalition of pirates traveled towards the island of women, Amazon Lily. Treated as a special exception, the Heart Pirates were allowed stay and dock on the beach far from the actual city. Captain, as heat is giving out, one of his crewmates cried. Luffy was convulsing and groaning out in pain. Hurry and hold him down. Damn, this isn't looking good. Inject him with an antidiuretic hormone and prepare for manual resuscitation. The situation looked grim and the atmosphere was suffocating. The seconds that ticked by felt like hours, and everyone held their breath as Lon did his best to stabilize Luffy. In the end, however, he failed as Luffy's heart rate monitor flatlined. Silence descended upon the occupants of the room as the harsh reality they were faced with dawned upon them. Regardless of their best efforts, the outcome was still a failure. Damn, he punched a wall in frustration. His pride as a doctor was severely crushed. On this day, both Edward Newgate, Porcas Diaz, and Monkey D. Luffy died. However, even if he died, it was not the end of Luffy's adventure. Where am I? Luffy was on the ground kneeling, his hands on the ground. He had no clothes on. Memories kept rushing in his head so much that it was giving him a massive headache. The realization set in. I see. I lost Ace. His hands cupped his face painfully, pressing his cheeks so hard that a normal human would have their skulls broken. His eyes were so narrowed they were creasing his forehead to abnormal levels as his fingernails poked into his cheeks, his eyes scanning the whiteness of space. Where, though? The white space that goes on forever. I am probably dead. He started laughing at himself. I am such a weakling. I couldn't save my crew. Bon-chan sacrificed himself so I could escape, and in the end of it all, I couldn't even save Ace. He started crying in earnest, frustration piling upon frustration. What was he even doing? What have he been doing all this time? He crouched and kept his head low in disappointment. All that talk about being Pirate King and I couldn't do nothing against them. He remembered Aokiji, Kizaru, Magellan, Blackbeard, Hawkeye, and Akinu. How they were so strong and looked down on him. He wasn't a match for them. There was an unsurmountable mountain between them and him, one he couldn't cross no matter what he tried. He clenched his hands painfully. His wrist clicked with the force, almost breaking them as he punched the ground, making 2 craters on the white floor. His tears flowed freely. He cried and screamed and yelled for hours. There was so much pain in his heart that he wanted to disappear so it could stop. He wanted everything to stop. He wanted everyone to just die. That's how he felt at this moment. He had been a complete weakling without power to back up his own recklessness, and it cost him everything. Another sibling was taken from him, first and now Ace. What's next? His comrades. He stopped that train of thought. He stopped mourning. He spent hours, days, here in this white space. There was a simple explanation. He stopped screaming. His friends were still alive. That's all that mattered to a straightforward heart that Luffy had. I can't stay dead like this. He clutched his chest. His eyes shined defiance and ambition. My dream of Pirate King will not end here. It cannot finish here. I am not a man who will end here. Luffy's whole body seemed to move. The heaviness in his movements caused an oppressive atmosphere that gathered around him as if a storm blessed him. His burning desire for the One Piece shone through, though now he had an additional dream, remembering one of the titles Old Man Whitebeard had. He wanted that title. He craved that title now with all his heart. And it wasn't the Emperor of the Sea. He mustered his fists. He raised himself from the ground and screamed to the high white heavens, his new dream. I will become the most powerful man in the world. His yell, fueled by his ambition, made the ground heave as if it was alive, as if it was in awe of his splendor and greed. Luffy could honestly say that it felt like the ground was massaging his feet. The air around touched him, as if worshipping his will, so that I will not lose another loved one ever again. Law was about to give the bad news after mourning for about 9 minutes. However, he heard a strong heartbeat. He looked shocked at the monitor. It was flat-lined for more than 9 minutes. The son of Dragon should have already been brain dead. Straw Hat ya. He rushed towards Luffy's side, confirming his miraculous revival. I will not lose you again. I am one of the best doctors in the Grand Line, you hear? He worked tirelessly for what seemed like hours, and finally, Luffy was stable enough. His wounds were healing at an astonishing rate, confirming the strong vitality of the monkey family. By this point, Law was fatigued and collapsed on his own medical bay. Then after the warlord rested, someone Lee's opened his eyes. Luffy jumped out of his bed, his body moving with his will with no difficulty due to his fatigue or wounds. Watch out. Calm down, Straw Hat. One of the heart pirates cried. Within the territory of Amazon Lily, on the throne room of the Amazons, Boa Hancock sat there worried. Snake Princess. Luffy has awakened. He came back to life, one woman of her crew reported as she entered the room. Luffy-sama, the servants exclaimed, happy that he was up. Oh really? Huh, what joy. We wish to meet him at once. Boa could not hold her joy to see her beloved again. Snake Princess. Everyone wants to meet Luffy, I understand that. But if you meet him alone, it's going to give off a bad example towards the Amazonians on the island. There are laws that need to be upheld, the elderly lady spoke. We know that. Hancock struggled to speak, as if getting separated for just a minute was enough to have her heart broken. More importantly, sister, your meal. Sandersonia, one of her sisters, spoke out. That's right, you haven't eaten since you've got here. Marigold matched her sister, urging Hancock to eat, yet it had an unintended effect. That's right. Luffy must be quite famished. Prepare a feast for him at once, she ordered her servants. Yes, ma'am, gladly. They were overjoyed to prepare a feast for Luffy-sama. He was quite exalted by the population. Most women in the island adored him. We shall help out with the meal as well. Boa Hancock spoke as she raised her beautiful self from the throne. We shall make sure. It is the best food our husband has ever had. Boa Hancock said with a serious and passionate face. Husband? Gloriosa cried out in surprise. Where did that guy Jimbei go? One of the heart pirates asked. He went after Straw Hat, I think. Well, he rushed to the thick jungle, the other responded. Law picked up the straw hat that Monkey D. Luffy wore, a silent look on his face as he recovered from his fatigue. There was a trail of destruction in the forest. Luffy's fists were bleeding. He tried extending his arms, trying to use his power over rubber, the fruit of rubber he ate from Shanks. However, he couldn't understand. He didn't understand what was happening. Where had his power gone? Where was his devil fruit? He sat on a rock. He looked towards his newly made friend Jinbei. Luffy's glare could pierce any man. And on one of his hands was the Viver card for the old man Rayleigh. The paper was full of his own blood and a bit moist from the bloody liquid. Jinbei was silent, remembering the past and his promise to take care of Luffy that he made with Ace back in the dark depths of Impel Down. He promised Ace he would take care of his little brother should he ever die, and his fate would have it. It was truly unfortunate. Luffy-kun, the war is over. Ace-san is. Jinbei did not look down. He met Luffy's silver eyes head on. Dead. Luffy's voice cut through. The voice that came out was deadly serious and silent. Yet those words could cut through and intimidate most people. It was so uncharacteristic of the easygoing and passionate Luffy. His silent tears bled through. Luffy had already come to terms with the death. Jinbei sat towards him and listened to the young man talk about his frustrations. Luffy in turn confided in him about his wants and desires. That he'd been a complete fool this whole time, a reckless idiot without the power to back up his own words. Only now he realized that the darkness of the world was always around. That he wasn't untouchable to its misery. Jinbei, I want to see my crew again. However, I am too weak like this. I lost my devil fruit. I couldn't win against all of those tough opponents. I need to get stronger. Luffy looked at Jinbei, the truth coming out. He was still weakened by the wounds on his body, but they were healing. Luffy-kun, you need to heal your wounds first. After that you will know what to do. He carried Luffy on his back, towards the beach. Whoa, Rayleigh, Luffy called out on the muscular old man, in the shore sitting on the stone. A happy expression overcame both. Luffy-kun, he gave his greetings. The heart pirates that Law commanded were gone, and the old man had the straw hat in his hand. What are you doing here? I believe my Viver card is still pointing towards the sea. Luffy grinned. I left mine with Shaki back on Sabayati Archipelago, Rayleigh responded. It was at this moment that Boa, Hancock and company arrived. A cart of food was being delivered by them. Both sisters and Gloriosa greeted Rayleigh, but Boa only fussed after Luffy. However, Boa noticed something different about her beloved. He seemed more mature. Although he still joked around with everyone else, she could see a serious look cross his face. To her, he appeared even more attractive. Luffy, I could barely sleep. I was so worried about you. Here I prepared a feast for you, Hancock said as she put her fingers on the fruits. Luffy grabbed her hand. His eyes intensely stared at her face. His eyes searched her thoroughly as if discovering something new about her. Hancock, thank you for everything. Her face was reddened and she almost fainted due to the sudden closeness and intensity from his silver eyes. Jinbei noticed the assortment of foods, his stomach growling like a tiger. Jinbei, we did not prepare this food for you. She recovered quick from her funk. Hancock, it's okay. He is my friend. He patted her head. She almost fainted. No more than a mouthful, you hear. A dragon's roar was heard, all around the island. All looked at Luffy's stomach. He blushed a bit, scratching his neck. Luffy-kun, you should eat up, for to eat is to live. Jinbei gave him a heartwarming smile. Luffy did not need to think twice. He rested on the grass near his friend Jinbei and he attacked the food like a man possessed, placing fruits, seafood, meat, and all other assortments of foods in his mouth. Afterward, Luffy invited Rayleigh and Hancock to eat with him. Rayleigh started discussing the letter Shaki sent to the Snake Sisters. It was finally then that Boa noticed Rayleigh. Gloriosa was shocked at her lack of attention to anything that wasn't her beloved. So Luffy-kun, how are you feeling? Rayleigh asked. Luffy was strangely composed. Even after waking up he hasn't broken down mentally. I feel like I was hit by an entire warship. Everything hurts. If I move my arm it feels like it's ripping apart. If I move my neck, it strains severely, Luffy said with a sigh. It's not surprising you're in that much pain considering what you went through. It's pretty normal, so it seems you're doing all right for the time being, Jinbei said. No, this is far from normal, at least for me, Luffy told them. I'm a rubber man. Pain isn't something I feel regardless of the kind of beating I take. It's one of the reasons I won the many fights I was in so far. Luffy looked towards his hands as he told them how his power over rubber worked and how much it helped him to be the man he was today. My endurance and stamina as well as my ability to tank as many hits mostly come from my rubber powers. The fact that I'm feeling this much pain after almost 10 years probably says that I lost my ability entirely, Luffy said nonchalantly to those around him as he punched the air and his arm failed to stretch lie before. The fruit of rubber wasn't inside of him anymore. The others were shocked, but Rayleigh, on the other hand, laughed heartily. He already predicted this outcome, so he wasn't surprised. Trafalgar Law had already told him that Luffy was dead for more than 9 minutes. What did surprise him was Luffy's calm and nonchalant attitude. It wasn't a bad thing. In fact, he welcomed that emotional maturity, but he'd like to know the reason behind it. You seem awfully calm about this considering the circumstances. Not counting the traumatic events you went through, you were also dead for almost 9 minutes. That is the reason you probably lost your ability. It was a close call. Rayleigh explained to them why Luffy had lost his powers for good, while staring at Luffy's eyes with a smirk. Is there a reason why you're not panicking or throwing a tantrum as I expected you to? Rayleigh asked Luffy with a knowing smile on his face. He deduced that Luffy reached a similar conclusion as he did and was happy. Now his plan would go a lot more smoothly. The Gorgon sisters, Jinbei and Gloriosa, chose to be silent and just watch things play out between the two for now. Ace is dead. Nothing can change that now. I was too caught in his promise that he would never die, that I did not want to believe, that I'd rather close my eyes and cover my ears to the truth. I already cried enough, Luffy said, as he ran his fingers through his hair. Then what happened? Obviously, you're still alive, so it stands to be reasoned something gave you the strength to fight your way back. Rayleigh asked with knowledge of Luffy's answer. I was in a white room. I don't know if it was a dream or if it was the afterlife, but I took a long time there crying and coming to terms with Ace's death, Luffy said with a forlorn look into the distant sky on the horizon before facing the group. But I've come to terms with it. I have a lot to live for. I will not let my dream come to an end. I will be the Pirate King. He yelled to the high heavens, and it was as if the heavens acceded to his wish. Everyone was happy for Luffy. He got his spirit back at last. However, at that instant that he yelled, reddish-black cracks in space all around Luffy thundered across the island. A shockwave washed over and reached more than 100 kilometers off the coast. That was his Supreme King's haki. The absolute weight of his ambition washed over them. Everyone was stunned and surprised. However, Boa Hancock was strangely self-conscious. It was like a lover's touch caressing her skin with her beloved's desire to attain everything the world had to offer. The man she has fallen for was an incredible person indeed. Luffy calmed in the storm with him. I have many people who care about me. Back home in Goa Kingdom. All the friendships that I made in my adventure, all of my comrades. They are waiting for me. They still care about me. I know it for certain. No matter what man I will become, I am still me, Luffy said as he stood up, not giving a damn about the pain on his legs. I hate that I am the last of my siblings, but I can't let this drag me down forever. It is frustrating. I've done all I could in the war, but like many people spelled to me, being courageous isn't enough. I lacked strength and Ace died because of it. Luffy closed his eyes in deep thought, uncharacteristic of the 17-year-old until now, but this was also a sign of deep change within him. Given my weakness, I've decided I am going to become the strongest man this world has ever seen. That was the title the old Whitebeard had, wasn't it? He asked, determination shining through his deep eyes as he opened them. Oh, I can see you've taken things seriously, and I can tell you've reached the same conclusion as me. So, what do you want to do now? Asked Rayleigh in all seriousness. Now was the time to see whether Luffy knows what was to be done. Luffy took a while to settle his thoughts. He looked up at Rayleigh with fierce will burning in his eyes. What I want is to see my crew again. What I want is to get back on my ship and go on more fun and exciting adventures with them, Luffy exclaimed passionately. Rayleigh nodded in understanding, but an undertone of disappointment can be detected. He was happily surprised, however, by Luffy's next words. As much as I want that to happen, I know that right now, it's not what I need. Jinbei and Hancock looked shocked, as did the others. They knew how desperately Luffy wanted to reunite with his crew. He has said so on many occasions. They've come to realize how much he cherished the bonds he created and knew the relationships he had with his crewmates were unbreakable. Hearing such words from him was a little unsettling, and it worried them, especially Hancock. She remembered the time before she got to know him and fell in love with him, how he profusely begged her, on his knees even, and threw away his pride and dignity in order to obtain a ship to leave the island to find his crew. She remembered the look of complete and utter joy plastered upon his face when she agreed to lend him said ship, although at the time she felt sad at the thought of him leaving and never seeing him again. However, fate decided to flip the proverbial table of his reunion and throw the boy into the whirlwind of events that culminated in the loss of his brother and his own death and subsequent resuscitation. Of course, he fought through that, and knowing him as well as she thought she did, the first thing he would do was ask to find his crew and reunite with them, especially after going through such an experience. She felt that Luffy needed them now more than ever, even though she wanted to be the one to comfort him. Even if she did wish from the depths of her heart that he would regard her with as much importance as he gave to his comrades. Still, he was a man who never failed to surprise those around him. The fact that he seemed so serious about it was even more alarming. I don't understand, Luffy. You've been desperate to find your crew since I first met you. I thought for sure after all that has happened that you would want to be with them, Hancock stated with an unusually solemn expression directed at Luffy. All traces of her fawning side disappeared, and she was now serious and stern. This was truly the face of the cool and indomitable pirate empress. After witnessing her slightly eccentric behavior around him, for the most part, made Luffy almost forget that underneath all those layers she put up, lied a fierce and powerful warrior, one that reached warlord status, a title only held by 7 people in the wide world. He couldn't help but be captivated by her strength of spirit, even if that adoration lasted only a few seconds. After all, this was the woman he would be forever indebted to. After a second, he regained his composure before taking on a serious expression. He faced her with an equal level of presence. It was his form of giving respect to her. There are too many tough enemies in my adventure. To become the Pirate King, I need to become much stronger. I feel inside of me something waiting to burst out. I can grow stronger still. But right now I am weak. Luffy pointed at his chest. Luffy-kun, don't be ridiculous. You are strong. I've seen that from eyes. Jinbei was cut off from his little attempt to reassure Luffy by the man himself. Jinbei, please let me finish. I used to think of myself as strong. Luffy walked forward and sat on a rock next to Rayleigh. I didn't have much else to boast about. What strength? Luffy continued, after getting a bit more comfortable, to tell a story. I was raised by mountain bandits. Strength was all that mattered in that place. However, that strength wasn't enough. I came to the Grand Line with a crew of 5 on a small ship, armed with a devil fruit, and thought I could take on the world. And I did for the most part. I don't mean to talk big, but how many other rookies can claim to have defeated 2 members of the warlords, to have saved a country from civil war, to have defeated a man who styled himself a god, and to have crushed the one of the most power and feared assassin from the government CP9, to be the reason Anai's lobby was sunk to the ground, to lead the greatest escape Impel down the impervious prison has ever had. This was all within a few months of their journey. I don't think any rookie can boast to have done all of this. Luffy continued his monologue with a fond smile as he recounted the many achievements of him and his crew during their journey. However, he took on a more solemn countenance as he continued. While all those look like good achievements on paper and speech, and they make me seem really strong, in the end that's all a lie. He faced them with a serious look. All those battles I fought drove me to the brink of death. I had to struggle. I barely crawled my way out of them. My crew was in just as much danger. It was only thanks to my devil fruit abilities that I miraculously survived. He put in perspective of how much those adventures could have cost him and his crew. In the end, you can say that I did pull through, and those experiences have made me a better person. Sure, I did win against all odds. But now, looking back, it all seems so hollow. While I consider myself strong, I don't think I'm as strong as I could or should have been right now. Luffy could have done better. He could have done much better. If there was only a way to return in time and do it all over again, he would take it right now. But this was not to be. He had to live with the consequences of his actions and the actions of the world around him. Reversing the past was an impossibility. That's what I meant when I said when I'm weak. Luffy finished his little story with a downcast expression and his jaw clenched. The others looked to be contemplating what they just heard. Although they wanted to refute his self-deprecating views aimed at himself, they didn't know the full story of Monkey D. Luffy, having only known him a short while. They chose silence over any sudden remarks that could be insensitive to the boy's current situation. Rayleigh, though, was happy at this development. He was a little worried about Luffy and if he would be prepared for what's to come, especially with Whitebeard dead and the world thrown to chaos. He thought he may have a tough job trying to persuade him to agree to his proposal, but now, though it seems his worries were unfounded, Luffy found the path he wanted to take on his own. He couldn't help but feel a little proud at the emotional maturity the boy seems to be going through. He patted him on the shoulder and nodded at him to continue. He knew the boy needed to get this off his chest. When I was young, my grandfather looked after me. I didn't know my mother or father. Grandfather always raised me with the mentality of joining the Marines. I never questioned it much. I was a little boy. I didn't really care. Luffy chuckled a bit. However, the next words made his eyes light up. Then came the day that Shanks and his crew came to my hometown. They all seemed so much larger than life compared to the little boy I was. I thought they were the coolest. His tone seemed happier as he talked about Shanks. Shanks took the time to talk and even play with me. He ended up saving my life and giving me his straw hat with the promise of returning it to him someday. It's what set me on the road to be a pirate. I wanted to be someone great just like him, Luffy said with a tone filled with admiration for the famous red-hair Shanks. The others were quiet and chose to let him express the feelings he needed to. He sadly looked at the famous straw hat in his hands and continued. Looking back at how I spent the 10 years since meeting him, I realize I didn't try as hard to improve myself as I should have. Most of my days were spent fooling around in the woods instead of actually doing things that could actually help me achieve my dream. He could have spent more time developing his powers, instead of hunting menial animals or playing tag with predators. He could have spent more time infiltrating the capital and obtaining information. But all he thought is that studying was a joke. I would always remember Ace telling me to read more or learn proper manners, but I always laughed it off and continued goofing off. I regret not listening to him now. I can't help but think, maybe if I tried more or trained harder, I would be stronger, strong enough to have saved Ace. His tone was soft and filled with regret. Luffy, Hancock whispered to herself. It was hard for her to see the man she loved like this, but she knew him well enough to know that he will persevere. I came to the Grand Line with a flimsy resolve, completely clueless to the world around me. I thought having a devil fruit made me invincible. I thought always shouting about being Pirate King would convince people I was the real deal. I might have been trying to convince myself instead. I put my crew in danger and made a lot of reckless decisions without the strength to back it up, which ended up hurting them more times than I can count. Although I have all those regrets, too many of them, I'm not going to let them weigh me down. I've been given a second chance at life, so to speak. My eyes have been opened to the truth of the world. My ignorance has cost me too much already. I want to change that. The fight on the Sabayati archipelago showed me already. We are not ready for the new world. All the previous fights were won by the skin of our teeth. We would be slaughtered in the new world. It is a place we know nothing about, and after everything that's happened, I don't want to rush in with no knowledge and hope we make it out somehow. We need to be better. I need to be better. Oh, I've gone way off topic. Sorry about that. Just needed to get it off my chest. So anyway, to answer your question, Hancock, while I do desperately want to see my crew ... as I am now, I'm no good to them. Especially now that I've lost my devil fruit powers. I'm weaker. And as captain, I need to be strong enough to protect them should the need arise. After my little performance in the war with my temporary alliance with the old man Whitebeard, and fact that the world knows my connection to Ace, and to top it off they know who my father is, the world knows. People will be after us, Marines, and pirates alike, only to make a name for themselves. I'm not strong enough to get through them all. I need to be better, stronger, faster, smarter. I just don't know how to go about doing that. Luffy finished, balling his fists tightly whilst making a frustrated expression. Haha, I came here to see you, Luffy-kun. I saw you fight in the war in the screens around the archipelago. Will you listen to my plan? Naturally, it is up to you if you accept it or not. Luffy faced him, his head already formulating theories as to what Rayleigh said. What plan are you talking about? Luffy asked with an interested expression on his face. Well, I see no harm in telling you. I planned on taking you back to Marineford to do a little ceremony for the dead, so to speak. This is to tell the world that you're still alive and to make a statement as well. But the main purpose of doing this is to get a message to your crew, to let them know that you all will be taking a break from your journey to improve yourselves for the new world. I remember you all saying that you'd meet in 3 days at Shaki's bar. How about instead of 3 days we push the date to 2 years? I was thinking we can do the message in the form of an ink mark on your arm. So what are your thoughts on this? Rayleigh asked him seriously. Luffy was a little taken aback by the thought of not seeing his crew for 2 years. He wanted to get stronger, but he didn't think about what that would mean for the rest of his comrades. From that look on your face, I can see that you want to train me, but what about them? How will they improve? I don't even know where they are. I thought you might ask that. I do know where they are, the same way I knew where. The person who sent you flying to this island told me so. He saved your lives, Rayleigh said with a smile. You may not realize this, Luffy, but on the Sabayati archipelago, when your crew was cornered by Kizaru and those Pacifistas, you had absolutely no hope to win. When Bartholomew Kuma sent you all flying, he actually saved your lives. His actions allowed your crew to get out alive and live to fight another day. That was his last act as a human being, as I'm sure you know by now that his personality was erased, and he was turned into a human weapon. Rayleigh told him with all seriousness. He had come to have a great deal of respect for Kuma after his actions. But why? Luffy was even more confused than before. That just brought up more questions than actual answers. What was the Paw Guy's objective? As for your crewmates, he sent them to places where they can get hands-on training in their specialty skills to improve themselves. For example, your cook is with your friend from the war Ivankov, and your swordsman is on an island belonging to Dracula Mihawk, just to name a few. They are with people who can improve them, and most importantly, they are safe. So now I ask you again. You are the captain, the decision lies with you. What do you think of my plan? Rayleigh asked him once again. Luffy smiled. It was not his usual face-splitting grins. It was a small one, however. The most important part was his silver eyes. They stormed with overwhelming confidence. There's only one answer. Those words gave everyone a pause after they left Luffy's lips. Marineford, the seat of power of the Marines, laid in ruins. It suffered a war that could shatter entire countries. Yet even now the justice symbol, while cracked, it stood proud. Various construction workers performed shifts tirelessly to repair the broken island. Reporters were on the scene, recording everything that happened. There were few Marines. Some captains, lieutenants, and grunts stayed to protect the isle. The admirals, vice admirals, and the top brass was either in Miraculous or scouring the world, putting a strong front so that pirates would not dare attack them while they were weakened, especially after Whitebeard's last words. On this isle, a marine warship arrived. However, instead of entering the bay, it started circling around the whole island. Soon reporters and marines got suspicious of the ship's strange behavior. It then fired blank shots out of the cannon. The noise got the attention of all the people there. What's going on? Has that ship entered in contact with us? A captain yelled his orders. No, that's impossible. What is he doing here? A man with binoculars, he was shocked. After all, on the front of the ship stood Monkey D. Luffy, curiously. He seemed a bit different. Not even 10 days had passed. However, the man who was 5'6" had grown. He stood at 5'8" and he seemed more filled out. It was frankly inexplicable. For the Marines, the sudden change in appearance was unexpected but not entirely strange. Most had seen stranger things on the sea. What happened? A reporter asked. It's Straw Hat Luffy. A grunt of the Marines responded. The reporters were shocked. The Marine captain quickly commanded to sink the ship. One of the sentry turrets fired 3 projectiles. A column of water rose from the sea, intercepting the shots. Jinbei, who was under the sea, floated above to the surface, confirming that he was the one that intercepted their shots. Is that Jinbei, the Knight of the Sea? A Marine asked, pointing at the Fishman. An old man on the rogue ship picked up pellets made of coal from a crate. They were small, the size of marbles. There is one more enemy on board of the rogue ship. The captain yelled. Another turret fired shots. The man on the ship threw the pellets, hitting all cannon balls midair with insane precision. They penetrated each one, making them explode in midair. Is that the living legend, the former first mate of the Roger Pirates, the Dark King, Silver's Rayleigh? The spotter said, almost dying of fear. During all of this, Luffy put all of his focus on what Rayleigh did. Ray's hand and wrist were very quick. The old warrior hit all of those cannon balls with a precision that Usopp would have. Those coal pellets would normally not be able to be thrown with that force, much less pierce iron shells. However, Luffy, while deprecating himself, calling himself weak, while that was all true, he knew within himself he was a battle genius. Neither he nor his enemies ever admitted that. But it was the absolute truth. This was the man that replicated the Zoro and brought it to even greater heights with his gear 2nd. This was the man that replicated the strength of giants with gear 3rd. This was the man that defeated God. He moved towards Rayleigh. He kicked the ground 10 times. He did not have his fruit anymore, so like those CP9 people, he moved by sheer instinct alone. He reached Rayleigh in a flash, picked a bunch of pellets in the same crate. 3 cannon shells came again as the turrets fired. He threw the chunk of pellets at the shells with all of his strength, many of them missing. However, some found its mark, and just like Rayleigh, the shells exploded midair. However, because Luffy did not have the same finesse as Rayleigh, his strength was way off the charts for a simple move like that. The pellets he had thrown missed, and those that pierced the shells continued full strength, exploding upon reaching some of the buildings or the ground of the island. At that time, a cannonball who survived the onslaught approached the deck. Luffy jumped using Zoro towards the rails of the ship. His feet cracked the wooden rail as he flexed his knees. His hands started accumulating power. He then swatted the cannonball with his bare hands, exploding in the air on his left. Shit, my aim was way off, and my strength is not properly adjusted for that yet. Luffy complained, all the while Rayleigh good-heartedly laughed. To Rayleigh, it would be a treat to teach this young man. Remember what we are here for, Luffy. We are not here to destroy Marineford. The old man laughed at him. Shut up, old man, he yelled, embarrassed. But they continued their patrol around the island 3 times. The turrets continued shooting. However, they were impeded again by Jinbei with his water techniques, Rayleigh throwing pellets, and Luffy swatting the shells away from the warship with a backhand. It's like a funeral procession on the sea. One reporter cried out, finally recognizing what they were doing. After sailing around 3 times around Marineford, the ship was already burning from the damage incurred. Luffy wanted to have more chances of throwing the pellets. However, some shells landed on the ship due to his inaccuracy in trying to imitate his new mentor. It was a disaster, and Luffy would become better, he promised himself. 3 men jumped from the rogue ship and landed right on Marineford Plaza, Luffy in the middle while Jinbei and Rayleigh were on his side. Both the Dark King and the Knight of the Sea started battling the Marines and killing them while Luffy calmly walked forward. A group Marines rushed in his way. His eyes, shadowed by his hat, showed a killer glare in their direction. His utter distaste for the world government was apparent for all to see. Luffy remembered what he said to Rayleigh back when they hijacked a Marine ship. Old man, I lost my rubber powers. I feel like I can't properly control my muscle strength. Oh, that's to be expected. You are in a normal body again. Although I believe your bloodline is inhuman, Garp was no human. He whispered the last part. Is it going to be a problem? He asked Luffy. No, it's just that if I hit a normal Marine without controlling my strength, you're afraid you'll kill them. No, I have no problems with killing. I am a pirate after all, and with the childhood I had I am desensitized with death. Oh, and why is that? My grandfather. When I was young, perhaps I was 5 or 6, he sometimes brought entire crews of pirates or high-profile bandits. He would wrap them all around stones or giant trees. He made me watch as he caved or decapitated their faces with his punches and slowly killed them. That man is a complete and utter psychopath. Not that I am any different. Rayleigh just sat there stunned. So I am asking you, if I accidentally kill any of them, will you complain? While I am not on your grandfather's levels of insanity, I am still called the Dark King for a reason. I killed many during Roger's era, well even before I joined his crew actually. I was a common thief, you see. He took a shot of brandy from his bottle. I see. I hope to hear some of your stories sometime. Master. The Marines feared his glare but were not deterred. They charged, brandishing their swords, axes, and other weapons. However, just when they reached him, he disappeared using his blatant speed. He appeared just behind the crowd of Marines. They tried looking back, but every single one of them whited out, dropping to the ground foaming blood at the mouth. The reason? Their chests were caved in. A clear punch-out line was there, and their uniform was drenched in blood. Some he hit even harder, tearing the sternum apart. The reporter crowd was stunned and fearful. However, they followed him. They were a courageous bunch. They took photos of the clearly dead bodies while recording his every move. And with great reason, because Luffy shook the ox bell 16 times to honor the dead pirates who died. This action was to also challenge the world government. The reporters just followed him, taking all kinds of photos. Then he arrived at the giant scar from the battle. He got a flower from one of his pockets and dropped it, picked up the hat from behind and put it in his chest in a prayer, conveniently showing his ink tattoo 3D2Y. The reporters took the money shot from a cross, getting the destroyed Marineford fortress on the background as well. Rayleigh was indifferent to death, and Jinbei, while he did not hate humans like many of his race, there were very few that he could actually connect with, so he did not care much for humans in general. He also held a grudge against the government for executing his friend. After all of what happened, it was time to leave. Luffy calmly walked forward towards Jinbei and his master. Some brave Marines tried to get in his way. However, his murderous glare returned. All of them hesitated. Sweat stained their bodies. Their hearts were pounding. After what happened with their colleagues, they stood paralyzed. Not moving an inch even when he stepped in the middle of them. Not moving even after the three left on a whale called by Jinbei. On his way back, Luffy remembered what happened after his answer. A few days back on Amazon Lily, Luffy rested with his allies. There's only one answer. I want to get stronger. I want them to get stronger too, so we can be safer and face any challenges that come our way. Let's do it, was Luffy's fierce reply. Rayleigh was content with his young charge. His decision would mean a better chance to be the man he should be. The others looked impressed at this sudden turn of events too. Rayleigh then turned to Jinbei. Jinbei, could you stick around till he gets better? We're going to need your help infiltrating Marineford and making an escape. Are you up for it? Was his question. Anything to help Luffy-kun, was Jinbei's immediate response. Rayleigh was impressed that Luffy could instill such loyalty in a man like Jinbei. Luffy looked at his new friend with a smile on his face. Jinbei, thank you so much for everything. For helping escape Impel Down and fighting the war, and for saving my life too. Thank you, Luffy said with the utmost sincerity as a few tears threatened to spill. Jinbei laughed heartily at him. There's no need for such words between friends, Luffy-kun, for I know that you would have done the same for me, said Jinbei. Luffy happily nodded, knowing what Jinbei said was true. Luffy then turned to Hancock and gave her a genuine smile that made her almost swoon. She was able to keep her composure though. Hancock, Luffy said her name with so much passion she was barely able to keep herself from fainting. You've given me more help than I could ever ask for. You were willing to give me a ship to reunite me with my crew. You even went against your own wishes to take part in this war just to give me the chance to break into Impel Down. You gave me the key to my brother's handcuffs, and now you're even taking a risk to keep me safe on your island. But most importantly, you gave me the chance to see my brother one last time. I honestly don't know what I could ever do to repay you. Thank you so much. Luffy's speech was filled with such emotion that Hancock couldn't help but shed a tear. You don't have to thank us, Luffy. As Jinbei said, there's no need for such words between friends. We would do anything to help you. Always remember this, she said with such a sincere and genuine smile that amplified her beauty to such an extent that even an idiot like Luffy was affected. Rayleigh and Jinbei just laughed at Luffy's awkwardness, much to his annoyance. The rest of the day was spent joking around and having fun. Luffy was happy. Even though Ace was gone, he still had people he could call a family to help him through these times. He made a vow in his mind as he laughed at a joke Rayleigh told him. Please, I can't help but be selfish. Could you wait for me? Just a little longer. In 2 years our adventure will resume. Until then I will do my best. Then we can take the world and turn it in on its head. His hat in his hands as he laughed and bonded with everyone. They feasted until the night was over. Luffy had the straw hat in his hands as he looked along in the horizon. Jinbei silently observed him. In just a few days it felt like he was already family with Luffy. His charisma was something to behold. Rayleigh had the same thoughts. He put the hat on his back as they went back to the Kuja pirate's ship. He wondered what the 2 years ahead of him would entail. One thing was certain, he would devote himself to becoming the strongest so he wouldn't lose anyone anymore. A few weeks ago, Luffy had died while under operation by a member of the worst generation, Trafalgar Law. However, by pure force of will, Luffy was able to be resuscitated. His power over rubber was gone, his devil fruit was gone, and all that was left was his own resolve. He failed against Aokiji before Water 7. He failed against Kizaru in Sabayati Archipelago. He failed against Magellan in Impel Down, and finally he failed against Akainu in Marineford. Luffy has had enough of his own weakness and promised to become the most powerful man in the world. Rayleigh had arrived in the Island of Women and proposed a plan to a more mature Luffy that led them to deliver a grandiose ceremony on Marineford after the War of the Best. Also, they could display a hidden message towards his crew, that they, instead of meeting in 3 days, they would meet in 2 years. Luffy in the meantime had lost control of his muscle strength and killed any Marines that dared to attack him and intimidate all the rest, to show the world that a new grim Luffy was around somewhere, hidden for now. A few days later, upon the comm belt aboard the Kuja's ship, "Do you have to go so soon, Jinbei?" Luffy asked. Unfortunately, with the old man Whitebeard's death, pirates will start to get bold and try to attack the Ryugu kingdom again. Luffy-kun, I feel sure that a day will come where I will lend you my strength yet again. At any rate, 2 years from now let us meet again in Fishman Island. I will be looking forward to the day where I'll meet your crew. Jinbei grinned on top of a whale with white spots. In all honesty, he didn't want to depart. In just a few days on the ship, Luffy quickly became one of his best friends. The bond itself was almost comparable to what he had with Fisher Tiger and the royal family. It was as if they were almost brothers, certainly much closer than his early relationship with Arlong. Yeah, Luffy said his goodbyes with a smile on his face, Boa Hancock by his side pressing her breasts against his body. He would immediately ask Jinbei to be on his crew after those years have passed. However, at this current time he felt insufficient as a captain. XOX. They traveled to an island northwest of the Isle of Women, a place called Ruskana. This island is exactly what we need. Known as the 48 Seasons, it is a harsh land where the seasons change with each week that comes by. Rayleigh said. Luffy drank his every word like a man starved for knowledge. Luffy, we swear, each and every day we will visit this island to bring you provisions from Amazon Lily, she said with a glowing expression. Sorry, Hancock. I need to train to become strong enough for those I care about. I can't have you spoiling me like that. He looked towards her with a kind expression. I want to become strong enough to protect you too. She felt embarrassed by his declaration and wondered how far she could take her relationship with him. But of course. And that was the 100th time you called us by our name. Is this what they call engagement? It is Nyot. And didn't you say that you were married a few days ago? The old grandma escorted the Gorgon sisters and the 2 men. Luffy smiled at the Empress' antics. A caring look was in his eyes. In his mind he did not object to having a romantic relationship with her. However, he knew he had feelings for other women in his life as well. Hancock needed to understand that if she wanted more than flirting with him. Hancock, we cannot have you spoiling the boy. While Luffy-kun's training is underway, none of the women are to enter this place. Rayleigh spoke seriously. Hancock grabbed his nose, pinching it painfully. And what right have you to decide such things, Rayleigh? Boa asked. A demonic look came over her still stunning face. Man, women are scary. Luffy was comparing her to some moments he had with Nami, even if some of those times he deserved it. But having Hancock be away from him was something that he didn't want. Well, Master, why don't we come to a compromise? What about this? The Kuja pirates can visit us every month. Being alone on this island without company is lonely, and I want to know more about Hancock and her crew. He gave 2 reasons. The first one Rayleigh could see was flimsy at best. The second was the real reason. Luffy genuinely wanted to know the women of Amazon Lily better. Well, okay, was Rayleigh's response after some grueling moments. 2 sets of hopeful eyes were too much for the Dark King. A genuine happy look came to Boa's face. Luffy also had a huge grin on his face. He oozed happiness. XOX. After a few minutes of talk, the Kuja pirates left the 2 here alone. 2 men in a large uninhabited jungle. Learning to survive here was crucial for a man without his devil fruit powers. Now then, we are the only humans left on this island. Rayleigh showed the exotic environment. It had many strange flora and fauna. Some were colossal. They say that long ago there was a great civilization here, but it perished. Here in this island, the law of the strong holds true. I smell a great adventure. Luffy was excited. This island is home to terrible beasts, more than we can hope to count. Many of them are too powerful to your current state. I would say 500 or more. If you do not train hard, you will never sleep safely at night. Rayleigh stroked his beard. How can you know all of this? It is a power that I intend to teach you. The power is known as Haki. A rustling sound as a great elephant came charging in behind Ray. Luffy made no motions to attack it. It would fail because that beast was stronger than him. He knew this tidbit of information unconsciously. Instead, he sat on the ground with a patient expression and closed eyes. Rayleigh smiled at his maturity and patience. Luffy would be a great student indeed. Listen closely. Haki is a power that exists within every living creature. Presence, spirit, aura, it is no different from these well-known concepts. However, many never notice they possess it and live their existences in ignorance. Others try and train their whole lives to never grasp it, to have no doubts, to have an unbreakable will. That is the true strength you need. Observe me. Haki can come in two different paths. The elephant wound up his snout for an attack that could have destroyed a whole building with its power. It attacked, completely missing Rayleigh. This is known simply as observation. To feel an enemy presence in an elevated degree, to grasp their numbers, to see hidden or invisible enemies, to spot weaknesses, read their movements, and more. Rayleigh dodged every attack, Luffy's eyes following his every movement, all the while double-tasking, remembering Enel and the Snake Sisters. In the Sky Isles, this ability is called Mantra. The old man finished explaining the first path. Next, we have what's simply known as armament. It is somewhat like wearing an invisible suit of armor. The elephant tried to stomp Ray, however it was stopped by a hand. In that moment the elephant was pushed several meters from the ground and fell nearby. Luffy, who was rapt with attention, was shocked. If he deduced correctly, an understanding look came upon his face. He remembered the sumo guy and his grandpa. I see. You caught on to it. Yes, an important use is that with this path we can bring harm to devil fruit users. With it, even those near invincible Loja users can be damaged. Ray explained. That's how you were able to touch Kizaru. Ray then explained more applications of this type of haki, like the Kuja arrows who were harder than steel. Those two are the main types of haki. However, to a select few there is a third type that is available. The elephant jumped from the ground and tried one last attack. However, with just one look from the Dark King, the beast completely fainted. Its huge body fell to the ground. This is the ability to overpower and conquer someone's will, the haki of Supreme King. It often appears in people who made a big name for themselves on a global scale. It is unique in that it cannot be trained. Only controlled, it is the user's own ambition or will. Only by personal growth this ability can be strengthened. You have already shown inclination towards this type, but with your recent growth of character, this ability needs to be brought under control. I dare not bring you into civilization lest you accidentally let it out at random times. I can predict that this one is already very strong within you. Luffy nodded, understanding what Ray meant. In these past few days after the war he had mentally grown. They found a camp and started eating food. Luffy noticed the night was cold. Ordinarily, training haki would take much longer, but I've witnessed your prodigious talent. I will ground you on the basics first. Most people develop a bias to one type, but this makes them limited. It is best if you gain skill in all three. You have the potential for it. It will make you more versatile. Got it, master. The second thing we will work on is your education. He grabbed a huge sack, reaching inside, grabbing a book of 1,000 he had brought. You wished to be smarter, did you not? I will not be an easy master. Got it, Luffy-kun? Luffy nodded. He was absolutely determined to see this through. He slept through the night while Rayleigh took to guarding their camp and looking at the boy fondly. They reached a giant white tree in the dawn after the night was over. You said this spot is the safest on the island, right? That is correct. Rayleigh organized the books close to the white tree. Luffy picked his hat and left it hanging on a nearby rock. The Viver card was visible through the lace. Let's go, master. He grabbed Rayleigh and rushed through the forest. XOX. As the weeks passed, Luffy noticed how Ray was such a hard taskmaster. He would wake up every morning at 5 in the morning by the insistence of the old man. They would go to the White Tree and spent 2 hours studying subjects like biology, math, politics, geography, and tactics. Afterwards, Rayleigh would chase him off from his safe spot. He alone would have to hunt his breakfast. The island was incredibly large. It was so easy to get lost in it. And it had some monsters that would destroy Luffy. However, Ray did not care. The early mornings were filled with losing fights against the animals that he wanted to eat. Luffy had to quickly adapt to the law of the jungle. At this time he was just a bottom feeder. He could not enjoy his meat, so he would stick to fruits and other vegetables. Coincidentally, this is where he discovered his near immunity to poison after fighting Magellan. Eventually, by late morning, Ray would nonchalantly show up near him. He would give instructions on how to use haki. Then he would unleash various beasts on him to train what he had just learned. It was harsh getting overwhelmed from the various beasts, but it was perfect to stimulate his senses and increase his physical strength. After the beatdown, lunchtime arrived. Again he had to hunt his own food, even with some serious injuries from the morning. Luffy noticed that he now healed extremely fast, overwhelmingly fast. Perhaps it was one of Ivankov's hormones or some other reason he wasn't remembering. He did not know. By early afternoon, Ray would appear again, attacking Luffy hand to hand and mercilessly beating him to a pulp. This was his martial arts training. He was a firm believer in kinesthetic learning. Luffy just thought he was crazy. By mid-afternoon, Rayleigh would sick more monsters for Luffy to fight while explaining more about Haki, even though he would be extremely injured at this point. After fighting more monsters trying to grasp the basics of Haki, by late afternoon he would be exhausted and riddled with injuries. However, even then he wasn't allowed to rest. He would have to exercise his body, push-ups, squats, running. However, he had to carry a huge boulder on his back and the size of it increased daily. Early evening was again hunting for food alone. However, the biggest predators were awake at night. He always needed to be careful in the evening, and he could not rely on his vision. It was very dark and lonely in Ruskana. Every time he encountered an apex predator, it was a chase of life and death in the dark. It humbled him very much. Ray told him he would never be subtle, but maybe this would teach him some degree of stealth. After dinner, he would return to the tree for more studying with Rayleigh. Then late night they would camp outside the safe zone, with Ray telling him stories of his life, of his exploits when he was a pirate. It was the best part of the day for Luffy. Then he and Ray would sleep. Even if an enemy would attack, Ray would just observe. It was up to Luffy to wake up and run the animal out of the camp. It was a lesson to teach him to be alert at all times, even when he was sleeping. By morning his body had healed itself completely. It was a small mystery he had yet to discover. Every day this schedule would mercilessly continue. However, Luffy was not a small man by any stretch of the imagination. He endured it without a pip. Well, he cursed the old man's insanity in his mind, and adapted to the new routine. It very quickly, his prodigious talent shined through. By the end of the first week, he could imbue parts of his body with armament 10 times out of 100. Now he could finally start to grasp it. The same for observation. Now he could occasionally feel prey nearby, and sometimes dodge fast attacks that would normally hit him square on. He had a good grasp of the basic sciences, and Ray incorporated a bit of history in his lessons. The martial arts bit was the most interesting. Ray had mastered most arts the world had to offer. Luffy would copy the movements Ray did in their sparring matches, burning the movements into his memory and muscles. And surprisingly, by the end of the week he mastered his first martial art. He was proud. However, the next day Rayleigh would switch to a style that perfectly countered the one that he learned, forcing him to copy Ray again. The exercising was the most rewarding part. He could feel himself growing stronger, faster. Before he relied on boosts from his devil fruit. Now he could achieve the strength acquired by Gear 3rd and the speed of Gear 2nd with just improving himself. After a few days, he raised his pain tolerance. Noticing that most if not all wounds healed after a night of sleep, he started being even more reckless. Something that would have cost his life on the battlefield now helped him. It was okay in his eyes. Looking back at his grandpa, being reckless was in his blood. After another week, he could use armament half the time and avoid most attacks. He now started sensing animals nearby. He could somewhat gauge their strength, which made him realize he had more talent for observation than armament, which was not to say that he was bad at armament. He had made great strides in that type as well. He was finally happy. He was able to hunt and kill lesser animals for food. However, the big herbivores and predators were still out. He had crammed many subjects into his brain while he devoured the books Rayleigh brought. He had another style master. But Ray was a sadist and switched the training again. The next week, he would have to hunt and face those monsters while blindfolded, putting most of his progress to zero. He had to rely on his senses, instinct, and Haki to survive. Ray said he had great eyes, so much so that Luffy would forget to use other senses. Another 2 weeks have passed. And finally a day off. It was the day of the visit of the Kuja pirates. It was a truly blessed day. He could spend the day on the ship without his blindfold on. He would talk for hours with the Gorgon sisters, getting to know them better. However, he spent the most time with Hancock. They really hit off fast. Perhaps it was because they were both capable of Supreme King's Haki. They couldn't tell, but the connection was there. After the first month, he could basically hunt all herbivores in the island and small predators. He finally learned how to swim and was able to hunt down some fish underwater, carefully evading the sea kings. He wasn't strong enough for them. While he could take sea creatures early on, the one that lived here in the calm belt were much more dangerous. He could control armament now to appear in various parts of his body, and his observation was growing strong. He could sense everyone in the island, their strength, and he could evade all of their attacks now. He had mastered the basic observation. Now it was up to him to improve this area himself. Ray said to branch out. He did not need the blindfold any longer. The less observation training made him have more time to focus on his personal training. In the next few months he would collect himself, remember, and replicate the moves those Cypher Paul guys did, starting with that jumping on air skill, as it was perhaps the most useful. He had to train his legs hard to reach that level, but he would accomplish it. In the afternoon after the sparring, Ray would bring a crate of cannonballs he got from the Kuja, and then he would ask Luffy to stand still and not dodge. Then he would throw the cannonball with armament right in Luffy's face. blowing the boy across the clearing. After Luffy stood up, body riddled with injuries and shrapnel. Rayleigh explained this was a training so he could strengthen his own armament, and so that he could use it to block out the damage from the impact by applying armament to different parts of his body with precision, dexterity, and quickness. He should have said that first. He did not even protect himself. Crazy old man. Months passed like this with him mastering the 2 types, then moving to control the 3rd. Now nobody aside from his master could challenge him on this island. No monster or predator. That meant that the day passed with them doing death matches for days on end, so he could train his stamina. XOX. After all this time passed, he noticed something. His body had grown considerably. When asked the reason for it, "I guess your rubber body halted your puberty, making the process go real slow. Now that you have no powers, your metabolism returned to mostly normal. I must say sleeping for only 5 or 6 hours and not getting sick or sluggish is a feat of itself, haha," was Ray's response. His relationship with Ray had also developed much. Luffy did not have much in the way of male role models. He was raised in Fusha village. The mayor was a major stick in the mud and his grandfather was mostly absent. It was no wonder he appreciated Shanks and Ace so much. He looked up to them, and now Rayleigh was one too. He also became close to the Gorgon sisters, now calling them Sonya-chan or Mary-chan. However, he became closest to Hancock. In fact, he started a serious relationship with her. In blunt fashion, he charged into the relationship. After discovering his feelings and Rayleigh giving him the talk and going in excruciating detail about his encounters and his techniques. In the next meeting with Hancock, he immediately asked her to go out with him. In fact, that was the first thing he did after he saw her ship anchoring on the isle. She almost had a heart attack. Suffice to say, she was even more devoted to Luffy than before. But now after their relationship started, she started losing her fawning tendencies. Though she still had her moments and her antics, but she was now much more comfortable around him. And before long a year passed. XOX. B world. His dreams often came in form of memories from his early life, the disaster of the Grey Terminal, his promise with Ace. However, this time it turned bad. His memories from the war haunted him from time to time. It was rare and unwelcome. He remembered the hell he passed through and fell down, how much pain he felt after being poisoned. He remembered falling down on the war and causing chaos. He remembered the wall raising all around him, the shower of molten rock, his face-off and defeat at the hand of the 3 admirals, his unwilling face-off against his grandpa, him freeing Ace, a feeling of hope. Then it cut right to where his brother was pierced by a hand of molten magma. Could you tell everyone later? For everyone, Pops, and you, Luffy. Thank you for loving a good-for-nothing like me, and has bad blood running through his veins like me. Up until today. Thank you. Luffy raised himself from his makeshift blanket. His hand crushed the earth and made some terrible cracks from all around them. Sweat riddled his body as he breathed hard. He did not have a shirt anymore. His last one suffered a crushing defeat after many cannons to the face. The muscular lean body was slightly raised as he sat one hand on his knees. People remember the saying, puberty hits like a train. However, to Luffy it hit like a moon. He was scrawny 5'6" the year before. Now a year after, he was standing at 6'4". He was very muscular, easily showing off his 8-pack. His hair had not grown much, but his bangs and side bangs had grown longer. He actually had Hancock cut his hair herself. He argued that she knew what haircut suited him best. After she cut this way, she kept whispering about how he was pretty boy. He didn't really get it, but if she liked it, then it was good. His face was now linear, with a strong jawline and high cheekbones. His eyes were now more narrow, and his silver eyes were even more expressive. On his chest was the exposed scar. It was a cross. It was not a huge one, however. At the beginning of the training it was pretty big. Rayleigh taught him a bit of biology. He knew now that scar tissue does not grow. So while his body grew, the scar didn't, giving the impression that it was smaller than before. XOX. A bad dream. Yeah, pretty bad. You are all sweaty. Ray passed a barrel of water. Here, drink this. Luffy chugged down the barrel in one fell swoop. A little bit of water ran down his jaw, but he did not care. He stomped the barrel on the ground. Now he was in a sitting position. Are you calmer now? Luffy smiled. Yeah, in these moments I wonder what they are doing right now. He started reminiscing about them. About your friends. Zoro. He started smiling. I have my own ambition. To be the world's greatest swordsman. I will never lose again. Until the day I defeat him and become a master swordsman. I'll never be defeated. Got any problems with that? King of the pirates. Usopp. I am captain of the Usopp pirates. And a brave warrior of the sea. I won't let you lay a finger on the village. Get on the ship already. Hey, we're friends now, aren't we? Gah, I get to be the captain, right? Sorry for my stubbornness. I was wrong. I wish to take back my regrets, but I can't do anything. So I beg of you, please just one more time. Let me be your friend. Nami. Her name was uttered with a little more fondness than the others. She went for another stab onto the cursed mark tattooed on her arm. However, a hand stopped her. Luffy, please help me. He put his precious hat on her head, and he screamed to high heavens. Of course I will. Luffy, Nami, you are my friend. He stood on top of Arlong Park as he yelled. Her tears could not stop. Yeah, Sanji, say, do you know the All Blue? He asked with a child's wonder. I'll come along on your journey to become the Pirate King. We both have foolish dreams. In order to achieve my dreams, I'll be the cook of your crew. Sanji, don't catch a cold out there. Owner Zeph, thank you for all the damn things you've done for a shitty brat like me over all of these years. Chopper, even if I don't have any friends, I can still fight. You do have friends. I am your friend. It's true that I want to be a pirate, but I can't become your comrade. Shut up. Let's go. Robin, his caring voice returned. There are too many enemies in my dream. Okay, let's go up. He grabbed her body and the body of the King of Alabasta. Wait, I don't have a reason to live. Please leave me here. Why should I listen to you? I don't have any place to return to. Can I join your crew? Okay. The pirates have waged war on the government. Robin, say you want to live. I want to live. Take me to the sea with you. Frankie, if you want these shitty Speedos back, you'll have to join us. Don't be so cocky. I feel sorry for the ship when it's so great but has no real shipwright on the crew. I suppose I can take care of it for you. Frankie, will take on the role of the shipwright for the crew. I'm taking off for a while. Brooke, gather up all of the crew. It's time to ship out Bink's brew. I'm so happy to hear that Laboon is well and still waiting. My shadow is back and we're out of the demonic sea. It was tough every day. Truthfully, I didn't even see a glimmer of hope, but you know, Luffy-san, I'm so happy to be alive. Can I join your crew? Yes, you can. So easily. He joined. The crew was in shambles as he let a skeleton join. I want to become even stronger and be a man that protects their dreams. I guess your friends are thinking the same thing and biding their time now, but even stronger than you are now. I thought it would take 2 years to get you to an acceptable level for the new world. Now I feel a bit sorry for them. But I can grow even stronger. He said that with a confidence Ray had come to appreciate. The sun will rise soon. Catch some sleep. Tomorrow will be another grueling day. Okay, I'll do just that. He laid down, a tiny blanket over his muscled abdomen. XOX. A giant blue ape jumped higher and higher. He then slammed down to where Luffy was standing. However, no matter how strong the ape was, he could not defeat Luffy. The slam was met with Luffy's hand coated in Haki blocking the attack. The face-off caused the ground Luffy was standing to crack and released a large gust of wind that was heard in the vicinity. He punched the gorilla, making visible ripples across the giant body. A giant monster eagle also dived to attack while the gorilla escaped. However, Luffy dodged the dive by flipping to the back of the animal, and before the bird could fly again, he kicked the air, grabbed the eagle's head and threw the eagle right in the direction of the gorilla. The monster could not dodge it and both the bird and him passed out. He could have easily killed them. However, he didn't because they proved a good workout, and the other was that their meat tasted bad and had a really tough texture. Luffy then dodged a sword strike. He faced off Rayleigh. As both reared themselves to attack each other again, he grinned. Facing off against Ray was a ton of fun. If you disregard the pain and injuries later on, Luffy thought. XOX. On the middle of the sea in a storm, 3 marine warships and a liner were in combat to what appeared to be 3 small boats. They were fast, manned by a trio of pirates each, having a cannon in front. They quickly entered the Marines' territory shooting down, while expertly evading the Marines' shots because of the speed. However, in the distance, Jack, how many minutes have passed since we started attacking? A large man at least 15 feet tall with a commander outfit open showing his hairy chest. He had a green beard and mustache, and he was missing some teeth from his mouth and wore a helmet with horns on both sides, although one was cut short. 8 minutes. A tiny elderly man sitting on his shoulder coughed up a response. He bore a startling resemblance to the first and wore a similar helmet. He also carried a medical stand with drugs on the plastic bag. So slow. It shouldn't take that long to sink 3 warships and a liner. But it took so much trouble for us to recruit those crew members while you were gone. The man grabbed the nuts in his hands. Making up the number is not good enough. Knighton, Garam, Sebastian, show them how it's done. He said that to a tiny old lady, an egg-shaped man, and a huge fishman. I'll give you 1 minute. Yes, I've been itching for a fight. Let's go already. The fishman jumped into the sea, while the man and the woman jumped on his back. They swam forward with incredible speed. What are they? They are sliding on the water. A marine yelled. Even after shooting them, they evaded all attacks. Both the lady and the man jumped towards the deck. The lady started killing all the Marines with her weird martial art. The egg-shaped man with cube-like hair and a cube hammer. I always thought these Marine ships were ugly. Let me renovate it for you guys. Cube break. His power cut cubes into the deck of the ship in the size, sending chunks of it into the sea. The Marines fell into the stormy waters. Don't take too long. The giant fishman with dark glasses screamed as he jumped out of the water, picked up his spiked mace, and crashed straight into the ship, sinking it entirely. Jack stopped the timer on his clock right on time. Bermoro, I knew they could do it. I'll take care of the rest. What? Jack asked in surprise. in 50 seconds. Hey. But the large man did not care. As he jumped towards the 3 remaining ships, when he would lose altitude, he would kick the air like a foothold, accelerating him even further. He landed on the liner. Why, you're B&D World. The Marines cried out. Surprisingly, there was a celestial guardian on board of the liner. World did a mocking noise. He punched the nearest 3 Marines, killing them from the force. 2 captains aimed their rifles, but World stole the weapons. Let me borrow these. He aimed at the 2 warships. More. The 2 bullets shot increased their size exponentially. Their speed was such that it hit both ships without anyone noticing. The power behind the explosion completely disintegrated both. He dropped both rifles. A brave Marine tried to hit him with a scythe, however he grabbed the sharp metal with his hand. The Marine in his shock noticed World's arm had a greenish-black metallic look. What? World chucked the Marine towards the stormy sea. The others shot at him, but he disappeared in a flash above the line. He jumped. Up there. The tiny size of his new scythe weapon became the size of a giant pillar. Its length overshadowed the ship. In the next moment he split the ship in half after swinging it, triggering an explosion, killing everyone there. Even the world noble who foolishly just wanted to explore the world with an armada on his back, not knowing there were suicidal pirates willing to ambush them, and did not care for the admiral deterrent at all. As expected of World, his strength hasn't faded at all. That's for sure, his 3 crewmates remarked. They were longtime friends of World and rejoiced at his return. Back on World's ship, the new contracted mercenaries paled at the overwhelmingly strong new captain that they followed. They were just here because they were contracted with a large sum of money, but killing a celestial dragon for the fun of it, ambushing Navy ships that did not need to be ambushed. It was like the man they were following was out of his head for putting such a target on his back. Overwhelmingly strong. He is crazy. He even blew his own people. World landed on the ship. How was that? Exactly 50 seconds. He smirked. Newcomers, remember this. If you fail to carry my orders, that's what will happen. They fought hard. They were following your orders. Jack complained. World explained that he did not care that his mercenaries tried to do the work. He only cared about fast results. If they couldn't do their specified orders in the time he allocated for them, it was only natural that they would die as compensation, as a warning that he did not like slow comrades in arms. He did not need incompetence in his crew. He did not need people who wouldn't fight for him, and he made this heard to all the fearful new mercenaries. He played with the brown nuts in his hand. If you can't do it, I will kill you with my own hands. He crushed the nuts. I don't need you here if you are not willing to fight and die for me. Just go away. World. Jack yelled his name with a disapproving expression. He is insane. 3 crewmates ran away. However, World wouldn't allow that. He threw the crumbs at their chest, piercing them in a showery mess of gore. Their ribs fell out from their torso, and one undamaged lung fell like a wet rubber ball on the ground as their blood made a pool under them. They kept breathing for a few seconds until they died with fear in their hearts. By the way, I'll kill everyone who runs away, Bororo, he said as he laughed as usual. World. XOX. It was a bright day. It was finally time for her to visit her beloved Luffy. She was a stunning woman reaching the height of 6 foot 3 inches, black smooth as silk hair reaching past her knees and blue sky eyes. She had side bangs cut neatly like a princess. She also had voluminous eyelashes. She wore 2 golden snake earrings, a tight purple dress. She was an extremely curvy woman, having massive J-cup breasts, a round bubble ass that was very firm, a slim waist, coupled with her dress being very form-fitting, even showing the outline of her belly button. And this time her dress was made of leather with some intricate Kuja designs, and also having a cut made a little higher than her hips with a yellow bow tie that showed her long, smooth, creamy white legs and a bit of her V-line. There are no undergarments to be seen. That meant she liked to go commando as most of the Kujas in the island went. Truly it was a wonder that dress did not show her privates. This was the most beautiful woman in the world. Any female or male gazing upon her would be entranced by her appearance. It's almost time to visit our beloved. What should we get him? Yes, next week is winter season. Temperatures should reach below -70 degrees. We can't let him pass the cold without proper clothing. Yes, perhaps more food. He has such a big appetite. We should make him something on the ship so it's still hot. What else? She started walking in circles on the throne room, all the while fussing over her beloved. Stop obsessing over Luffy, princess. Speaking from my many experiences with men, they don't like fussy women like yourself, and you are a warlord. How can you be so infado? Gloriosa was interrupted by a stiletto heel right on her head. The snake princess started grinding her foot down, showing her under thighs and a peek into her round ass. You are trying to interrupt our relationship with our beloved Luffy. Unforgivable. Many experiences with men. Don't kid yourself. Luffy is not and never will be a normal man. Your experiences pale in comparison to what my beloved can provide. Stop getting on my back at once, Gloriosa, all the while releasing her Supreme King's aura. Her dominance was felt miles off the island while her eyes were cold. The snake princess is mad. Her servants were anxious, while the sisters were breaking a sweat. She stopped releasing her aura. Even then, Gloriosa, you know Luffy is the Pirate King. In fact, that throne has his name written already. It is but a matter of when. A king will need its queen at his side, don't you think? She did a cute pose and everyone, even Gloriosa, forgave her. After the winter, spring will arrive. Prepare spring form-fitting clothes for him too. The servant quickly wrote it down. Luffy finally showed men's fashion sense to the island of women, so no more clothes with frills and other girly stuff for him. Let's set sail as soon as everything is prepared. Yes, ma'am. Hancock faced her sisters. I know you both are itching to meet Luffy again. Could you please leave today only for me and him? Okay. They were saddened as they could not speak with Luffy, but they knew that Hancock wanted some time alone with Luffy. Gloriosa had woken up from the Pirate Empress attack. She looked out the window, and after a few moments, a bat carrying a message came. Gloriosa picked up the message. It's from the world government W. What? This is Big Princess. The world government is summoning. Gloriosa looked around, but the Pirate Empress was nowhere to be found. She and her crew had already left the building, a servant told the old lady. Gloriosa face-palmed. That irresponsible attitude is going to give her a heart attack sooner than later. XOX. A cannon soared through the sky. Its size was huge, perhaps the size of a tall building. After a moment it impacted on an island, blowing it up in a huge explosion. The culprit was a giant island-like ship. Baroro. I can't believe you built this thing, Garam. World praised the artificer and shipbuilder of the crew with a smile of satisfaction. No way. With just a single shot, it destroyed the island. The mercenaries that remained remarked on the destructive power of the new cannon. It was world-ending. Now they finally understood the moniker their captain had from the world government. The feared world destroyer with the power ought exponentially increase whatever he wanted. Well, it was nothing. I trusted you'd be returning for 30 years. The egg-shaped man declared. This was Garam. He had twin cube-shaped twin tails while the rest was bald. He had a blue-white sailor shirt with a red collar, and he had blue jean shorts with big suspenders. He was also carrying a huge cubic hammer on his back. So did we. Sebastian and I put all our efforts into gathering materials for the ship. So don't try to take all the credit, the old tiny woman retorted, with ugly makeup and round glasses. A pink dress with breasts that sagged from her age and a white lab coat responded. She was night. She's right. A huge 25-foot-tall merman with dark blue skin, purple lips, and sunglasses, with a wine no-sleeved shirt and dark blue leather pants spoke. He was Sebastian, a crossbreed of a merman and a giant. What did you say? Garam started looking at them. Baroro, stop fighting. I thank you all. The three grinned. A happy but uneasy expression came to their faces. The ship we've dreamt about 30 years ago. We finally got it in our hands. And this giant cannon. He looked at the monumental cannon in front of the ship. The barrel is already big, but with my power over exponentials I can increase its destructive capabilities by magnitudes of power. With this we will blow up Miraculous as well as a giant chunk of the Red Line for good measure. With this we will be able to destroy the seat of power for the government and get our ultimate revenge. All preparations are complete. Now it's showtime. World, I don't think we can carry out the plan so easily. The frail old man Bayajak said. Why? Because of the attack last night. The world now knows that we are back in action, that the former great pirate Bindy world is back again. I wanted to do that. It's not a big deal. But now they are looking for us to attack. They even summoned the 7 warlords to deal with us. Is that true? The trio was stunned. The 7 warlords? What in the hell is that? The man who lived in a prison for the last 30 years asked the informed Bayajak. The old frail man answered that they were pirates whose actions were sanctioned by the government. Their bounties frozen, and in return they would act in accordance to the government when called upon. They were called as attack dogs because they were on a leash. However, you shouldn't underestimate them. Almost all of them are fairly formidable. And my information gathering is perfect without question. They were summoned just this morning, and they'll gather in the Marine HQ within a few days. I don't think this plan of yours is gonna work out. Wait a moment, you said they were just called this morning. Then we take advantage of this. Bayajak, which government dog is the closest? XOX. The training continued on the island of Ruskana. On the day of the visits, Ray would rest. He preferred meditation on one of the mountains. It always calmed him, and he wouldn't be bothered or want to leave his post for the rest of the day. The rest of the Kuja pirates stayed near the beach. On another part of the island, Luffy and Hancock were alone. The full moon had risen from the horizon. Luffy leaned in, touching his forehead with hers. He looked right into her eyes as he touched her neck. Thank you, Hancock. For what? For everything. Can you wait here? I'd like to give you a present. Luffy grinned. Yeah. Luffy walked calmly through the woods. A few weeks back he spotted a clearing with a flower bed. It had some amazing flowers. However, there was one type that was stunning. It was a white 4-petal flower that glowed. However, in the middle of his walk, he noticed a disturbance near the Kuja ship. He rushed to them at high speeds, his observation taking over so that he would not hit any obstacle. Finally, he arrived on the coast, where he witnessed a tall old man. He was menacing and had a crazy look in his eyes. Tell your empress, if she wants to have her little sisters back, she needs to follow this Vivre card before the break after tomorrow. World dropped a piece of paper by some fallen Kuja warriors. Luffy noticed all of Hancock's crew were down for the count, but nobody was dead yet. World picked up both Gorgon sisters and was ready to leave when a Haki-infused punch impacted on his face. He coated his face just in time to avoid major damage. But even then, World got thrown several feet. However, his hold over the sisters would not be broken. He flipped midair and jumped away from the island in a maneuver that took advantage from the punch. Both sisters were under one arm. Wait, you bastard. Luffy, who punched him, was hot in pursuit, also jumping in the air. World spit blood. The punch was hard. However, the fight was over. He threw a pebble at Luffy. Luffy stopped and put his hand in front. That tiny pebble flew to him unbelievably fast. It had Haki on it. He had a bad feeling about it and the fears were confirmed. A split second before he tried to catch it, the tiny pebble expanded 100-fold. It became a giant boulder, not akin to those he used to train. However, when his hands clutched at the weight and power behind it was unbelievable. In fact, the giant stone pushed him back into the island with great velocity above hypersonic speeds. He was dragged several hundred meters deep into the forest. His legs were knee-deep in the ground as if sunken on sand, while his fingers were piercing the Haki boulder, and finally he stopped. His fingers clutched the stone as cracks appeared on it. He dropped the stone on the floor. It started making a crater because of its weight. Unbelievable. How in the hell did he make that stone so powerful and heavy? It was at this moment two people approached him. It was Rayleigh and Hancock. Luffy-kun, are you all right? Luffy, what happened? We have a huge problem. Let's go to the coast. I'll try to explain on the way. XOX. What was that, kid? World asked mid-flight as they flied away from the island towards their ship with the Gorgon sisters as his prized prisoners. I don't know, but somehow I've seen his face before. Where? Jack thought out loud while hanging on World's shoulders. XOX. However, it seems this World has some business with us. Boa spoke about the new threat and how he had kidnapped her sisters. Are you going after him? Gloriosa asked. Her eyes were on the Vivre card on the princess' hand. Yes, he has taken Mary and Sonya. But if the stories are true about this guy, even if it's you. No, it's too dangerous, princess. This guy was called the World Destroyer for a reason. Don't worry, old lady, I'll accompany her. Don't worry, go make some tea or something. Luffy spoke. His words brought some laughs from his companions as Gloriosa tried to jump him with shark teeth. Luffy, didn't you promise that you were going to train here for 2 years? Of course, I remember it. That guy is strong. But I haven't lost yet, Ray. In these past few months I got close to Mary-chan and Sonya-chan. I can't stand around here doing nothing. Luffy, Ray, please let us take him with us, Hancock implored. She wanted to have this. She wanted her man to blow away her fears and anxiety while her sisters were kidnapped. She wanted her lover close to her. Luffy petted her head. He was now 3 inches taller than her. Rayleigh sighed. No matter what I say, you won't change your mind, huh? Then come victorious at all costs. Of course, confidence exuded out of the son of dragon. However, you need to be careful. You are under the radar, but there are people still looking for you. You've changed a lot, but there are still many recognizable features like the scar below the eyes. Don't cause much commotion. Luffy nodded. XOX. On one of the meeting rooms back in Marineford, there was a severe discussion going on the premises. But this guy is like a mad dog. He kills world nobles, pirates, marines, and civilians alike without care. Kizaru pointed to an article saying about an island disappearing. He did this too. That's what the government thinks. They've decided to summon the warlords after the Noble case. They've sent the carrier bats 3 days ago, without even telling us. Sakazuki growled. It was necessary. Suru-san, Kizaru greeted her. By summoning them, not only they would prepare for his attack, but to also prevent dissenters from joining World. I think that's how you should look at it. 30 years ago, he held the title of World Destroyer. The government did what they did because they see him as a threat. Suru would then tell the story of how the Marines took him down, with the might of the fleet plus a giant pirate alliance. Even then, this great alliance was eventually cornered. But the battle turned around because of what Cypher Paul did. The world pirates were defeated. Both Gloriosa on the ship with Luffy and Hancock and Zoro in Marineford told the same story that they remembered. Sengoku-san told me there were some prisoners that escaped level 6 on Impel Down that did not join Blackbeard. World is on that list. He is the last person you want out of prison. On top of it, we are relocating and making transitions. The worst timing. Suru spoke. He ate the fruit of more. He can amplify him or things around him exponentially. The things he can amplify vary, but he mainly uses velocity, weight, power, acceleration. Last time recorded, he can exponentially increase something by more than 100-fold. Destroyer of the world indeed. Based on the reports, he is somewhere in this area. Prepare the warships, Sakazuki ordered. XOX. On the morning, World and Jack was opposed to World's plan. using the Empress as a shield. Originally, this ship was for their freedom, not to destroy things. However, World argued that it was the government who was taking away the freedom of the people, that what he was doing was right, and that even if he was his older brother, he would not show mercy towards those who disobeyed him. World, the Cujas ship has been sighted. Garam spoke through the transponder snail. Here they've come. Let's go, big brother. World smirked. XOX. This is where the card has been leading us. Luffy now wore new clothes. It was a red tank top with a hoodie hiding his face and gray shorts. He did not wear any footwear. Hancock, below us. Do you feel? Now that you've pointed out. The giant island ship rose from the sea. The force made Luffy grab Hancock's waist, lest she fall. World was on the highest point of the island. Thank you for coming all this way, Empress. Your sisters are here. He opened a part of the ship showing both in a cage. Big sister, big sis, I'm sorry. Sonya, Mary. Luffy glared at World. That kid is here too, World. He is a tough guy, that's for sure. If you want to rescue them, come on board. We welcome you anytime. Some cannons started aiming for their ships. What welcome, evasive maneuvers. As the ship dodged the cannons. Hancock, we need to approach the shore. We know. Do they think they can get away? A wall of cannons moved to aim at the ship. However, Luffy anticipated it, throwing bullets with his hands coated with haki, completely destroying part of the ship. Bermoro, oi, give me some bullets too. Just like last time, they've expanded to the size of a cannonball. However, while not as big, it was even faster than that pebble. Luffy noticed and jumped in their way. He did a flurry of punches, detonating all of them mid-air. He flipped and jumped back using the air to avoid the powerful explosions. Bermoro, he is definitely strong. Hey, Pirate Empress, if you want to live, then come with them quietly. He pointed at his foot soldiers. They were carrying weapons and one even had a sea stone cuff. Nah, men, just kill her already. World then gave a complete opposite order, showing his own insanity. I thought we would use her as a hostage. Jack, his older brother sitting on his shoulder, retorted. We can just nail her body on the front of the ship. It will work either way. Kill her. Both Luffy and Hancock took offense to his words. Immediately jumping to the deck of the ship island, she immediately started attacking. She mainly used her legs. Every time she touched their flesh, the area would immediately turn into stone, and since she hit their heads or their neck, it would petrify everything above their leg. Moreover, the force of her kicks would immediately crush the stone. It was no different from getting decapitated, really. In contrast, Luffy's attacks were bloodier. His punches and kicks would cave their skulls, chest, and even the abdomen, destroying their internal organs. Salem, the snake, also nimbly bit everyone that got in her way. Her venom was very potent, killing them in a few minutes. It wasn't long before all his crew were dead. That's it, our beloved Luffy. Hancock started swooning over Luffy's strength. What a useless bunch. I guess she wants to be killed by me. There is no need for you to fight. I can do it. A man behind the transponder snail voiced his suggestion towards his captain. Sebastian, I'll give you 5 minutes. No, 2 minutes is enough. Sebastian boasted through the transporter snail to World's immense joy. Luffy, I've heard this name before, and that face. Jack mumbled. World then disappeared inside of the ship with his older brother in tow. Did you hear, Hancock? He said only 2 minutes for both of us. She chuckled in mirth at how far the enemy had underestimated both of them. They were rightful monsters that wouldn't be stopped by mere boasting. Either of them could destroy the whole crew and be done with it. However, they did this couple's adventure together just for fun and companionship in each other. Great water shot. A tunnel of water shot through. The couple easily dodged it. Sebastian, the giant merman, arrived. You want you to see our capt. Let me lead you. To hell. Luffy's lips formed a straight line. He was not impressed. He smacked Luffy with his iron-spiked mace. However, Luffy stopped it with one hand covered in haki. Sebastian had used the same force that sank an entire warship. Yet it had no effect. That's what Sebastian felt. As he was blind, he relied on his observation to see. Hancock, let's play with this guy a bit. For the next 2 minutes, Sebastian was tossed around like a pinball by Hancock and Luffy. While their blows were not meant to kill, they hurt like hell. The merman giant couldn't do anything. It was frustrating. After what it felt like forever. Time is up. 2 minutes passed, you boastful bastard. Luffy called. Hancock jumped and kicked the fishman's abdomen, turning his entire body into stone. Her kick also cracked his chest a bit. She dropped to the ground, as Luffy followed up directly behind her with a haki-infused punch. His black arm crashed on the stone, sending it flying while it broke and disintegrated into chunks from the force. The largest piece was sent surfing in the water for miles away. The other pieces scattered all over the vicinity. He fell to the ground, his naked feet stomping it due to his weight, forming tiny cracks into the floor. Boa right behind him as she caressed her hair. And while the fight was happening in the distance, some familiar faces were watching from a distance. XOX, is that an isle? No, that's a big ship. No way. And someone is there fighting like crazy. The crewmates on the new ship started bumping into each other to see the fight better. Get out of the way, men. Is someone fighting? This is the day where I, Sir Buggy, make my debut as a warlord. Who is fighting who? Buggy spoke. That Jolly Roger is the world pirates. The reason why the warlords were summoned, Mr. 3 said surprised. What? And no way. That's too much of a coincidence. He picked the binoculars and saw the flag. What a coincidence, he shouted in surprise. On top of that giant Fishman is getting beaten down by Straw Hat Luffy and the pirate Empress Hancock, Mr. 3 commented. There was no way he'd mistake the Straw Hat. Straw Hat, the crew hollered in surprise. What is he doing here? Captain Bug, this is your chance since our jailbreak friend is here, Straw Hat, and your fellow warlord is here. We can bring down World and take him as a present to the Goft. It will bring your name even more glory. You'll be famous, one of the crewmates commented. Famous? It's not going to be so easy, Mr. 3 remarked. Wait, I don't care what reasons Straw Hat is here to fight World, but the Navy is still looking for him. He can't stay long, so after they defeat World I can take all the credit. It's a big chance. Yahaha. Wait, but we don't know if Straw Hat will win. Then men, inform the Marines that the buggy pirates are fighting World now. Inform them of the coordinates as well. What are you up to? Well, if they hear that a warlord of my caliber and World are having a war, they'll send out admirals here. I see. If Luffy does not win, we can let the Marines do the rest. Yes, fortunately, Marineford is close. They'll come in no time. Straw Hat, fight well to my credit. Yahaha. It was at this time that they saw the broken stone body of the merman flying off. That was their intelligent reaction. Mr. 3 and Buggy sat there stunned. XOX. It seems we've formed a peanut gallery, Luffy said. He referred to Buggy and his crew, and Mihawk, who was also nearby. Can I defeat that man? Hancock asked. Mihawk, you have an overwhelming advantage against weapon users. It all depends on the strength of your armament. Will you turn his weapon into stone, or will he cut your skin? I don't know. Anyways, let's go. Oh, okay, my beloved. Useless piece of trash, World commented as he saw what happened on the screen. He wondered what the hell happened in the 30 years he'd been locked up. His crew, what the hell were they doing in that time span? They were not pieces of trash that would be defeated by a mere attack dog form the government, were they? Garam, lead me to them. He spoke to the transponder snail. Okay. World grabbed his brother and threw him to the ground. Be useful and watch the hostages or something. World. The frail old man managed to get on his knees. Both Luffy and Hancock rushed to the entrance. I feel something below, Luffy called as a cubic hole appeared under them. The couple parked down into the depths of the ship. It was a maze riddled with cubes of granite. XOX. Back on Buggy's ship. Wait, what is he doing here? Buggy and Mr. 3 spotted a boat to the side. On it was a pink-haired girl and Mihawk. Wait, why is he here? Maybe he was summoned by the government. Wait, is he here to take my credit? Then the plan will be a failure. We need to leave some marks. We can't just wait and watch. I see, guys. It is now time to attack. We've got some strong backup now. Yes, Captain Buggy. While they were reading their attack on the other ship, the small raft of Mihawk, 2 members were there just for their viewing pleasure of the events happening here. That boy, he's changed, Perona remarked. Perhaps. But it's more of a change of perspective than anything. Perhaps his sudden willingness to kill scares you. He focused his eyes on her. Those eyes, while pretty, they looked right on your soul. That feeling always left her a bit creeped out. Ugh. And Zoro has changed as well, you should know. Yes, she knew. That idiot had steeled his resolve and had grown stronger the past few months. He already had a good grasp of haki and his swordsmanship had become something to behold. However, his strength, while great, paled a bit when seeing his captain up close. XOX. This looks like a maze, Hancock noted. Then let's focus on your sister's presence. Having said that, Luffy and Hancock rushed towards a single direction. It wasn't long before they reached a circular hall with many exits. Hancock rushed towards one exit, Luffy right behind her. However, he the exit while he flicked back, just in time as a huge block crashed down, blocking that exit with World on top. Luffy, are you all right? Hancock raised her voice as she was worried. However, she was happy he saved her. Yes, go on ahead, I'll find another way. Hancock decided to leave this fight in Luffy's hand and went on her way. World arrived. Baroro, I can't believe that both of you survived that. You are a tough guy, that's for sure. World, I believe I've heard of the name Monkey D. Luffy before. He is a guy who brought chaos to the war between Whiteheads and the Marines, all to save his brother Ace from execution. He is a formidable opponent, be careful. Jack told him that by the transponder snail. I see. And, did you save your brother, or did you fail? Luffy glared at him. No, Baroro, well, here I go. He coated his entire body with his greenish-black haki and increased his speed 100-fold. At that moment, Luffy could only see his fist approaching his face. He could not comprehend the speed he was witnessing. He only had a moment to block with his 2 haki arms. He was launched to the next room. The wall of granite broke into pieces as Luffy managed to land on his feet. This was ridiculous. This guy was as fast as Kizaru and hit as hard as his grandfather. Well, it was understandable. His base form was fast as hell and he was very strong. He also had a great understanding of Haki. Exponentially rising his speed by 100 was ludicrous. His arms were in a cross position. Steam was rising from the area ahead. However, Luffy wasn't the only one affected. World coughed blood as he couched a punch mark in his stomach. Bastard, you'll pay for that. World yelled at him. He teleported behind Luffy. He punched him again, sending him to the dealing. However, Luffy blocked the damage again with his arms. He continued teleporting behind him, trying to get under his guard. To an outside viewer, Luffy's body was flying all around the room as World hit him. The World Destroyer boosted his strength to 100-fold. As they fought, Luffy kept talking to him and World kept getting angrier and angrier at Luffy, the man who busted Impel down and made his escape possible in the first place. You can't save anybody, Monkey D. Luffy. Not your brother and not those sisters. He punched again, only this time he sent Luffy flying as his guard finally broke. Luffy crashed, punching a hole through the floor. As his body fell down to the sea, splash sounds were heard down below. You can't save anyone. Now for that Empress. World left. He was walking in a corridor. Garp's grandson. XOX. Garp, Sengoku, I'm disappointed in you. His voice boomed as he stood against thousands of marine and pirate ships alike. The Marines formed an alliance with those who held grudges against him. Bastard, running his mouth. Let me go, Sengoku, I can beat his ass one-on-one. Garp, perhaps he is right. Garp clicked his tongue. After hours and hours of battle, the alliance was on the ropes. They couldn't deal significant damage to the world pirates. Most of the pirates had fled or were now corpses on the bottom of the sea. Few warships survived. We're backed into a corner, Garp. He broke into a cold sweat. We need to do something, Sengoku, Garp said. Don't worry, the tide of battle will turn soon. A man in a black suit with a black fedora spoke. Cypher Paul. Sengoku cried the name out. What are you people doing here? Suddenly World's warship stopped firing. What's going on? Why? Why did they stop firing? Both World and Bayajack looked around surprised. Until hundreds of gunshots behind him, the pain in his stomach, he couldn't bear it. He knelt down on the floor. As blood started flooding out of his body, hundreds of wounds were on his lower body. He realized he had been betrayed, attacks that could easily be dodged. However, they may be, but he could not fathom they would come from whom he trusted the most, his comrades. What are you guys doing? Knighton was shocked. Are you insane? Sebastian raged. Why would you do such a thing? Garam yelled. It World. Bayajack, who fell from his shoulders, screamed with worry. World clutched his stomach, the splinters inside of him digging in his organs. I thought we were comrades. World started shedding tears. Even if we win here, we can't keep fighting the government forever. One crewmate yelled. We can't follow you anymore. World Sen one whispered, but it was heard by everybody. The crew took aim again. Who told you that? Knighton screamed. Were you bought by the government? Garam raged. It's not just us. They've told you we're in it too. One crewmate argued. World screamed. His eyes widened out as he jumped his own crew, slaughtering each and every last of them, only leaving his elder brother, Sebastian, Knighton, and Garam alive. Every time he battled, his wounds opened more. The whole deck itself had various spots of blood. And finally he crushed the last of them. He couldn't think straight anymore. He had lost too much blood. While this was happening, the unmanned ship became a sitting duck. It wasn't long before it was irreparably damaged. Strong as always. How can you move with these wounds, World? The same Cypher Paul agent mocked the kneeling man. World Destroyer and one of the strongest criminals was finally on the mercy of the government. He couldn't contain his glee, and neither could his comrades. You guys, you are Cypher Paul. Bayajack cried out. What the hell is that? He was delirious at this point. An intelligence agency from the government. Yubastar. He saw the agent coming with his finger stretched. Armament Haki coated on it. It was an easy and predictable attack and as easy to defend. However, World's body would not respond to him. The finger pierced his chest. It was the final strike. He fell face first into the ground. World, Sebastian, Knighton, and Garam screamed. World, Bayajack lamented. He started running off the ship. Stop, don't let him get away. Sebastian, Knighton, and Garam. Everybody run. Bayajack, what are you saying? He murmured on the ground as his tears streamed from his face and formed a cold puddle around his face. The blood also formed a warm pool around his body. His own elder brother was leaving him here for dead. What about World? I know, but we are all going to die for nothing if we stay. I'm giving an order as vice captain. Survive. What was he saying? Big brother. Why? World couldn't believe his ears. His brother, his sibling, his blood, his most precious friend, Bayajack was leaving him here to die. Understood. I'm sorry, World. The three crewmates that he most confided in also left. Don't let them get away. Sebastian, please. A scream was heard amidst all of the shots. They've gotten away. The agent screamed. What? They'll die out there in the sea with those injuries, another calmly replied. They've betrayed me, was his last murmur before he passed out from his injuries. XOX. I will never go through that again. He spoke his thoughts as a darkened look came upon his face. A transponder snail rang. Nighton, world. That little empress is heading towards my lab. I can take care of her. I promise I'll bring her body to you, she laughed. What? Don't you believe me? After short minutes with no response, Nighton asked, well, that's promising. I will be with the hostages shortly. After careful consideration, he responded. XOX. Straw Hat was defeated so easy, Buggy remarked while peeking the fight. However, he could not finish that sentence as Luffy jumped from the hole. His body was a little wet as he raised himself from his crouching position. The Buggy pirates noticed a lot of bruises on Luffy's arm, and one big bruise from that strong attack. He was bleeding from the injuries a bit. A sliver of blood ran down his arm, however it was already healing. He dug his fingers on the floor as he flexed all of his muscles. The floor cracked as splinters started rising from the floor. A black and reddish aura surged as black sparks shot from him. His conqueror's haki, already so strong that normal people could see a physical representation of it. However, its intent this time was not to knock out anyone. It was a physical representation of his rage. World, he yelled. XOX. Hancock arrived on a large room full of ingredients and tools made of stainless steel, a laboratory, or a medical room. She did not know which. Who are you? Boa asked. I am Nighton, famous doctor of the world pirates. Boa's eyes glazed as she stopped paying attention. The old woman continued monologuing. Boa even started daydreaming about Luffy while the lady explained how her powers would not work. Hancock took offense to that and used her power over love to unleash heart-shaped waves came out of her hands. However, before they could reach the old woman, she picked up a mortar with some herbs. She grabbed a handful and put it in her mouth. Ass. So bitter, the bitter taste allowed her to resist turning into stone. Hancock repeated the motion 3 times, and all of those times the woman stuffed more and more bitter herbs in her mouth. Hancock did not do this because of frustration or because she thought her ability would work, but because she was terribly amused by the old woman's antics. However, Nighton grew tired and attacked Boa with a cloud of gas. Hancock wasn't worried. She received many bites from Salome during her youth. Poison or venom would not work on her, and acid would not burn her skin as she constantly had a thin layer of armament on her body at full time. The cloud, however, started dissolving her clothes. The holes showed part of her right hip and her tummy, her right underboob, and more holes all over her dress. Now you'll not be able to fight properly because you'll be too embarrassed. However, Hancock jumped to do award-winning flips in the air, then landing on the rail on the 2nd floor of the lab. You insolent wench, you think we need to hide our perfect body? We don't need to hide in shame. In fact, the whole world needs to be forever grateful they could witness even a tiny part of our skin, she said with her extremely looking down pose. She looked down on others so much that she actually looked up. The old lady was just stunned. You think you're God's gift, don't you? Well, can you please do us a favor? Can you shut your mouth and not breathe the same air as us? Please, can you just die there? She said that with the most heavenly cute voice while blushing. The elderly lady had hearts in her eyes as she just focused on her voice, not the contents. However, she shook off her attraction and more of her terrible mixture. Hancock kissed her own delicate index finger. A pink heart shape was formed on the end of her finger. A revolver blast was heard. The heart was fired at a speed which would make even the fastest guns jealous. However, the old lady reacted enough to form a shield out of her mixture combined with a little haki. Our power relies on love, and what they say love is sweet. I guess this old fossil took that literally. Her bitter mixture forms a surprisingly good shield, but she kissed her finger again. However, this time instead of pink it was pure obsidian black with an angry glowing red outline on the little heart. Pistol kiss. It will not work. I will just block it, Aga. The pain swelled in her chest. She looked down. There was a puncture wound. She looked back. The same heart shape was on the floor. All around it was turned into stone. She started getting cold. She could not speak. Soon dizzy and nausea settled in as she fainted. Died. Her heart pierced and turned into stone. It could not pump more blood into her old body. Unbeknownst to the dead Nighton, if someone were to swim and dive on these waters, they would see a heart-shaped tube of stone that was formed, and on the bottom of the sea a heart-shaped crater that went under the crust for an unknown amount of meters. The sea floor around the crater was completely petrified. When measured around, it would be within a 100-kilometer radius. It was unbelievable, and yet she truly turned the sea floor into stone. How's this for armament, Haki? Hancock smiled. She was not to be trifled with, for she was one of the strongest women in the world. Salome, your food. Her giant snake slithered forward, gulping down the old woman's dead body. Back on the control room, the little old man watched with a grim look. First Sebastian, now Nighton as well. Jack's face was white as a sheet, a cold sweat running down his body. He witnessed the snake eating the body from the camera. How cruel can they both be? XOX. Luffy was pissed off. No, he was positively furious. He walked out of the armory encountering the buggy pirates. Where did World go? His aura blasted forward. All of the buggy pirates with Buggy and Mr. 3 stonily pointed towards one of the exits. I see. He rushed forward. That man is still alive. He dropped to the sea. I thought he had a devil fruit, Bayajack said with a grim face back in the control room. Let me handle this. He already fell into my trap, Garam declared through the transponder snail. In the depths of the ship, Luffy was walking towards the room where the sisters were being kept in. However, cubes of various sizes and materials kept trying to get in his way, so he destroyed each and every one with his strong limbs. This continued until he reached a great room made out of wood. There was an engine there. As he scanned it, his eyes finally rested on Garam. World has a mountain of other problems to deal with. He can't be kidding with brats like yourself. I ate the fruit of cubes, making me a coup. I don't care. Luffy rushed towards him. Garam was sufficiently intimidated and cut all chat with the straw hat. Garam hit the ground with his hammer and a giant wall made of cubes raised from the ground. He hit the wall with his hammer. It was cut into smaller cubes as they were launched high speed towards Luffy. However, Luffy shrugged off the attack completely. Even when they hit his body, the cubes were shattered, and in no time, he closed the distance between them. You think these measly stones are going to work against me? He asked Garam point blank. You insolent brat. He attacked Luffy with his iron hammer. However, Luffy stopped the weapon with one hand. He flexed, breaking the weapon into pieces. Why, you? Garam steadied his hands and he tried to pierce forward with his fingers. It was an attack that put his powers over cubes into his fingers, cutting the bodies of enemies into cubes. He rarely used it as it was too gory for his tastes. However, before he could reach Luffy with his fingers, his hand was stopped, or more precisely, his forearm was grabbed by Luffy's own hand. The force was so great that his whole arm to his shoulder was crushed and blood seeped out from the broken skin. As he screamed, Luffy closed in and whispered, You should watch your back. It's a healthy practice for someone who wants to live long in these seas. Well, I guess this advice will be wasted on you, though. As he said the last word, Hancock dropped on Garam's head. His body was crushed into stone as she landed on the ground. Her feet petrified the wooden floor as his remains were all scattered around. Luffy was still holding his fleshy arm that spasmed around, the only remaining part of the man known as Garam. Luffy, you're so cool. She started swooning happily as she was reunited with him. Luffy was happy she was okay. Although her state of clothing was spinning his imagination, well, he had to punish her later, but now is not the time. Hancock, let's go save your sisters. I can feel a marine fleet approaching. They'll soon sink this ship. He ran at high speeds towards Mary and Sonya. Yes, my beloved. As she followed him. XOX. How could this happen, Sebastian? Garam, Knighton, Bayajack whispered. Who let Garam fight? Are you going behind my back, Bayajack? Wait, they fought very hard for you. For me, World asked. Monkey D. Luffy wasn't dead. But we didn't want to cause you any more trouble. Huh, but they were all useless in the end. Is the Empress on her way here? She is, but then I'll take care of the rest. World walked away. World, I'm sorry. After all of this, what are you apologizing for? World, when we were young, this was not our dream. Both brothers started reminiscing about their youth, their dreams of exploring the sea. However, Bayajack was born frail. He couldn't go even if he wanted. His younger brother, however, promised he would take them on an adventure. World and him sailed around the sea as explorers. However, the sea was cruel for the brothers, as they plummeted down into being outlaws. They formed their crew reluctantly after falling into a life of crime they did not want. Yet both brothers were happy they could find friends and comrades who supported them in their need for adventure and freedom. As they sailed the sea, World risen to power. His exploits made his first bounty 200 million berries. Eventually, he was called the world's destroyer. His potential was that great. People eventually feared his younger brother, and yet they still continued their adventure. Honestly, becoming pirates was not planned nor wanted. They truly were good people that did not want to commit crimes but were forced to. They had to live with being targeted. Until Bayajack came with the idea of a submarine ship so they could avoid battles. World came with the idea of a great cannon so they could intimidate their enemies and ward off attacks. However, that tragic moment came before they could build their dream vessel. Don't get me wrong, this ship is just a tool I will use. He descended on an oval room riddled with steel spikes as Bayajack followed disbelievingly. Just like you all were tools, although you four were useless until the end. He glowered at his frail older brother. Don't tell me, you still hold a grudge against us. It has been 30 years. 30 years. You forget I was frozen on that block of ice in the deepest part of Impel Down. To me, I remember that battle like it was yesterday. There's no way I'll forget. The Snake Sisters were in a steel cage above him, but they were our comrades. He screamed. Comrades? I don't need them. They were just tools to me, just like this ship. If you can't follow my orders, then I don't need you. He broke the metal ground, picking some pieces and throwing in the direction of his older brother. However, Luffy intercepted the attack, saving the frail old man's life. Comrades are just tools. Screw you. He coated his arm with Haki and unleashed a devastating punch to World's face. It was so great in power that it raised a strong gust of wind. Bayajack had to hide under the stairs as the wind was so strong. However, World stopped his momentum before he was thrown too far. Hancock arrived at that moment. Luffy, Hancock, take Sonya-chan and Mary-chan out. I still have business with this guy. She nodded, jumped into the air, and kicked the cage, petrifying and breaking it. As the three sisters were leaving the room, World rushed towards them. However, Luffy closed the speed. They locked fists again, causing a boom of air. Luffy, promise that you'll return to the ship alive. Hancock, before leaving, said those words to Luffy. Yeah, Luffy declared. After a few moments, explosions started happening around the ship. World, it's bad the Marines are here. They've brought a whole fleet by, Jack yelled. World smirked. So they've come to me instead. Well, I don't need the Empress anymore. Let me deal with this annoying pest first. Then we'll fire the cannon at them. World, if you do that, you are going to sink the ship. I don't care. At this moment, the ceiling melted. Ake knew. Luffy spoke, seeing the familiar magma. It seemed he was also bombarding the ship. Brat, let's finish this. World used Haki on his whole body and increased his speed and strength 100-fold. Both rushed in the air, meeting their fists, but to Jack they couldn't even be seen, only the hypersonic boom they would unleash each time they met each other. However, why are you so hung up on this? I hear you lost your comrades in Sabayati and lost your brother in the war. You can't protect your friends. You couldn't even protect your brother. They landed, and World started beating on Luffy's body. However, he did no damage as Luffy endured, his Haki winning out. Yes, I couldn't save Ace. However, I still have comrades waiting for me. He closed the distance and he launched World in the air with his kick. Most of his body was a metallic black. I can't lose to a weakling who doesn't value their bonds. Luffy jumped. To protect my friends, as he continually struck World, to become the Pirate King. He kicked World's stomach, throwing him up. He beat World's speed as he joined his arms and crushed World's back, launching him down to the ground. Luffy calmly dropped, his naked feet cracking the metal ground. You made her cry, Luffy whisper carried through. On the night before Luffy was sailing with the Kyujas, he passed by Hancock's room. However, a sob made him stop his stride, because in that room she was clutching her pillow, as tears cascaded down her peerless face. Sonya, Mary. He silently approached. He gave a gentle hug as she started to cry on his broad shoulder. He tenderly caressed her back as he supported her. Her sister's kidnapping brought up ugly memories she wished to forget. While being a slave, she never had to perform sexual acts with her master. While she did not understand early on the fact that he hoarded a large collection of little boys was sick, that monster had a hard-on for boys. She still suffered under his torture fetish, and she was always ordered to perform to his guest. He said she had an interesting power. Even today she still had fear of pain. While the torture did not leave a single blemish outside of her brand, her mental scar remained. Luffy did his best for her to get over it, and she mostly did. However, she feared for her sisters. The fact that this bastard World made her remember it. Luffy would never forgive him. For those reasons, I will kill you. World. Jack started a coughing fit. World climbed out of the crater, huffing and coughing blood. He had horrible bruises on his body. This guy, he continues to grow stronger while we fight. He murmured as he counted the bones broken in his body. He doubled the speed and strength of his body again with the power over exponentials. There was nothing more to be said between Luffy and World. The more parallels they had, the more different their opinions became. They would be enemies no matter what. Both closed the spaces and met in the middle and started a barrage of punches. After a while, World was pushed back. Luffy's metallic arms became an angry glowing red. World rushed again. He put all his strength on his last attack. Luffy also reared his arm. However, the angry red disappeared, revealing a black hand with red glowing lines. At the end, instead of fingers, he had claws. His arm became intricately designed. What is that? Is it armament Haki? Or World's last murmurs as he was launched until he reached the spiked wall. Luffy was huffing under him, his hand stretched out, piercing his sternum. He could not utter a word. The spikes also pierced his lungs, spine, and stomach. World finally died from shock. World, Jack screamed while crying. He stumbled across, foregoing the needle in his arm connected to his medicine. The wound on his vein started bleeding, but he did not care. His tears could not stop as he rushed towards his brother. He reached him as Luffy pulled out his arm from his younger brother's body. After a while, after his shock left and he screamed and cried. The older brother cried over his younger brother's death. His cries were muffled by the sounds of explosions nearby. However, Luffy heard them quite clearly. After a while, he stopped screaming. A gun aimed at Luffy. He shot, and shot again. However, Luffy caught every single one with his hand. I can't die here, old man. I made a promise to Hancock and Rayleigh. And yet Jack continued to shoot until his barrel emptied. Only clicks were heard as he continued to pull the trigger. Luffy's eyes deeply searched the old man and he only felt pity. He pulled his hoodie to hide his face. He then slowly walked away. The room they were in started tearing down from the constant bombardment. It opened a hole that leads directly to the cannon. Jack, the pitiful old frail man dropped his gun and stumbled towards it. Big brother, they've kidnapped you. There is no way the world pirates are going to let that slide. World raised Jack and put him in his shoulder as they smiled to each other, full of brotherly affection and loyalty to each other. Jack reached the control of the cannon and unveiled it. Listen, we are the B brothers. Anyone who has a problem step toward I will kick your ass, Baroro. A young World declared right in the middle of a bar as he clutched his frail older brother who was constantly being bullied closer to him. World wouldn't let them talk shit to his older brother. He aimed the cannon and shot a huge cannon shell at the Marine fleet. Can you see? The world is so large, World. You can't stay cooped up here in this tiny island. You've got to sail and discover new adventures. Jack told his little brother. Both brothers were in the coast seeing the blue horizon. Yes, but what about you, big brother? I have been this way since I was born. I can't go with you. He pointed to his emaciated, frail body. Don't worry, big brother. I'll take you with me. We'll see the world together. We're going to explore all this wide sea and seek the highest freedom, big brother. Don't worry, I'll become strong in your stead. World stated with a megawatt grin on his youthful face. But, don't worry, I'll protect you with my life. I promise, big brother. We'll see the end of this wide world with our own eyes. This is a promise of a lifetime. World. Jack started to cry. Hey, don't cry. We are brothers, aren't we? Brothers always love each other, don't they? World reached his hands and grabbed his brothers as they both started laughing and tears falling from their face. World. Jack watched the huge shell fly in the sky be bisected by a swordsman with a black coat and a golden cross in his chest. Where did we go wrong? As he was falling to the ground, a large gash in his torso as chunks of the giant cannon was cut. His chest was bleeding fiercely. He would soon die and meet his brother again in the afterlife. Perhaps after all of this, we can start another adventure, somewhere else, just the two of us. We're brothers, aren't we? Brothers always love each other, don't they? Even after all this time he remembered his brother's speech. These were his last murmurs as he passed away with the face of a grieving man. The bombardment continued as a giant meteor of magma hit Jack's dead body, burning it to ashes along with World and the 3 loyal crewmates who tried their hardest to make up for the betray 30 years ago. XOX. The ship after some time exploded. Hancock in the ship cried Luffy's name, her body white as a ghost, as she trembled with fear for her beloved. However, she immediately glowed with happiness as Luffy jumped from the smoke cloud. However, he was holding a devil fruit in his hand. It was a greenish blackberry with never-ending swirls. Luffy. She immediately gave him a bone-breaking hug. He returned at full force as she cried tears of happiness. Her clothing was torn, showing her taut stomach with her cute belly button. Her hips were teasing his mind as it revealed part of her ass and almost reveals her most sacred place. Her left underboob was also on display as he felt her softness on his hard chest. Her right shoulder sleeve was cut, showing off her cleavage, and to his point of view he could also see her pink pert nipples. Luffy, thank you for coming here with us to save both my sisters. She melded in his strong arms. Her soft voice gave him shivers. Well, if you want to thank me, I can think of a few ways, he said with a husky voice as he licked her cute ear. She blushed up a storm. The ship left the location, avoiding the fleet entirely. The buggy pirates made a hasty retreat as well when they started the bombardment. After all of this, what did you come here for? Perona asked. Nihawk just chuckled to himself. After a while of him not responding, she pouted and looked away as they sailed to their home. XOX. The woman pirates were all partying. They've rescued both Snake sisters. However, during the party it was noted that Hancock and Luffy were sitting very close to each other. In fact, their warm bodies were touching each other. After a battle, high came to a lot of lists, and both had plenty to spend. They were both conquerors. Their base desires were significantly amplified. After Luffy ate his large fill, he whispered to Hancock to lead them to their quarters, all the while groping her bubble butt. She meekly nodded. 2 months after the confrontation between World and Monkey D. Luffy, many things have happened. However, Luffy-kun, I've taught everything I could. There is nothing more to teach you. What will you do now? Rayleigh observed his student as he played with 2 devil fruits in his hand. HRM. Luffy was observing the fruit he got 2 months back from World's island ship. He found it in their forest when he was fleeing. It was strange. The blood of World splashed on a normal berry and it suddenly transformed into a devil fruit with the powers of the late World, no doubt. I've already told you. The fruit always reforms after the user dies. In fact, we found the fruit rubber in Amazon Lily. It's in their treasury now, if you just ask Hancock. I don't want it. I ate it by accident in the first. It felt like I stole it from Shank's crew, and Rubber Man Luffy, poor innocent Luffy, could not protect his comrades back in Sabayati. It's time for a rebirth, Luffy declared. I see. Rayleigh eyed the other fruit in Luffy's right hand. It was a blood-red apple. It had reddish-black lightning bolts and a white glowing circle around it. Rayleigh felt like it possessed a power that was outwardly. It didn't appear in any catalog made by Vegapunk, while the other was the fruit of more. one of the strongest paramecia types, one capable of destroying the world. An exponential rise in one's body and abilities was ludicrous to think. World was unimaginative with it. He could have done much more. Luffy found the blood-red fruit while exploring the ruins. He claimed to have found an entrance to the ruins of an entire underground civilization. It spanned largely below the Calm Belt Sea. He spent much time exploring it, finding what looked like a large treasury. However, it was empty. Only a pedestal holding this particular fruit. Luffy-kun Rayleigh grabbed his back. I'll be going now back to Sayabandi. Remember, Haki opens up 3 different paths, each path branching out. You'll definitely find people in the new world with unbelievable Haki powers. But it doesn't mean you can't achieve the same, like I said to you before. You'll only grow stronger now if you fight people stronger than you. He started to leave. Huh, you don't want to stay and see which fruit I eat? Haha, I prefer to be surprised. And I can't train your devil fruit powers as I've never eaten one before, so I wouldn't know. Goodbye, my son, he whispered his last words. In 1 year, Luffy came to see Rayleigh as a father. While he also viewed Shanks as such in his early days, he only spent a couple of months in Fuchsia Village, not enough to form a great bond that he had with Rayleigh. Goodbye, Ray, Luffy yelled, grinning. XOX. It was midnight. The moon was a bloody crimson. He looked at both fruits, his mind thinking overtime as the campfire clicked. The blood-red one seems to hold something really strong, while the fruit of more one is a great boost to everything I've learned. He thought of Blackbeard. Luffy wouldn't be outdone. Well, who dares wins. He stuffed both of them in his mouth and swallowed them in one go. On an island in the Calm Belt Sea, Ruskana. Luffy-sama, Margaret shouted. Yeah, I'll be there shortly. He approached the white tree. His straw hat had been waiting for almost 2 years. Luffy's growth had finally hit the brakes. After 2 years, he was 6'8" tall and had a muscular, lean body. He was wearing a wine-colored shirt that was a bit long for his torso. It had white fur for his collar and sleeves that ended in his shoulder. The shirt was open, revealing his muscular torso. And he wore his usual jeans that ended in his knees. However, unusually, he did not wear any footwear and loved to feel the texture of the grounds whenever he went. His scar on his chest became noticeably smaller, and he still had the same scar below his eyes. However, if one would look at the rest of his body, they would see peerless skin, one not found in such a warrior who sacrificed himself countless times. His face became even more angular as his hair grew to Hancock's preferred size, where she now only trimmed it every month. Another difference was his eyes. They were now a stormy silver that glowed in the dark. The man approached the hat and picked it up. One hand grabbed the still intact Viva card and adjusted it so it was inside the lace of the hat. He also picked the knit sack with old tattered books. Looking at them, he was reminded of his youth. Makino and Daden taught both him and Ace how to read and write. He was eternally grateful for them. Daden was like a mother he never had, and Makino was like his older sister, always keeping him out of trouble. Even after he learned who his mother actually was and her fate 7 months ago on the records of G1 when he visited the Marine base, he still had fond memories of them both. He arrived at his camp, although it was more of a wooden house, and outside there was a huge campfire. Today was the last snow of winter. Tomorrow spring would arrive. Sitting around the campfire were giant animals. Their size was comparable to a 6-story building. They were a panther who had neon pink, violet, and green colors on its fur. The large cat had golden eyes and transparent glass claws and fangs. Another perched in a nearby tree was a falcon. It had gray stormy feathers, black obsidian talons and beak, and red eyes. The other was a bear. His fur was a mixture between white, brown, and black, as he had the genes of polar grizzly and black bears. His eyes were pure black, and his teeth and claws were pure white. The 3 animals focused their eyes on Margaret. As the space around them started to tear, multiple shockwaves blasted the island as the 3 animals unleashed their Supreme King's Haki, animals capable of using Haki. After not finding any more challenges in Ruskana, he searched the surrounding islands in this area of the Calm Belt. He brought the 3 strongest animals he could find and brought them here. He then succeeded somehow in teaching all of them in the basics of Haki so he could spar with the animals that he trained. After a few moments of being blasted with Haki, Margaret's pupils started shifting as she aimed her snake bow. An arrow unsteady pointed at them. The animal's expression became of mocking, as if a flimsy arrow with a little Haki could hurt them. They started making sounds so that she could start a fight. Oi! Luffy arrived in the clearing. The mocking animals became paralyzed as their master arrived. Luffy's voice calmed Margaret as she lowered her bow. Look where you are aiming your aura. These are my friends. The animal bowed meekly. After they started fighting each other for a piece of meat, jumping all around the island as they destroyed mountains, rivers, and forests. Fufu, Luffy is so cool. Hancock swooned. She was blushing. You've really become the boss of this island, Luffy, Sonya remarked, impressed. Yeah, but because I made them my friends, I can't even eat them anymore. Too bad, they seem so delicious, Luffy pouted, eliciting some blushes on the Kuja warriors. Don't worry, Luffy. We've prepared your favorite meals. They are on the ship. Oh, thank you, Hancock. Gloriosa just watched the princess with a disappointed look. Rayleigh left the Isle 8 months ago. I'm sure he's waiting in Sabaody. Yeah, he taught me everything he could. Now, in an instant he vanished and appeared with the 3 defeated animals that were rampaging, a comic bruise on their heads. Was that his devil fruit? Mary whispered. I don't know. Boa Hancock responded. It's time to say goodbye to you guys as well. The animals instantly recovered. Their eyes had tears as they nuzzled Luffy. Both land animals also purred. Yes, yes, he petted them. However, after a while he got irritated. Stop it. It's disappointing. I did not train you guys to be such weakling crybabies. He clenched his fist vertically as steam got out from his head. The animals lay defeated with a second bruise on top of the old one. Make sure you guys protect the island of women when I'm gone. All right. The animals nodded with their great voices blasting the island with their roars and cries. Their Supreme King's aura resonated with his own aura as rocks started crumbling around them. The 3 animals were so powerful that no matter the size of the force attacking it would be annihilated no matter what. However, these animals were not the only ones who were strong. Hancock, Sandersonia, Marigold, the 3 Gorgon sisters had grown exceptionally strong as well. He looked to his hat and raised it to the sky, a silent look, and a small smile as he looked towards one of his treasures. He finally put it in his head. The hat that was too big now fit snugly in his head. He grinned happily. All right, let's go. He was excited to see his crew again. XOX. Luffy laid down the bed. As he and Hancock had another love-making session, he thought back on his training or specifically on Ray's lesson. He read many topics such as navigation, history, politics, math, the sciences, geography, cartography, and much more. While he was smarter for his studies, however, he wasn't as good as some in his crew. For example, he knew how to navigate on a normal sea. However, he was lost on how to do it on the Grand Line. No, Nami was a pure genius as a navigator and cartographer. Her work always captivated him as he often stayed there just looking at her while she drew her maps. She was a prodigy in math as she liked money way too much. He wasn't that good in history as Robin was. She was the most intelligent of the group, yet she rarely showed it. While being primarily an archaeologist, she was also the scholar. He could cook in an emergency. However, they weren't Sanji's addictive and mouth-watering dishes. His carpentry work was shoddy. He had to constantly repair his wooden house. Frankie would be disappointed in his skills. He couldn't learn any instrument, so music was also out. He did not have any good swordsmanship skills or sniping skills. In fact, he detested weapons. To him, his body was his weapon. The only times he picked a gun or a sword was to have a bit of fun, nothing else. He was pretty sure he was great at biology, but then he remembered that his knowledge of medicine was crappy. In fact, his biology knowledge was where to strike to deal more damage, which parts to kill your opponent or disarm him, only fighting knowledge. However, surprisingly, the subject that he was perhaps a genius at was politics. It was comical to think that him would have any talent, but he had, and this talent would go to waste. In his mind he knew it. He was a monkey D, and had been raised as such. His grandfather made sure of it. He had reckless written on his blood, and fearless written on his heart. It was one thing he could not change about himself. It frustrated him so bad. But he try as he might, he couldn't change this part about him no matter how desperate he was. Ray said I had charisma to spare. That was a great quality of a leader, at least that's what he told me. HRM. My dream to become the pirate king and the strongest man. I can't do it on my own, but I have my precious crew with me. They'll help me with any shortcomings I have, and in return I'll protect them in their dreams with my life. He reassured his resolve as they traveled to the archipelago. Pirates who have survived the first half had begun gathering on the island here again, and in droves. The arrival of Kid, Drake, and the others was exciting. Now those guys are making waves in the new world. There aren't many as before, but there are a few rookies worth over 100 million here and there. But what surprises me is that the Straw Hat Pirates have shown up here after 2 years of silence. Just when we started to believe he really was dead. Idiot, don't you remember what happened 7 months ago? The Marines tried to cover the incident, but it was clear who did it. Anyways, they are recruiting. They plan to expand their crew and go wild in the new world. The thought gives me chills. Maybe I'll see about joining myself. A trio of men in a bar discussed further as they were holding a poster of recruiting with the Straw Hat symbol. XOX. Isn't there anything you can do? The fans started shouting at the security man, however he was quick to silence them. He said that this was the world tour of the Star Soul King, that the tickets were all bought off weeks in advance. Manager, today is going to be my best performance yet. Soul King, Brooke said as he was in the drawing room. He sat down as he played his shark-shaped guitar. While he appeared the same, he now wore pink pants with flowers, a plumage over his shoulder, and a giant crown hat, coupled with sunglasses. Well, I sure hope so. The sales are in the millions. You truly are the king of music. Just listen to the crowd cheering. His manager was an individual hailing from the Long Arm tribe as he pointed to the noise outside of the room. Manager, the truth is, I have something important to discuss before the concert begins. What is it? The manager grinned. Inside of the concert arena, the crowd looked at the darkness with their light sticks in hands and started cheering for the main attraction to show up. Friends visiting together, ladies with barely their clothing, families with their children, people who just wanted to use drugs and party hard, a few rich millionaires and bandits, bounty hunters and rookies. Every walk of life had shown in this concert. Brooke, Brooke. The crowd cheered and then the music started. The hall lit up and the stage had artistic flames going up. Hello, the singer arrived from the midst of the smoke. It's the Soul King, nothing but bones. As the monitor on top came to life, Brooke appeared center stage, the mic in his hands. The fans went wild. Some women even started screaming as if their life depended on it. That was the fame garnered by the man who was the king of music. Get a stretcher over here. People keep fainting. A security guy called the medical team. Let's make today the best anniversary ever. Brooke yelled and people cheered. XOX, on the grove with the number of 44, right on the sandy beaches. A stunning blonde finally landed on the island. It had been 2 years. She reached 5 foot 8 inches in height as she wore a red formal shirt with 4 golden buttons on her sides tied with a golden string that strained because of her heavy chest. A beige tiny feminine tie rested on her J-cups. She had an hourglass figure. Her wardrobe was a business skirt until the middle of her thighs. She also wore a black pantyhose and night blue shoes. She was gorgeous. However curious was her face, framed by wavy golden hair that fell on her shoulders, bangs that covered one of her chocolate brown eyes and part of her forehead, and a swirly eyebrow. A woman. The blonde locked eyes with the crowd of girls. Her pupils became hearts as she almost yelled. Night after night I've dreamt of this. I finally got out of hell. A tear fell from her eyes. She rushed forward. Viva Sabayati. I need ladies. The girls fled from the strange blonde woman. The lust in her eyes creeped them out. It appeared she would have to remake her strategy from the ground up. She was too excited after seeing a woman in 2 years that she lost her composure. What women wanted was an experienced woman who could dominate them. Well, I guess this is goodbye, Sanji CH1. I am sad to see you go, but I am sure we'll meet again someday. An ugly crossdresser said. It's Sora, not Sanji, and I never want to see your ugly asses again. Thanks for bringing me here. Say hi and give a hug to Iva-chan for me. See you never, shitty assholes. Sora yelled as she gave the middle finger. The men around them also fled when they saw the crossdresser's ship. I'll never forget her, the crossdresser said to her friends. Wait for me, Nami-chan. Robin-chan. Sora, the adorer of women worldwide and the greatest chef to ever live, has returned from the pits of the deepest hell. A certain bartender passed information to a girl that just arrived. Informing people was so rewarding in his opinion. As he served his drink over the counter, he asked a question. Did you know the Marines moved their headquarters? It's right near here at Marineford, isn't it? The lady asked. The bartender pointed on the map. They switched it with their G1 branch on the other side of the red line. This was the decision of the new fleet admiral who replaced Sengoku. This way their HQ is in the same sea as those monstrous emperors. Thanks to that, and the complete destruction of the G1 7 months ago by this man here in paradise, the threat of the Marines in here has lessened. The G1 is now fully operational again after massive disbursements at the expense of taxpayers, but they can't put enough fear in the outlaws like they used to. He gave the redhead a wanted poster. She was stunning. Her hair reached her lower back in waves. She only wore a revealing green bikini with intricate white designs, proudly showing her grown curves. In 2 years her breasts were more round and full. Moreover, she had a tight low-rider jeans that exposed a bit of her hip and her ass, orange high-heeled sandals, and a pair of pearl-like earrings. She also sported a new belt with the berry symbol, and she also had pieces of her sorcery climb tacked on her right side. Nami became even more beautiful and curvy as she matured to her 20 years. She looked down at the poster as she drank her alcohol. It showed a photo of Monkey D. Luffy. The sky was dark as it showed a handsome, gorgeous face. His bangs had grown and his hair had a more wild quality. However, she could still see his caring look behind those glowing silver stormy eyes. His hair was still dark as night and impossibly silky. And he still had that same scar under his left eye. Oh, this hunky man is my lovable captain, Nami whispered happily while blushing. She looked down, dead or alive, 570 million berries. So that's why. I thought this place seemed rougher than it did 2 years ago, she remarked. On one of the tables in the bar it appeared that trouble was brewing. Huh, did I mishear you? A 55 million bounty. The man fired a gun. A pirate screamed as he dropped to the ground. Go back and read the poster again. It says 70 million captains and above. Go home, you piece of shit. I am the son of Dragon the Revolutionary. A huge obese man with a straw hat yelled he was Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. He an orange-haired woman laughed. She was Nami, the navigator of the Straw Hats. Ugh, damn it. The man clutched his wound. We have no use for people who will slow us down. We are the chosen pirates. We are on a completely different level. We can't just let anyone join our crew. He was Sniper King, the sharpshooter of the Straw Hats. That Straw Hat is sure heartless. After all they've accomplished, it's no wonder. Hey Frankie, how many does that make now? About 100. We now have 3 whole crews to join us and 10 of those scallywags have bounties on them. They are a massive force at your disposal. And moreover 2 of them are the infamous Kurabu brothers. They'll come in handy. But we need more lackeys. Hey old man, bring us more booze. And you babe, don't just sit there around, come over here. Hee, she's a real prize. No thanks, I am waiting for someone. Nami finalized the ugly flirting form the fat man. She refused. Hey, do as he say. That Straw Hat Luffy. He's a crazy pirate that raised hell 2 years ago and he destroyed the G1 7 months ago. Haven't you heard of him? The bartender explained. Haha, whoever you are waiting for must be a wimp who will just apologize to the captain as soon as he arrives. Sniper King said. I'm only going to say this once more. I have no interest in you, so I am not going to drink with you. Do you understand? Straw Hat. What was it again? That woman is dead, one of the bar-goers whispered with sweat falling down his brow. Nami closed and pointing a gun to Nami's head. She boringly explained why it's bad to refuse her captain. Nami stopped listening from the fake and was about to floor them with her new powers over climate until Green Star, Devil. A man shouted as a green carnivorous plant grabbed the Nami by the mouth. The plant moved and attacked the fake Straw Hats. The man was Usopp, has become much more muscular than before and has grown his hair out. He had become manlier and was slightly taller than before. Usopp now has a new pair of goggles around his neck and has some headphones or ear protectors on. He also now has a little goatee along with a new white sun cap he wears on his head. He also has a new pair of rolled-up yellow pants with red suspenders, and a pair of boots. His trademark yellow satchel has been replaced with a red one, but he still has his blue and white striped wristband on his left arm. Nami then hugged Usopp. Usopp, it's been ages. Look at you, you've gotten kinda manly now. Well, you've grown some yourself. That's yours. She pointed at the funny tree attacking people. Yes, that's my new weapon, Pop Green. Sorry, but I've graduated from the weakling trio. I've now gotten closer to becoming a brave warrior of the sea. Nothing scares me now. Oi, you brat. Did you do this? What? Sniper King. How? He screamed. Wait, you bastards. Who do you think you are? How Luffy? Usopp asked as he was dragged outside by Nami. The bartender yelling for their tab was ignored. She was a thief and a pirate. There was no way she was going to pay here. Just as they were exiting, a thunder blew inside of the building. Screams were heard behind them, but they were ignored by the 2 Straw Hats. So I've learned new skills myself, but seriously, you were in a sky island. Luffy had his skin charred, but he raised himself. Find those 2 and kill them. XOX. At the 13th Grove on Shaki's rip-off bar. That stupid swordsman got here first. Sounds like we'll be in for a rough time. Sora's soft voice came out. And Frankie Chan was second. He got here 10 days ago, and already headed to the ship. Shaki shook her head. Oh good, I'm glad the Sunny's safe. Sora spoke. Nami had arrived third. Sora was strangely interested. Shaki said the young woman went on a shopping spree as she waited for the Straw Hats to arrive. After Nami, Usopp arrived in 4th place 3 days ago. 5th was Chopper Chan, who came yesterday. And then Yusan, Sora Chan. Brooke Kun arrived today for his concert. In other words, the 7 of you are already on this island somewhere. Concert? Sora asked with confusion in her eyes. That just leaves Luffy Kun and Nico Robin. Getting back in this island is quite a feat. I'm impressed. Ray commented. Yeah, I'm surprised you've trained Luffy though. He must be really strong now, Sora remarked. I haven't seen him in 8 months. He was already a monster back then. I'm looking forward to seeing how much he's grown. There's also the matter of his bounty. He threw the poster at Sora. His bounty was raised to 570 million. After he destroyed the G1, the Marines on this side of the red line are still recovering. I don't know why Luffy did that. His motivations are unclear, he said to Sora. As he looked at her, he could see her hiding a tiny redness in her face at seeing the photo on the poster. Then, what happened to you, Sanji? No, it's Sora now. I was sent to the Kamabaka Kingdom. There Iva-chan ruled as king. My training in hell started when he transformed me into a woman with his hormone powers. I had to survive every day getting attacked and pursued by those ugly guys. After 2 years, I finished my training, she said with her hand on her cheek. But Ivankov did not turn you back into a guy. That is strange. He offered it, but I refused. The atmosphere became calm as they heard bubbles popping outside. Both Shaki and Ray became tense, a cold sweat in their faces. Why did you refuse? The atmosphere was so sharp that it could cut skin. Ray's glasses became darkened. Shaki also had her face shadowed. Sora's pink lips were open. She grabbed both her tits as she fondled them. Her face darkened with lust and her eyes became hearts. Who wants to go back to being in an ugly-ass body? I love this body. I love women. Before I had a healthy respect for women. Now I know every hidden secret. Now I surpassed all limits and became a women connoisseur, Sora shouted with a serious and seductive voice. Both face-palmed at the perverted answer. And Miss Sora's sad face, she was clearly lying about the real reason she changed genders. Then, I've explained this to the other 6, but I need to tell you about Luffy-kun, and how he lost his powers over rubber. XOX, I've spotted Nico Robin. An agent reported. Don't kill her, bring her back alive. The transponder snail answered. In an alleyway, a woman stood after evading the agent's view. Did I manage to shake them? She whispered. An incredibly voluptuous woman thought as she hid. Robin's black hair has grown longer, down to her lower back and is pulled back, revealing more of her forehead and ears. Her outfit after the 2 years past now consisted of a long salmon sari-like skirt with a partially zipped navy blue leather vest with a V-neck line and a periwinkle rose printed on the left breast near the shoulder that exposed her stomach. Sunglasses, pink high-heeled pumps, and a pink backpack. She had an hourglass body and her skirt was low so it exposed a bit of her hip and bubble ass. Brooke's concert. Straw Hats recruiting new members. She had both pamphlets in hand. Soul King. What is going on here? She wondered. XOX. Chopper followed the fake Zoro, Sanji and Robin. They wanted to take the naive reindeer to their leader. Their evil intentions to kidnap the reindeer so they could impersonate the real crew better was working. The little pet didn't even realize that they were the fake ones. However, some shady guys kidnapped the fake Robin and Chopper got real mad at his comrades for abandoning her. 3 shots were heard as Luffy aimed his pistol at an orange-haired woman. Her husband caught her as she fell. Her husband caught her and glared and shouted at the fat man for the sudden attack. The fake Luffy confused the red-haired woman for the bitch who attacked them at the bar back then. XOX. At the G1 branch of the Navy. The building was under reform as it was previously destroyed 7 months ago. The Straw Hat Pirates. Are they on Sabayati Archipelago? Yes, apparently that monster is recruiting on that island. Contact HQ. If it's true, then we need reinforcements. Send the Pacifistas. The Vice Admiral yelled out his orders. XOX. You shot her. The crowd watched silently as a man hugged his dead wife. What did you shoot her for? What did we ever do to you? I apologized, didn't I? It was a mistake. I'm looking for a couple just like you two, a man and woman with long hair and long nose. You're not going to complain, are you? The fake Luffy taunted. Ugh, I think you might be. He shot the man dead. Straw Hat Luffy is terrible. Just then a man walked by. He was wearing a long coat and hood, shadowing his identity. His large sack knocked the fat man with the straw hat. He screamed as he fell to the ground. Oh, did I hit you? Sorry. Goodbye. He waved. Stop right there. The man turned, his face shadowed. The only thing they saw was glowing stormy silver eyes. The real Luffy stared at them. You bumped into me, didn't ya? You think I'm gonna let that slide when you made a fool out of me? I am a pirate with a bounty of 570 million. Now grovel to the ground and beg for forgiveness. As he pointed the gun in Luffy's head, he walked forward without a care. The people around were shocked. This guy with the sack and coat just casually ignored one of the most infamous pirates. Okay, I see how it is. The fake Luffy took aim, however. The man took another step. As the wind blew, all the bubbles in the vicinity popped as 4 bodies hit the ground at the same time. Frothing at the mouth, it was Luffy, Sniper King, Nami, and Frankie. On this day, the Straw Hat Pirates were defeated by a light stomp of feet. Well, at least this time the stranger wore footwear. XOX. Robin had arrived on Grove 17, where their ship was located. The Sunny. She smiled as she saw their ship. They're home. We've kept you waiting, didn't we? It has been 2 years. It's good that you are all right. She saw that the ship did not have any damage. Oh, that nice beauty can only be the super archaeologist of our very own Cree. If it isn't Robin. Frankie entered his usual pose. The man had blue short hair, wearing a blue Hawaiian shirt and a black Speedo. His shoulders, torso, and arms are also much bigger than before, and with studded hands that look almost robotic in appearance. He now appeared to be wearing metal-rigged suspenders. He had replaced his elbows with large, light blue hinges, his shoulders with a large red ball and socket joint with BF-37 written on them, and his forearms with large, light blue cubes, with his trademark star tattoo being split by an edge. He stayed in the same position with his teeth showing. As silence reigned through, finally Robin processed the new changes. You never do change, Frankie, she commented. I have changed, you fool. Take a good look at this sheer romance-packed body. Behold a remodeling of the likes never seen before. Now I've exceeded human comprehension. Yes, I don't think we can consider you as a normal human any longer. Hey, are you calling me a pervert? You sure know how to give a man a compliment. A while later, Robin climbed on and inspected the coating on the ship as Frankie explained how it worked. I'm number 8. We're waiting for Luffy. She calmly explained. I see. So the time to set sail on our new voyage draws near. Well, I've fixed her up good and proper. New weapons and all. Frankie laughed as he drank a cola drink. Then, they discussed the possibility of Brooke returning to this ship. He was now a shining star. Why would he leave a life of fame to one of infamy? Frankie argued he was not coming back. XOX. Chopper ran crying. He could not believe that Luffy and the others did not want to rescue Robin. All the while the Marines reported a meeting of the Straw Hat crew at Grove 46. Their strategy was simple: a cornering attack with Marine warriors, dealing with any lackeys, while the two Pacifistas would go in for the kill towards the Straw Hat main crew. Outside of the outpost in Sayabandi they were preparing their attack. They were to block any exits from that grove. XOX. Hey Mr. Fisherman, how's the haul? Here's hoping for a discount. Sora approached good-heartedly. The man yelled while looking at the sea. What's wrong? Sora asked. I've done something terrible. You see, a green-haired brother came to my shop and he wanted to go fishing cause he was bored. So I say, then can you wait on board? Yeah. He started telling the story. A green-haired guy with 3 swords and a belly warmer around the waist. She asked, yeah, that's it, him. One-eyed and all. One-eyed. She supported her breast as she assumed a thinking position. Her finger on her chin, she took a poster from her bag. Is this the guy? Yep, this is the guy, all right. He is a friend of yours. Well, I know of him. Yeah, kind of. She had a very angry look. You gotta believe me, I've said for him to wait in my fishing ship. But when I arrived he was already asleep on a pirate galleon. Now they must be heading towards Fishman Island right about now. That idiot. Just when Luffy is about to arrive. What would happen if aren't all here for him? Sora worried. Well, if it comes to that I can cheer him up with some delicious meals. Just then the water bubbled, and Sora clicked her tongue. A giant ship cut in two emerged from the depths. The people screamed in surprise. How dare you destroy our dreams of going to the New World? That's your fault for bringing a curse to this ship, the green-haired man said as he swiped his blade clear from water. What drivel? The captain of the galleon complained as he fainted. The man who brought disaster to the ship was none other than Zoro. His frame got larger, showing considerably more muscle mass, and his hair got shaggier while slicked back. Zoro now wore a long, open dark green coat closed on his waist and is held by a red sash, in which his 3 swords are now tucked into, and his black bandana is tied around his left forearm. His coat exposed his bare chest, revealing his green belly warmer underneath the coat. He has also grown noticeably taller. He also had a new scar running down over his left eye. It was now always closed. What? You're back. Not that I care either way, but if it makes Luffy happy, Sora whispered. Zoro coughed water. I got on the wrong boat. He sheathed his blade, in his sitting position, right on top of their mast. XOX. Robin. Hana. Robin, where have they taken you? Chopper in his mount form galloped, looking around for clues to the fake Robin's whereabouts. Damn, what's wrong with everyone? Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Sanji, even Frankie. You used to care so much about your comrades. Chopper teared up. But now Robin gets kidnapped and all you can say is leave her. You're all terrible. What have I worked so hard for these 2 years? For whom? Luffy. Why? Hey, Chopper, Usopp screamed. He was driving a bubble car, with what seemed thousands of supplies behind it in bubbles. He waved towards Chopper. Over here. He got out of the vehicle and approached Chopper. Usopp? Chopper bellowed in surprise. Well, look at you. You sure have grown. I bet that back of yours would make a ride and a half. How have you been? Usopp exclaimed. You're right. He's even fluffier than before. Nami gave Chopper a hug as she felt his soft fur. He was still massively confused. It's been a while, Chopper. She greeted him. Nami. He thought back to the fake Nami. His mind was confused now. Yes, no, forget that. I'm happy to see you guys, but something terrible has happened to Robin. Nami looked back at Usopp and a massive explanation happened after that. They're all fakes, so that's why there were 2 Namis. Chopper exclaimed. Oh dear. Nami sighed. Look, Robin has been on the run from the government for 20 years. Since she was just 8, you know. There's no way a couple of random dudes could catch her. Of course. I thought something was off back there. Now I'm pissed off. What's up with those guys pretending to be like us? Those filthy copycats. Why, it's almost as we are famous celebrities, damn it. Chopper did a happy dance at the last part as Nami slapped his head. What are you so happy about? In the first place, this is because the whole world knows who Luffy is. She delivered his bounty to Chopper so he could look. XOX. Both fake Sanji and Zoro rushed, looking for the tiny raccoon. Their captain ordered them to get him back at all costs. They were rushing at full speeds, passing the crowds looking for the funny little animal until a caped man with stormy eyes looked at them. The man grinned. He sensed something interesting. On a nearby alley, Grove 46, and fake straw hats. So that's what those guys were back then. How I wanted to murder the lot of them with my bare hands. He held the fake Zoro's neck by his strong muscular arm. One of his legs pinned the fake Sanji. Both had seen better days. They were beaten to a bloody pulp. Please let us go, the man cried. He let them go. They immediately rushed to the exit of the alley. However, all they heard was a static sound, and then nothing. Both these men exploded in a pile of charred gore. The man had a small amount of electricity in his leg as he walked away. He had a devilishly handsome smile. He found something to be entertained after all. XOX, I want to go to the coast. I want to do some fishing. Zoro nodded. Forget that, you shitty moss head. Sora declared. Why do I have to listen to you? And what happened to you anyways, you shitty cook? I don't have to explain myself to the likes of you. And you need to follow my orders, because you empty head will get lost here again, you brainless fool. We need to welcome Luffy back. Number 1, I arrived here first. I don't need to take orders from number 7. Why are you putting the order of arrival as a ranking or prestige? Don't get all high and mighty because just by pure coincidental luck you arrived first. Sora complained with a glare. Sure, whatever. 7th. Oh, that does it. I will kick your ass 6 ways to Sunday. Now, immediately. She raised her pantyhose leg. Bring it on, I've always wanted to slice you in two. The two readied to attack. The danger those two posed made everyone flee, as they started destroying buildings and other property in their fight. XOX. The Marines had invaded the hall. His manager pointed a gun to his head. However, the Soul King was not impeded. He was going to follow his captain to the ends of the earth. Straw Hat is dead, you say? Utterly preposterous. Tell the world for me, Monkey D. Luffy is alive. He roared as he started to play his guitar. The Marines started advancing. The man who will one day be king of all seas. How could his embarkment on this new journey possibly be a quiet affair? Oh baby. All of the reporters were talking to their transponder snail. A message to my beloved friends. He whispered PF the mic, but then returned to the mic with the face of a determined soul. This was the great swordsman musician Soul King Brooke. Listen, my friends, to this final soul melody. Yeah, don't be ridiculous, this show is cants. Shut up, Marines. Let us hear just one last song. Just let him sing once more. That's right. Does it matter who the Soul King really is? Even if he is a criminal, even if he is a pirate. Let us hear him once more. You see, music is my ally. 1.2, 0.3, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, New World. He started his last song as the crowd screamed and cheered. XOX. Most of the crew was on board the Thousand Sunny. They got introduced to new functions from Frankie as Usopp and Chopper drooled over his robotic body. Nami and Robin shook their heads in disappointment at the scene. Rayleigh arrived and started explaining what happened to Sanji. Now Sora. Afterwards he also started explaining how to navigate underwater. Well, what's this? The tension is on the rise. But Rayleigh, Luffy isn't here yet. Don't worry, Luffy. He has already arrived in this island. In fact, he is quite clearly broadcasting his location. What a huge presence. Usopp and Frankie grinned. Chopper was alight with happiness. Nami and Robin were smiling, although one could see faint flushes on both. That's the best news I've heard in a while. Robin was very happy. I gave Sora a transponder snail when she stopped by. She is with Zoro now, I believe. Shaki then delivered the Vivra card to Nami to serve as a point for them to reconvene. Grove 42 seems like a safe bet. It's right on the outer edge of the archipelago. Get the whole crew there together. It might get a bit rough, but the time has come for you to set sail once more, Rayleigh declared. XOX. Yo ho ho. Oh, if you hadn't arrived at that moment, Mr. Ryder, I'd be a goner. Liar, you froze every attacker there. Anyways, we are heading towards your ship, Miss Shaki's orders. Your crew is waiting for you there. The Flying Fish Rider commented. My chest is about to burst with expectations. Not that I have a chest to explode anyway, yo ho ho. Back in the arena, the long-armed manager and his brothers were on the ground trying to fight the frostbite, and all the Marines were either cut with a blunt blade or suffering from unbearable cold. XOX. A wasteland. All of the buildings were either cut down or destroyed in a crater. The land was barren. However, you could see two people. A man with 3 swords equipped. They were dark as night as well as his hands. The other was a beautiful blonde, lifting and kicking a good chunk of the mangrove 41 up and down. Like a soccer player, she then launched the tree at the swordsman with her legs at incredible speeds, only for the swordsman to cut the trunk of the tree into pieces. A transponder snail rang, stopping the fight immediately. Sora fished it from her pocket on her skirt. Frankie, huh? Grove 42. Okay, I'll see you there. Hey, dumb mosshead. Marines. Coming. We. Ship. Run. Got that. Do you take me for a baby? Speak in full sentence. As he sheathed his swords and put his bandana away, Sora also put her leg down. I figure that was the best way to get through such an undeveloped brain you have. Right, I'll just cut you later. He looked over the destruction towards another island. Hey shitty cook, you sense that? And what all the ruckus on that island? You're right. That way. Noisy. Powerful presence. XOX. That's as far as you go, you pirate scum. Straw Hat Luffy and all of you bastards. I suggest you come quietly. We have sealed off all of the exits from this isle. There is nowhere to run. The Marines circled the gathering of pirates in the plaza. The Marines. Captain, they got us all surrounded. Hey Caribou, Caribou, use the marine soldier we captured as a hostage. We're getting out of here. A marine soldier, the lieutenant asked. It appears one of our scouts has been captured by this rabble. The marine captain said to his soldier, sorry, but I can't do that, boss. This snot-nosed brat lied to us. Told us he hadn't called for help. Caribou then aimed at the scout. Idiot. Stop. The fake Luffy tried to order the rookie to stop, but it was useless. Caribou pulled the trigger and shot the man anyways. The Marines brandished their weapons in rage of that happening right in front of their eyes. It doesn't look like they plan on surrendering. Is it one of your unwritten rules that it's fine to lie to the bad guy? Kahehe. Well, there's nothing to it. A pirate with a bounty worth over 70 million unleashed his blades. Caribou, you crazy bastard. You ignored my orders. Orders from your captain. Shoot the pirates down, was the cry from the Marines before the battle truly started. Kahehe. I smell blood for the spillin'. The filthy blood of a bunch of hypocrites. Idiot Marines, our captain has a bounty of 570 million. He's Straw Hat Luffy. The rabble of pirates roared and went forward with their weapons. Take them down. The battle raged on as the pirates gained ground on the Marines. The fake Luffy thought they could do it and cheered his men on. However, a scream was heard as two Pacifistas shooting the crew. Erg. It's the Pacifista ass. His men cried as one by one they were being defeated. The rays of light that came from the mouth and hands of these abominations blasted through chucks of pirates. Their bodies could not be pierced or cut by normal weapons. They were massive, easily surpassing 20 feet, but even then they were unbelievably nimble for their size. Bounty 570 million. Pirate Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy has been sighted. The Pacifista spoke stonily. A pirate called Lip Service Dowdy, worth 88 million, challenged the Pacifistas for a fight, but one blast from their hand immediately defeated him. He was on the ground, blood pooling underneath him. No way. Captain Dowdy, a man worth 88 million, was taken out like nothing. The crowd of pirates were stunned, then started panicking. The Marines regained their morale as they had the upper hand now. The fake Luffy took this chance to escape. However, he was cornered by Sentomaru and another Pacifista. The pirates cheered as they would see what a 570 million wanted man was capable of. All the while the caped man was watching. Close by, it was interest seeing a copycat. He was already that famous. While it was fun seeing him demask, the real fun he sensed was in another island. Two people were fighting. If his senses were right, it was Zoro and Sanji. What the hell happened to him? I'm confused. Why are these people calling you Straw Hat? Sentomaru asked, the Pacifista behind him. Hey big sumo guy, don't you know who are you talking to? I'm the grandson of Garp the hero. I'm the son of Dragon the revolutionary. I raised hell in the War of the Best. I'm also the man who destroyed Marineford G1. I am the man with a bounty of 570 million. Straw Hat Monkey D. Lu. Sentomaru bashed his head with his axe. Straw Hat is not a piece of shit like you. What? Big Boss Straw Hat. Big Boss Straw Hat. I see they were fooled by this guy. PX5, who is this guy? Bounty 26 million. Pirate Triple-Tongued Damalo Black, the Pacifista calmly replied. A fake. The pirates exclaimed, not believing they were so easily swindled. The deceivers may be fools, but you lot is still in bad luck. We'll apprehend everyone here. And by some crazy coincidence, it looks like the real one is here in this grove. PX5 detected him as soon as we arrived here. However, at this time they witnessed Grove 41, the giant tree falling as it was cut into smaller pieces, and those pieces were launched at random parts of that grove. Wah! Some exclaimed. Everyone was stunned at the situation, but a man smiled. They grew very powerful, were the man's thoughts. After the Marines regained their bearings, PX5 chased Straw Hat out of hiding. The Pacifista fired a shot at a random location, blowing the pirates to the sky as a giant sack came flying and landed on a nearby ruin. A man was already there as he discarded his cape, showing his form to the world. Here's the poster. As a small-time pirate dropped the poster on the ground. It had a photo of a gorgeous man with hair as black as night, a strong jaw, glowing gray eyes, and a scar in his left cheek. The man before them had the same face, a man who had a bounty of million, one of the worst generation pirates. Their eyes were wide as saucers as they looked shocked at him. Even Sentomaru had broken into a sweat. It's the same face. Men, compose yourselves. We came to fight the real one. Do not fear. A Marine captain yelled as he cheered their men. Man, it was so fun seeing the battle. Why did you have to rob me of my fun? You are not here to impede my departure, are you? I tagged you as an intelligent man 2 years ago, sumo guy. Luffy smiled, however it did not reach his eyes. And you brought the Navy. The Navy with you? How nice. He then moved, and he started rummaging through his backpack, all the while glaring menacing towards the whole crowd. He's probably looking for a weapon. What incredible weapon does a man with a 570 million bounty have? After a while, tensions got high as they gulped their saliva. The time finally came as he retrieved the weapon. A giant piece of meat on the bone. Meat, they said with a dumbfounded look. He then started eating it fast and only the bone was left. As he huffed, he then glared again. The tension got extremely high as the world became black and white from the pressure and only his gray stormy eyes were glowing. The man became fearful. He tilted the head and started eating the bone like a shark. Stop that. They yelled with sharp teeth at the stupidity being displayed by the biggest name here on these seas. He glared again. The world became black and white as his eyes and face were shadowed by the straw hat. His aura unleashed. It was black with a glowing red outline growing in waves from the ground he was standing on. He opened his mouth as steam got out. The people were on the ground with fear, but then a sleeping bubble got out from his nose as he softly snored. Don't sleep in the middle of a battle. Both the pirates and the Marines yelled. Stop with these tasteless jokes, Straw Hat. Sentomaru yelled. The bubble popped and he woke up. What? I was having such fun sleeping. He yawned. He did all this to curb his massive hatred for Marines. He couldn't slaughter them here and cause a massive disturbance on his master's island. Sentomaru continued with meaningless boasting. I'm not the same man as 2 years ago. Now I'm a fully fledged Marine. I'm going to capture you here. Get him PX5. The Pacifista shot 3 shots at Luffy. However, all of them were parried by a finger. It hit his hand and it split in various rays behind Luffy. The hand was not even coated in haki. Sentomaru gasped as he saw the level of danger. He turned to his men and tried to order them to retreat. However, before he could utter a word, a thunderous sound made them almost deaf. Sentomaru looked at the Pacifista, only that it was a piece of scrap on the ground, as discharges surged from its body sending parts flying off. The Pacifista's insides were completely melted. Even the special metal alloy was melting and evaporating, sending dangerous fumes around, and his blood vaporized. The ground around it was a giant crater full of molten rock. The body or what was left of it caught fire and did periodic explosions as it burned. Assault Series, Crash Bolt. Luffy spoke as his hand was covered in dark blue lightning bolts, dancing through as his index finger was pointed at the destroyed pacifist. The air around his arm was superheated and turned into plasma. It was a pretty sight, if you ignored the fact that it was melting stuff around it, but for some reason Luffy wasn't getting burnt. What happened? Sentomaru sweated bullets. Equals in a single attack, as the pirates started fainting. Well, see you. I've got the feeling this isn't the last time we will meet. Next time, however, you'll die by my hands. That's a promise, Sumo Guy. He left the warning up in the air. He rushed to meet Zoro and Sanji. But the second pacifista tried to block his way, but Sanji kicked the head clean off the shoulders with her amazing legs and Zoro bisected its body. Zoro, Sanji, Wohoa, it's been a long time. He cheered as he carried his bag in one arm. Luffy, you are the 9th, Zoro explained as he pointed at him. Shut up, empty head. Stop these stupid rankings. Sora looked at Luffy, a redness in her face as she desperately tried to hide it. And Luffy, it's Sora now. Come Luffy, everyone is waiting on the ship, she said softly. Pirate Hunter Zoro. And a woman called Sora. So the whole crew is alive. And they are here, call the other teams. A Marine captain ordered. Ara, Sora exclaimed. What's wrong? Zoro asked Luffy. The man in question was looking towards a hill. Ray, he shouted. That's the Dark King Rayleigh. The soldiers were now paralyzed. They could not move an inch for fear of being instantly killed by such a legend. It was too much for them. When they finally mustered the courage to go up against Luffy after what he did to G1, many had panic attacks and sleepless nights. In fact, much of the force here were soldiers that tried to defend the mighty island when he destroyed the plaza and the marine building in one great strike. In fact, they asked to go to this mission so they could move past their fear, but now, I thought I'd drop by and take a look. But it doesn't look you need any help. You've gotten really strong. My son, Ray said with pride in his eyes. The Marines were not moving. They were sweating up a storm. They could not believe their eyes. Wasn't he the son of Dragon in the first place? Father, I'm going to do it. Ray watched with interest. I will find One Piece and become Pirate King, he exclaimed as Zoro smirked and Sora smiled. Rayleigh had tears in his old eyes. It was like seeing his old captain. He was very happy to know Luffy. Take Straw Hat down. Don't falter now. The horde of Marines went to them. Oh, do they want to die? Luffy looked at the horde coming. However, Sora patted him on his broad shoulder. He looked down at her smiling. Captain, she tilted her head pointing at the exit to the island while smiling warmly at him. She was a head smaller than him, so it was easy to pet her head. She closed her eyes in bliss. However, her love for women made her shake her head. Then let's go. We don't need to get involved here any longer. Thanks a bunch, Ray. See you later, father. He waved as they ran towards their ship. Indeed, head straight to the top. After them. They are heading to Grove 42, a Marine said in the transponder snail. The army proceeded to chase, but Rayleigh appeared in front as a line made in the ground was carved with his sword slash. My son is setting sail. You can do as you please. He pointed his cutlass at them. But I would suggest that you would not cross that line. For your own health, he glared at them while smoking. They encountered one group. but they were defeated by that thriller bark girl. Luffy remembered her presence when he faced World a year back. She now wore a long gothic dress, a black top hat with flowers. She had a bat tattoo on her arm and she was floating from the ground as her ghost circled her. Then Sora started molesting and fondling her boobs from behind, while Luffy enjoyed the show. It was time to go, so he picked Sora bride style while they ran. Perona stayed behind to deal with more groups of marines. Luffy sensed warships coming from the distance. XOX, Yo-ho-ho-ho, Usopp-san, Nami-san, Robin-san, FRRRRanky-san. Brooke, everyone exclaimed. Got to say I'm impressed. You gave your life of stardom to that of an outlaw just to travel with us. Frankie exclaimed. Brooke jumped from the flying fish and landed, in the deck king guitar and all. Ah, such memories. These faces bring back memories. Oh yeah. He sat on a barrel and started to play his guitar. Are you going to sing something for us? Usopp asked while they gathered around the Soul King. Well then, Nami-san, for the first time in 2 years, would you kindly show your paw? He was kicked all over the deck by Nami. I never showed them in the first place. My heart flutters at this touching reunion. Not that I have a heart to flutter, of course. Yo-ho-ho, he groaned. We have a superstar convulsing on the floor, Usopp remarked. Honestly, don't you people ever grow up? Nami complained, her hands on her hip. It appears that we are not yet all assembled. XOX, on top of a bird. Luffy, Chopper, Zoro and Sora were in a sitting position. Chopper was on Luffy's lap while Luffy petted the reindeer. Sora was right on his side clutching his shirt while holding her hair. Zoro was on his other side with his white sword gripped on his shoulder. All of them were smiling. The Sunny. Luffy smiled. He was unbelievably happy. Hey you, I've brought them. Chopper jumped excitedly on his captain's lap. Robin was the first to notice them approaching as the bird arrived on the side of the ship. Luffy, Zoro, Sora, they already been briefed by Rayleigh. Brooke also had been given the information by Shaki-chan on his way, so the only surprise was how beautiful she looked. You guys, you look cooler than ever. Frankie put his glasses up as he saw the changes to his friends. Luffy-san, I have missed you so much, Brooke said as the dam opened in his non-existent eyes. We're all together again. Usopp teared a bit. All of them landed and thanked the bird. Sora turned around and saw Nami waving with both arms. Her round plump breasts jiggled with her movement. Robin had her hand on her hip showing her ripe cleavage. Sora's eyes darkened in lust. Luffy came close to her. Hey Sora-chan, are you all right? He had a concerned face. However, Sora focused on his body, those tantalizing chest muscles, that amazing 8-pack, his gorgeous face, that amazing V-line going down from his navel, his entrancing glowing eyes. His muscles rippled every time he breathed. Now blood flowed freely as she drooled, and then fainted. Hey, weren't you supposed to be a woman connoisseur? Why are you drooling over Luffy as well? Usopp yelled to the fainted Sora, now secured within Luffy's arms as Chopper treated her. After carefully laying her on the grass, Luffy put a blanket over her body, and then he looked at Frankie. He closed the distance between them faster than anyone realized. Whoa, Frankie. Why? Can you shoot beams? Can you launch rockets? Can you transform? Can you combine? He had stars in his eyes as Frankie did his pose. Glad that Luffy had approved of his transformation. Hold that thought, Luffy. I can't say I understand, but leave the off for later. We just got word that the warships are almost on top of us. Nami tried to budge Luffy by pulling on his broad shoulder, but his body was too strong for her. As she said that a cannon shot blew the water near them. Luffy was gone from Nami's hands. As he sat on the rail of the ship looking at the small fleet of ships, HRM, so they can think they can sink our ships. He looked towards the Marines. Now everyone had their attention on him, even Sora woke up. Well, I can't let that happen. Sunny is our precious ship. Countless lightning bolts circled his hand and was rotating in a circle around his hand as he pointed 2 fingers at the distance. The storm raged in his hand. It eventually became black as it collided with themselves. The friction caused a foreboding sound. Omni-Series, Plasma Railgun. From his hand, a crimson-black ray shot. The sea waved around as the Sunny was pushed back a bit. The last the Marines saw was the beam coming at full force before they were completely vaporized. Hundreds of soldiers, captains, and a rear admiral. It didn't matter what ranking they were, their bodies being heated by 5 million Kelvin. Their organs, tissue, muscle, bones, all of it instantly turned into vapor. The Omni-Series is now that powerful. I'll just stick to the Assault Series. That was the weakest attack from that row. And there's no way I'll use Singularity Series. That much power is world-ending, was Luffy's thoughts as he saw the damage. He then braced himself for the shockwave from the attack. It was one of the side effects from eating those 2 fruits at the same time. They both exponentially raised each other's power passively. Luffy did not know if it was a mistake of recklessness or not. Well, the answer would come eventually. The ray blasted everything that was in sight. The Straw Hats only saw a deep red. The sky was nowhere to be seen. Only a flash, then a deep red. Several minutes later, the sky returned to normal as they saw the fallout. In the distance, a giant black smoke cloud. There were lightning storms as the cloud raised. Well, that was a bit overkill. I'll refrain from using my lighting powers unless necessary, Luffy nonchalantly said as he dropped to the deck. The Straw Hats were still in awe of the power displayed. They knew that he had lost his rubber powers and that when Ray left he had a choice between two fruits, but this. Nobody cared if the Marines died. Most of them were desensitized about death. Back in Whiskey Peak where Zoro killed 100 bounty hunters, the civil war in Alabasta did not help. Robin was an assassin since she was a child, and Frankie had also seen plenty of death in a nice lobby. Also, he had no love for the government, and Brooke was a skeleton. He had seen some things in his past and was more mature in that regard to many of the Straw Hats present. Well, Frankie, prepare the ship for sailing. Why, yo, Luffy. Frankie swam down to the ship. The water was warm like a hot spring. Was it because of the explosion? Were Frankie's thoughts as he opened the valve from the coating. The bubble expanded beyond their bodies as it formed a bubble roof. While this was happening in the archipelago, the army left was impeded by various people that helped them in these 2 years. All right, Nami. Do an explanation of how we are going to Fishman's Island, Luffy asked her with a gentle voice. She blushed a bit. She nodded and grabbed everyone's attention. A coated ship has the ability to reduce the surrounding pressure. In other words, it cannot float with its own accord, so if we remove the buoyancy bag underneath the ship, it will start to sink beneath the surface. I see. Zoro had a look of a philosopher while not understanding. I've released the bag. Frankie climbed from the water and landed on deck. All right, we are going down. Everyone go raise the sails, Nami ordered. The sails, Chopper and Brooke asked. Apparently coated ships can use the sea currents as a substitute for the wind to propel the ship. There's more to it than just sinking to the bottom. Usopp asked. Are we setting sail, Nami? He climbed on the bench on the bottom of the main mast. He crossed his arms over his abs. That's right, Captain. She smiled at him. All right, men, I have tons of things that I've been wanting to say to each and every one of you after all this time. The first word that comes to mind is gratitude. I am very grateful for having every one of you as my comrades. Well, enough of this mushy stuff. Afterwards we can exchange stories of our adventures these 2 years. But for now, let's leave it at that. Everyone smiled. Thanks for going along with my selfish desires for these past 2 years. He sincerely bowed to them. Yes, like this has been the first time you swept us along in some crazy whim of yours, Captain, Sora said happily. That's right. This is just what you're always like, Luffy. Usopp grinned. It was a joyous occasion to hear Luffy talking. His words had such charisma behind them. It evoked warm feelings in all of them. This was the homecoming for them. XOX. Sister, you aren't going to see Luffy? Sonya asked. Boa Hancock was looking at the sea, contemplating. Luffy, we had sex many times. Are you not afraid we shall become pregnant with your child? He petted her head. He smiled sadly. Hancock, perhaps I was born this way. Perhaps it was the multiple gear seconds and thirds. Perhaps it was Aokiji freezing my body. Perhaps it was the amount of poison that affected me and impelled down. Perhaps it was Iva-chan's treatment and hormones. Perhaps it was the magma strike in the war. Perhaps it was the shock of seeing Ace dead. Perhaps it was the treatment from Tragai. But I cannot produce a child anymore. I am infertile. Hancock gasped. But perhaps this was a good thing. Ace eternally cursed his dad because he was Pirate King, the worst of the worst. He cursed his bad blood until the end. I haven't even met my father and they call him the most dangerous criminal in the world. Imagine if that information had been leaked in my early life. I was raised by Makino and Daden with some visits from Gramps. For this reason I don't want to have a child only for them to hate me. I don't want to have children who are outcasted by everyone because of the association to my name. He smiled at her sadly. She rubbed her tummy. His seed was still sloshing around. It was so warm. She hugged him with all her force. She wanted to show that she loved this man without question. No, for us this is not goodbye, she said to the wind, for we shall meet again. Isn't that right, Luffy? She looked at the sky. XOX. That idiot swordsman. How dare he? So ungrateful for my help. Perona flew home while thinking about Zoro. Well, at least he was my favorite toy. I'll miss him. Above Sayabandi, an island of weather, stood Nami-chan. You're a good girl. Good luck on your journey. We'll miss you here. On a back street, a warrior wearing a roach armor looked to the sky. He sniffed. No, true men never say goodbyes. Good luck on your adventure, my disciple Usopp. The man posed as insects crushed the Marines on the main street. XOX. He breathed in, his mighty lungs expanding. It's time for the return of the Straw Hats. Again I'll ask you, will you be my comrades in arms and turn this entire world upside down with me? He asked. His face broke into a giant grin while a few tears fell from his silver eyes. Of course, everyone said at the same time. Frankie, Chopper, Brooke and Usopp cried waterfalls while laughing. Nami had both her hands in her face as she cried while nodding. She would follow Luffy to hell if it came to that. Sora was crying from both eyes as she had a gentle face directed at Luffy. All of them accepted her change of sex without discriminating against her like she feared. They all respected her decision. Robin cried from one of her eyes as she had a finger remove the wetness in her face. She finally had somewhere she would belong. She would always stay by his side. Zoro tensed up in his remaining eye. There was no way that he was missing this adventure. Everyone here was indebted to Luffy. They were glad for the bond that they had. However, they did not know that Luffy was even more grateful for their bond than they realized. But set sail. Yeah, Fishman Island, here we go. As Sunny sank underwater, it was finally time. Back on the archipelago, Caribou hunted and killed the rest of the fake Straw Hats. Now it was time to pursue the real ones. He wasn't worried after all. He had eaten a Loja. He was now invincible. XOX. As I've told you already, the situation was insurmountable. There was nothing that could have been done here. Monkey D. Luffy was already out of our reach in terms of power, and we were stopped by the Dark King, the same man who stopped Uncle Kizaru. What was I supposed to do against that? Also, the man who described Blackleg Sanji was wrong. It was a blonde woman named Sora. I am telling the truth. She had the same swirly eyebrows. We'll send a photo so you can update the poster. Sentomaru was sitting on the fake Luffy's stomach as he reported. The only ones who escaped this plaza were some fake Straw Hats and the Caribou brothers. All the rest of the offenders were caught. But the real Straw Hats dealt severe damage to the Pacifistas. We can't even scrap PX5. The units were the same that cornered them 2 years ago. They had the same strength as 2 years ago. It's the Straw Hats themselves that have changed. The level of growth is incredible. And also make it clear for the Marine HQ, Monkey D. Luffy is a giant threat and the Straw Hat pirates are at large once more. Sentomaru exclaimed while looking at the melted alloy from the destroyed Pacifista. We are still investigating what happened in Grove 41. The area is a complete wasteland. Monkey D. Luffy. I confirmed it with my own eyes. He's dangerous. He has eaten a new devil fruit and has not been confirmed using rubber powers anymore. Vegapunk's theory of him dying and coming back to life without the fruit may hold true after all, especially after reviewing the events of the Bell of War that happened a few days after the battle with Whitebeard. Wait, Rear Admiral Hanamura died, and his fleet was destroyed. El Sentomaru asked while shouting towards the microphone. XOX, gone in a blink of an eye, Shaki remarked. Monkey-chan and the others became incredibly strong. Perhaps he can give you a run for your money. You were watching, Rayleigh replied. Of course, I'm their fan, remember? Are you reminiscing about something, perhaps? Ray-san, yeah, I suppose so. Hey, that's some ship you've got there. A man with a straw hat and black shirt arrived at the coast. A man was laying in the boat with all of his stuff. Oh, I stole it. My house was burned down, so I am living here now. I see. What's your name? Rayleigh. Well, I'm Roger. This meeting must be fated. Rayleigh, what do you say to turn the world upside down with me? The world? Who the hell are you anyway? Get out of here. Don't sweat the small stuff. Let's set sail. He cleaned his tears. It may just be that there's no such thing as coincidence in this world. As though it was always meant to be. Mysterious bonds slowly but surely weave their forms. At any rate, Luffy has taken another step in his adventure. He already became a worthy man of that hat he wears. That boy makes me want to live longer, he said as Shaki smiled. The Straw Hats had spent 2 years apart from each other. When they met, all were surprised by their transformations. A lot has happened, a lot has changed, but their spirit and loyalty to each other had not wavered. There was a wave of maturity to this new crew, and that change happened because of their captain's growth, both as a person and as a leader. However, that growth might come with some pains attached to it. A clear indicator was the treatment the armada of Navy men received at the behest of the new Luffy that had arrived. He vaporized every single member of the armada after them, something so cruel that the old Luffy would never do. That gave credence to the mysterious attack of G1 that has yet to be disclosed. What happened there? What Luffy had discovered to make him hate the world government so much? That question might not have an answer. Now on Miraculous, the Holy Land, after the Straw Hats had reunited, 5 old men were in a room of the highest quality. They were the highest power of the world government. They controlled the Marines, military, intelligence agencies, and everything the world government had in their control. That man has resurfaced again. An old man started the discussion. He had a scar on the left side of his face, wore a hat over gray dreadlocks, and wielded a walking cane. His eyes were sharp and he was very big, at least 10 feet tall. Monkey D. Luffy. He is the oldest looking. He is bald, with glasses and a white gi. He also held a samurai sword with him. He also was the only one not wearing a black suit. The man was the only normal-sized person in this room at 6 feet even. Dragon's son. Now we have a possible link with Rayleigh as well. Brother to Porca's DAs. Also has the haki of the Supreme King, as noticed in the last war. This brat just likes to give us trouble. The speaker was a bald man and has large birthmark spots on his forehead, and has a large white mustache. He was also tall at 8 feet. Reports have come. The man destroyed a small fleet leading by a rear admiral. Last seen, they were en route to Fishman Island. A Marine with a dark blue suit, the coat from the Marines with Justice printed in the back, and a cap over his head said, "And how did they destroy the few warships?" The speaker was a tall and thin-bearded man with long white hair. He was 13 feet tall, the tallest here. He with one attack. It was a beam of light and it detonated after reaching the ships. Everything in 5 miles was vaporized. The smoke cloud remained countless hours. We have reports that there were no remains left, not even a piece of the ships. Everything was vaporized along with all of the Marines. The explosion was seen in the entire archipelago, and in a few groves the shockwave was also felt. The Marine replied in a salute position, while breaking a sweat. Vegapunk's theory was correct. He died and came back to life. It would explain the events of 7 months ago. He ate a new fruit. The speaker was the youngest looking of the 5 elder stars. He sported blonde hair, a beard of the same color, and had a scar on his chest. He also wore his suit with the shirt buttons open. And without a tie, he was the second tallest at 11 feet. We can't afford to raise his bounty even further than this. A significant raise won't happen. The best we can do is raise their group's bounty by 30 million. We also have some updated information and photos of his crew. It is strange. Straw Hat himself, his face hasn't changed since 7 months ago. What if we chase Straw Hat to Fishman's Island? We can apprehend them there. Hold your tongue. Your idea is foolish. We have no clue of what his powers entail. Last time a full blast leveled G1, it even made a giant crater on the red line. He also melted a chunk of the gates of justice in his arrival. That the damage dealt to the giant gates was made 1 mile above the sea also tells us that he can achieve sustained flight. He also escaped without a vessel. Even if you not count his new strength, the path to Fishman's Island is too risky. We'll lose resources. Not to mention said island is the territory of Big Mom. We can't upset the balance and give grounds for another war against another emperor. The blonde man replied, "For now we'll let them slide and deal with them in the new world." XOX. Beneath the seas of the Sambayati archipelago a few hours back. We're already this far below the surface. Robin's voice brought them out of their stupor. Truly the ocean was beautiful. What a great view. You can't put a window this big on a submarine. Frankie observed out loud. We're sinking. Deeper and deeper and deeper. Are you sure the water can't get in? I'm worried. Chopper announced. The world of people seems so distant. It makes me nervous. Nami replied. Will we make it back to land safe? Not that I'm scared or anything. Usopp exclaimed. The ocean is really pretty. But it is 10 kilometers down to the island. Not to mention we need to travel there. We are in for a long haul, so I believe it is time to explain my changes as well. He then sat down and started his tale. From the very beginning, his earliest memories growing up with Makino, his meeting with the pirate Shanks, the events that led to him getting his hat, the absolute shame he felt from eating the fruit that he knew it belonged to their crew, the training he got from Garp, and the disgusting executions he showed Luffy. That man was and still is a psychopath. He then told them about his past with the mountain bandits and how he met Ace and Daden. He was really cold at first, but then he described how he got captured by the Blue Gem pirates. He was tortured that afternoon. However, Ace and his friend N came to the rescue. He spoke of the life he had growing up with the 2 older friends, then meeting the old man pirate and helping him build a ship the day they became sworn siblings. The truth is, we had another sibling. Her name was Anne. She was a noble's kid. Her father had drafted a marriage contract to one of the princes. She ran away while young because life outside that shitty kingdom was better. Goa Kingdom. The buildings and roads were pristine. However, the city smelled worse than shit and piss. You could feel the corruption, the fake smiles. It was sickening. To this day it makes my skin crawl. He told them of the plot to start a fire and annihilate Grey Terminal, concocted by the nobles and the king of Goa. Those bastards ordered the Grey Terminal to be burnt down. They didn't want to live near trash after all. However, there were millions of poor people living off in that area. He sighed. But the king and queen did not care, so they burned it all. We were right there in the middle of the confusion. It was orchestrated with the help of the Blue Gem pirates. However, they were betrayed as well and died with despair. Luffy closed his eyes in reminiscence. Nothing to kill one's innocence faster as to hear thousands screaming in pain as their bodies burn. We saw it all. Adults, elderly, even small kids and newborns living in that area were killed by the fire. Killed by that shitty kingdom. The mountain bandits came to our rescue. A few survivors escaped to the shore. Daden and Ace stayed behind to fight Blue Gem himself. The man was insane from the betrayal. He then told of the fallout from the incident, as he was petting Chopper again. Everyone smiled after that. It was only a few days later we treated our wounds. Ace and Daden returned, however, and a tear fell from his left eye. Before all this, Ace and him did not have the best relationship. In fact, he constantly pushed Ace's buttons, just like when he asked about his father Gall D. Roger, but both of them were close. However, they were not as close as how he was with Anne at the time. He was 7 and she was 10, both loved each other. They connected on a deeper level at the time than Ace and he ever could. However, she died. Seeing the tears falling from Luffy shocked the crew. They were rapt with attention. After all, it wasn't like Luffy to talk about the past. In fact, most of them told him of their past. Zoro and his rivalry with Kuna, her funeral, and his brutal training to be the best. Usopp and his mother, his life of a liar, his meeting with the beautiful lady of the village and his friendship with her. Nami and her shitty past. Living as a thief, she backstabbed many, endangered innocents and ruined lives just to get the money necessary to help her village. She told him of her life with Belmir, and also her early life before she became an orphan and was adopted by her. Sora told him of her early life, the failure of Germa 66, how much she loathed her father and her brothers, her love for her mother and her older sister Ryuju, her escape to the East Blue, the meeting with Zeph, her unending hunger and how she was raised by him. Chopper told him of his life as a monster, his meeting with the doctor and the growth he had with the doctorine as a doctor himself. Robin also told him all about O'Hara and her life as a backstabber and an assassin, looking for a place to belong. Frankie also told him of his life as Cutty Flam, being raised by Tom, learning from the best, and the day Tom was judged and the day Cutty Flam died. Brooke also confessed to him about the Rumbar pirates and the terrible sickness that befell his captain. His loneliness in his 50 years as a skeleton on a lonely ship full of bones of his fallen comrades. These stories were all for him and only him. They trusted him that much. And she was killed by the world. She just wanted to be free. And yet she was shot down by the whims of a world noble. When I received this information, I almost died from depression. TT was actually Ace that pulled me out of my funk. From then on he mellowed out and we became true brothers. Now I am alone. My siblings are all dead. However, he looked at each of them and was reassured. They were his family now. Everyone nodded at him. He smiled. He thought back to Anne. She was his life. Her soft purple hair and eyes, her tomboyish attitude, and her caring nature. He wondered how angelic she would look now, but years later I started my adventure. He told them everything. Then the story shifted after their untimely separation by Kuma. After we were separated, I landed in Amazon Lilian Island on the middle of the Calm Belt. There I met Boa Hancock and the Kuja warriors as well as all of the Amazons. Sora grabbed him. Hey, you better have trained hard. I've spent those couple of years with those shitty crossdressers. Everyone laughed as Luffy tried to calm Sora down. After that moment he resumed the story. Both the Amazons and I had a very rocky start. In fact, they made a show of my execution, but I protected one of the Snake Sisters, Sonya-chan. We became fast friends after that. Afterward, he told them of the infiltration in Impel Down, the hell of poison he had to face it because of the invincible Warden Magellan, the miraculous recovery, and then he told of the bonds he made with Bon Clay, Jimbei and Ivankov. What happened in the war from his perspective and how Ace died, him losing his life and returning by sheer force of will, Rayleigh's plan of training, their infiltration of Marineford 2 years back, World's attack, and the subsequent defeat of the famous World Destroyer. Wait, how can he be called World Destroyer? It's just a devil fruit, isn't it? Usopp said. No, that power is world-ending. In fact, it is the most powerful paramecia of all time. Luffy gritted his teeth. Everyone got wide-eyed at that declaration. The only one that gets close is the fruit of tremors, the power to control powerful shockwaves. I should have never eaten the fruit of exponentials. He glared at the ground. I was reckless again. I should have never eaten that fruit. The tension in his muscles were real. What happened, Luffy? Robin asked. After I retrieved that fruit we trained for 2 more months. I was indecisive if I wanted to eat that fruit, but a month later I found another. A blood-red apple with lightning bolts and a white circle around it. That fruit is also bad news. He closed his eyes remembering. With the fruit in hand he approached the white tree. He picked the catalog from Vegapunk in the sack of books. He sat down in the grass and started flipping the book with one hand while the other had the fruit for reference. After looking and searching he could not find anything. He opened his eyes. What was the other fruit? We know the one you got from World was the paramecia fruit of exponentials. Frankie asked. After eating it I discovered its effects. It was a Zoan, Luffy said with his eyes glowing, his brow furrowed in fury. I thought it was a Loja, Zoro replied, all of them nodding. They thought it was Enel's fruit or some plasma fruit. No, it was way worse. It was a mythical Zoan, and even inside this category it was special or unique. It was something that could no longer belong in the world. The Zoan class turns you into a mythical creature, but that doesn't explain why you shot a lightning bolt at that Pacifista or you shot a plasma blast at those Marines. Sora replied. She did not understand Luffy did not even transform. Yes, to use one's power you would have to at least transform parts of the body. We witnessed this with Lucci, and I with Marco. But your question goes back to World's fruit of exponentials. The fact is that I ate both of them at the same time. Both. But how did you survive? Nami exclaimed, as everyone became worried. Why did you do something so foolish? Chopper exclaimed. Indeed, as I was saying, I was reckless. I thought back to Blackbeard. I heard he got the fruit from Old Man Whitebeard. He now had 2 devil fruit powers. I did not want to lose to him. The fact remained that I ate both. Luffy closed his eyes. At first both powers fought each other within my body. I stayed in a state of near death and suffering while still moving for 10 days straight. The pain was unbearable. But after the war my body became abnormal. I lost my devil fruit but gained a strange healing factor seemingly out of nowhere. As the days continued on, they both stopped fighting and joined powers. The fruit I ate that belonged to world exponentially rises everything at once. What do you think would happen if a mythical zone like this exponentially rose in power? In fact, I have absolute control of the power over exponentials, increasing things to the power of 2, 10, 100, 1000. I can do that and even further. However, the zone is as powerful as how much I can raise things exponentially. In other words, as the power of the fruit of exponentials grows, the power of this zone exponentially rises with it, and I can't control that power. After all, it is a fruit with its base strength is now to the power. I don't even know. I even forgot the upper limit of what I can do with the fruit of exponentials. I cannot transform without endangering everything around me. But I still don't understand how this paramecia is world-ending. Usopp asked while Zoro was still confused as well. The others understood it more or less, but they were still skeptical. The world was unbelievably large to destroy it. How was that possible? Well, what about an example? What if I choose the gravity around a certain area and put that to the power of 10,000? Robin started to reply, but was frozen by fear. Nami also realized and clutched her clothes in fear. The gravity increases to infinity, creating an honest-to-God black hole here on Earth. Not that fake imitation that Blackbeard uses, capable of eating it and even the sun, was the terrible reply from Luffy. Everyone was stunned. Now they understood what it meant by world ending. Luffy-san, you still haven't told us what your Zoan devil fruit is. Brooke was the first to recover while asking for it. A mythical Zoan fruit of the god, model Indra. Even then it got so powerful from the boost it is now bleeding its powers to my normal state. Indra was the god of lightning and king of the heavens. So my powers are from lightning. This fruit is so powerful it scares me. Fruit of God? Robin asked. Yeah, just as the name says. It is able to turn you into a god. In my case it's Indra. Luffy replied. After a month or so I went to Marineford a third time. But why did you return? The fact that the G1 was destroyed surprised the world. My intentions were simple. I wanted to find more information about my father and mother. Their archives were a good place to search. It was relatively easy getting there. The lightning powers really helped. I checked all of their documents pertaining Garp, and I found a few files with some general information about my real father, but for the life of me, I couldn't find anything about my mother. Eventually, I stumbled on an old file. It had the marriage certificate and her cause of death. After seeing the information, I wanted to curse Garp. How dare he say I was a great Marine? What a laugh. How dare he continue working for those bastards when they did that? How can he lie with himself? Luffy murmured the last part. He faced everyone and then told the tale of his mother, her life, her meeting Dragon, and lastly her sacrifice and eventual murder. During this their faces were shocked as they passed from the shadows of the roots of the great mangroves. No wonder he wanted to destroy that place. The rage he must have felt was immense, even if he never met the woman. Wait, Robin stopped. But that means, Sora continued, wide eyes. Yeah, my mother was a celestial dragon, a world noble. Even more, she was from one of its more prominent families. He spoke shocking words. Only silence reigned as giant sea monsters, schools of fish, sharks, and dolphins passed by. I am the son of a demon and an angel, if you will. After that I appeared high above the plaza. They did not recognize me as Monkey D. Luffy due to my growth and lack of straw hat. XOX. Bastard, who are you? You already forget me. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will eventually become Pirate King. He announced for everyone to hear. Son of a straw hat, why have you come back? He glared at all of them. The air cracked as shockwaves knocked the weak-minded. You see, Mr. Marine, I am positively furious right now, so I came here to make a statement to this little government of yours, as well as to blow some steam. Hey, Mr. Marine, how would I make a statement, huh? Perhaps I should just climb the red line like Fisher Tiger did and kill every single one of those nobles, but I will not do that, even if I am irritated. I am not my father, I am not a revolutionary. Just like always, I am going to live my life how I want. But if the Marine or the Cypher Pauls come after us, well, I won't be in such a forgiving mood. Let's just leave it at that. However, you see, I can't let my rage slide off so easily. The sky darkened. The photo was taken. The world became a grayscale. As Luffy's form started to shift, black colors dancing around him, his eyes were all white. They could not breathe. This rage was unbelievable. His hair blown upwards, his body was pure blackness as they were on the ground kneeling. This was too much. They couldn't handle this. However, the aura spike did not relent. The world started wavering as a ringing sound overcame their ears. Their head was thumping. They could not believe what was happening as their pupils started expanding and contracting at a rapid pace. The pain from forcibly holding their breath raged at their chests. They thought those who were knocked out by the Supreme King's Haki were lucky not to face this monster. The monster held both hands side by side, open palms as his power surged in them. It accumulated and kept accumulated. The black sphere was formed. It had a blue outline. A crack appeared on it. Multiple cracks followed, just like an egg breaking. After the black layer got taken off, what was left was what could only be described as a mini-sun. It was the only color in this black or white world, but the brightness was too much. "Hey, how's this for a statement?" Luffy asked. His voice was deep and ominous. "Omni-series, pulse fusion," he uttered before he extended his man. The mini-sun blasted like a huge ray of light. It enveloped the entirety of the main castle, the old seat of justice. They could not see anything. It was just too bright. The light continued for several minutes. It traveled across the whole ocean, and after a while it stopped. The world regained its color as Luffy calmed down. "Mr. Marine, I shall now continue my adventure. This is goodbye." He turned into lightning and disappeared in the clouds. The Marine turned his head. There was nothing there. The imposing fortress of G1 was gone, as well as anything behind him. The edges and the crater was a smoldering hot hell. He had a friend there. He had comrades who were willing to bring evil pirates to justice there. Everyone, just gone. Only those in the plaza and the residential area survived as he cried to high heavens over the death of his fellow men. XOX. In my rage I killed everyone inside of that fortress, indiscriminately. He told a bit more snippets as his story concluded. Afterwards they had a happier discussion over everything, as Sora made them a snack. As always, her meals were heavenly. "Nami-chan, could you go over the coding process so we don't do something stupid?" Sora exclaimed while bringing her desserts. "Good idea, Sora. Gather around. I have the memo from Rayleigh here." She turned to the blonde as she presented the information. "The bubble around our ship has the same properties as the ones in Sabayati Archipelago, meaning it stretches to a certain degree. And past that you'll pass through and the bubble will return to normal. You can even shoot bullets and cannonballs and the bubble won't burst." "Then what will break it?" Usopp asked. Only Chopper noted the sea creature from behind trying to eat the ship. "Hey, look behind us," Chopper yelled. "The bubble will break if we make multiple holes at once. If we were punctured by a monster's jaw, for example, it would be over. Or if we hit some rocks or a jagged reef and the ship breaks apart. The mast and the hull of the ship could break the bubble as well," she said as the giant sea monster was attacked by another right at its neck. Chopper screamed in surprise. "So, essentially we have to watch for sea life and obstacles. Otherwise we will be fine, unless we do something stupid in here. So it's more durable than I thought. But," Rayleigh writes, "be careful, 70% of all ships fail to arrive at Fishman's Island. What'll happen to us?" Both Usopp and Chopper complained. "Hatcheye said he'd guide us there, so I thought it would be a safe trip." Usopp cried. "So the ship is stable, Nami?" Frankie asked. "Yes, it is riding on a current right now," she replied. "Now it is my time to say something for everyone here. The secret to your robotic parts." Usopp and Chopper were hyped up, stars in their eyes. Luffy calmly chewed on his delicious cake. He opened his eyes. They were stars. Looking at Frankie, he was silently hopeful, which made Robin chuckle at how cute he was. "Unfortunately, this is not the time, Mecha," he replied robotically. Luffy grinned as Chopper and Usopp drooled over the mech body and voice. "Hatcheye was going to guide us down to the Rugu Kingdom, but he suffered serious injuries at Sabayati and had to go back to receive treatment. It is the same as Duval. He got hurt defending the Sunny at the island about a year ago when the Navy found out Sunny was here. There was a big battle and those two had to call it quits there." "What then? How the ship stayed safe?" Usopp asked. They were sitting at a small round table and they were sat on the grass from the Sunny's deck. Luffy was in front of Frankie with Robin, Nami and Sora by his side. Brooke and Usopp on one side. Zoro on the other with Chopper on his shoulder giving his green hair a massage. Frankie was sitting in the bench this time. There was another man. The man who blew us all away 2 years ago. One of the 7 warlords of the sea. Bartholomew Kuma. A few days ago when I returned to the Sunny I could not believe my eyes. He held his tools as he approached the Sunny. However, in front was the same man who sent them away. He carried his Bible on his left hand. While sitting down, his body was broken. Smoke rose from his internal parts as bits of electrical current shot from his body. There were a few swords carved into his skin. He was bleeding fiercely. The man was 23 feet tall. "I have been waiting for you," Kuma spoke out. "What are you doing here?" Frankie aimed his weaponry at the warlord. However, Kuma slowly stepped from the ground. Bizarre sounds were coming from his body. Frankie could see a tattoo on his neck, PX0. Mission complete. Frankie was frozen in confusion as Kuma walked away. The grating sound was harsh on one's ear. His movements were sluggish and mechanical. Sunny did not have a scratch on her. Raysan told me something else later. It seemed he whispered something to Raysan during their battle. Frankie had the attention of everyone. "Maybe you've already figured this out." Luffy and Robin nodded their head. Sora's eyes shadowed, but the rest were confused. Frankie pointed out, but he actually saved our lives. After we disappeared from the island, Kuma told Rayleigh this. I don't have much time left. I don't know how they were blackmailing him, but little by little he was being turned into a cyborg guinea pig by the government. According to the plan, by the time of the War of the Best, his personality and memory were completely erased. Luffy's eyes were shadowed by his hat as Frankie continued. But he sent us all flying off in different directions. He couldn't know what we were going to do. And he still protected the ship, even after losing all of his memories. Chopper asked. He had that man Dr. Vegapunk promise him to include a program into his brain. A last mission, to defend the ship until one Straw Hat returned. That's why even without any of his memories he fulfilled his command until I arrived. That's crazy. Why would he do that for us? Zoro asked with a bottle in hand while they continued eating. If he talked about a connection with us and about the Revolutionary Army, I'm guessing it's because Luffy's dad is the leader of the rebels. Usopp pointed out. Luffy put his finger on his chin, a thoughtful expression. The women secretly swooned over the cute expression. There wasn't much information about him in the archives. It was mostly about some countries the Revolutionary Army had conquered and their tactics for review. But I remember how Iva-chan struggled fighting the bear guy in the war. I guess he was actually our ally until his end. But the only thing we can do is speculate at this point. Luffy reasoned with everyone. Kuma Robin whispered as she rationalized everything about the warlord and closed her eyes in esteem. The truth is that these 2 years were very important to us, and there is no denying that he made it all possible. Frankie continued. Luffy thought back to his meeting at Amazon Lily, Impel Down, Marineford, and his change of resolve. That would not be possible without Kuma interfering. He can't tell us what his intentions were anymore, but always keep in mind that Bartholomew Kuma is someone this crew is indebted to. But if we ever see him again someday, remember this. He's an emotionless weapon. That's all I have to say. I'm grateful, but I still have a lot of questions. I hope someday we'll find out what Kuma was really thinking. Hey, Sora, are you all right? Usopp asked. Hey, I have a few souvenirs from the Isle of Women, Luffy revealed as he searched his bag. But he was stopped by Sora. Island of Women. Am I supposed to feel indebted to Kuma? Do you know what hell I've been in the last 2 years? What were you really doing on that island, Luffy? She good-heartedly complained. Her grabs were gentle as she said softly. Looking at her made him remind him back to 6 months ago. With Ray gone, Luffy could now visit new islands. But he always visited Amazon Lily for at least 3 times a week, sometimes even more. Sora softly slapped him of his memories. He was drooling a bit, but she blocked his view from the rest of the crew. She was slightly hugging his body as she felt his hot length. It seems you had some misadventures as well. Be sure to tell me later about all of them, she saucily said as she swayed her hips and walked away. He focused on her ass framed by that tight skirt. His lust was overpowering, however he eventually calmed down as well as his length. They continued dining Sora's delicious food as their journey continued. Right behind them was a ship led by a sea cow. That was the Caribou Brothers' ship. Big brother, dead ahead. It's the Straw Hats. I can see that, you dummy. Kahei, I guess I'll get to sail with them after all. He licked his lips. Hey, Luffy, how could you shoot that plasma beam at the ship? We all know that you are powerful, but your zone is related to lightning, right? Well, I basically create a zone of lightning around my hand. It rotates with 1/3 of the speed of light, getting continually hotter. The air around it overheats and creates plasma. Then I just throw the beam. The plasma is so hot it creates more plasma. And when it hit the target, I release everything and it explodes, just like I did with those Marines. Now they understood how he did it. His power was not plasma directly, but he could form it and control it as well. They watched the sea. It was becoming darker. We've passed the photic zone and we're almost to the end of the aphotic zone. We are at least 3,000 meters below the surface. It's so quiet. It is nothing like a submarine. It feels like we are flying through air, Robin wondered. Whale, it's whales, Chopper exclaimed, as a giant school of them passed by. They were at least 10 times larger than the ship, their mouths in a permanent grin as they passed by. Luffy smiled. Laboon, Brooke yelled. No, that one looks like Old Man Whitebeard, Luffy remarked. Another one of his powers that surged through him was his passive static aura. For people he liked or when he was in a good mood, it buzzed and made people around him feel tingly with happiness. When he was overcome with lust, it stimulated to give pleasure to those he was touching, just like he did with Sora. When he was in a bad mood, everyone would feel his rage crawling up their skin and enemies would feel dread. This was a subtle ability, and a bad one, because of the stimulus to the pleasure center could become physically addictive. For example, Hancock could no longer feel pleasure from her own fingers anymore. She only got off from Luffy himself. He got good at holding back, but when he lost his emotions, this ability would surface again. After giving each one souvenirs, he reached for 3 bracelets. They were beautiful silver colored with various snake engravings and rubies attached to it. The crew paid attention as he clasped them in his right bicep. What are these, Luffy? Nami asked. They are concentrated sea stone bracelets forged by the finest Kyuja smith. They will make it so I reign in a bit of my powers. But you should lose all of your powers. It's sea stone, you know. Yeah, normally that would be the case. However, I have built a sort of immunity to sea water. There were many salt lakes in those islands around Ruskana. I would often play around and try combat inside the water. In time I could even use my normal powers there. Even swim for a bit. Although it hurt a lot, it would cast a burden on my body. It was not easy. In fact, if not for my healing factor, I would have died. But I persevered and gained an unnatural resistance to seawater. Continuing on, if 3 bracelets are in my arms, I can still swim a bit. I can use tiny amounts of my fruit of exponentials, and I can use basic haki. My physical power is also not diminished by much. 1 off bracelet and I can use a bit of my lightning powers and advanced haki. I can fully use the fruit of more at this point. 2 bracelets off and I can use my most destructive powers. And all the bracelets off I can transform into my god form. Now the crew mostly understood what they would be used. And behind them, ready men. Yeah, big brother. Yeah. The target is right in front of us. It would be easy to just destroy them and send them to a watery grave. But that's no good. Nobody'd know who killed them. I must cut their heads and bring them with me. Then the whole world will know my name. They are not prepared for battle. We'll ambush them. Don't mess up me hearties. Yeah, back on the sunny. There's something behind at 6 o'clock. What is that? A sea beast? No, it is a ship. It's headed straight for us. Prepare for combat, Luffy replied. Sora and Zoro nodded. Their observation picked them up from far away. Charge. MOOO. The beast pulling the ship accelerated and they coasted to the side of Sunny. They are preparing to raid us through the bubbles, Robin remarked, her hands already preparing for it. Board them, men. Caribou rushed forward. Yeah. Hey, wait, Mamu. Nami looked at the sea cow from Arlong Park. Aren't you Mamu of the Arlong Pirates? The beast looked at her surprised. It's me. Don't you remember me? The beast gulped. Huh, he looks familiar, doesn't he, Luffy? Sora softly asked. You sure? But sea cow meat sounds delicious. Luffy salivated at the prospect. Sure, I can do it reverse seared with basting of its own fat, Sora replied, already thinking of the ways she could cook a great meal for her captain. The cow started shaking in fear. Muo. Follow my lead. Caribou jumped into their deck. Some weird person jumped our ship. Chopper screamed in surprise. Kahehe. Now is the time while they are still confused. Kill them all. Kahehe. Some of the Straw Hat crew were shocked, but most of them had poker faces on. MOOO. The cow swam as fast as she could in fear. The crew of Caribou as well as his brother was still on the ship and they were shocked and being led further down. What? Oh no, Captain Caribou is still on the enemy ship. What's wrong, Sea Cow? Why, Sea Cow? Back to the Sunny. Sora held her poker face. Give him a nice greeting with the Gatling gun. Kill all of the Straw Hats in. He looked back and saw nobody. His eyes jumped from his sockets as he sweat bullets. Sora adjusted her tiny tie and lightly kicked the chin of Caribou, breaking the chin and knocking him out. The crew continued with their poker face. Well, that was a bit underwhelming. Frankie put a rope around to secure the man. Hey Nami, aren't we going in a different direction than the log pose is pointing? Usopp asked. Yes, that's right. We have to travel southwest from where it's pointing to be on the right route. Why? Isn't it faster to travel straight down, Nami? Luffy asked curiously. I'm getting so cold. I'm getting goosebumps on my skin. Wait, but I don't. But you're a skeleton, so you don't have any skin. Chopper completed the joke. Brooke fell into the ground, depression setting in. If we head straight down, we'd get caught in the sea currents and crash into sea mountains or volcanoes. What volcanoes? The seafloor is scary. Chopper cried out. Luffy petted Nami's head and she basked in the attention. Luffy was always straightforward, no shame kind of person, so he had no reservations or nervousness when it came to physical affection or relationship. Everyone should put a coat on. It's going to get cold soon. We're going somewhere cold. I thought we were going to the deep sea. Zoro asked. Deep sea water is very cold, of course. Even in a bath, the water is hot at the top and cold at the bottom, was the obvious reply that came from Frankie. Right. So if the same is true, then the deeper we go, the colder we will get. But there is a lot more to the deep sea than just the change in temperature. There is this huge ocean current called our deep sea current that we don't normally see. Right now we're riding on the surface current, which flows in a completely different way. Brooke started a slow song on his piano as he told them this. What? There's a current below the current. You seem to know a lot, Usopp told him. Yo-ho-ho. I've been alive for a long time, so you pick these things, and those currents are always connected somewhere. They don't just branch off and combine from the west to the east. They can go up and down, surfacing and submerging like a giant dragon. The sea currents flow all around the world uninterrupted. Frankie also told them. I heard that the deep current flows very slowly near the ocean floor. If it were to carry you all the way to the bottom, you wouldn't see the light of day again for 2,000 years. Brooke explained. 2,000 years, Chopper said, worried. That's right, there are countless legends surrounding these unknown currents too. Monsters, curses, lost souls, Brooke continued. Chopper cried in fear as Luffy cheered at the notion of adventure again. I don't know about ghosts, but we will be riding the downwelling current until the bottom. It will take us to the deep sea. Nami replied smiling. She had already put winter clothing over her bikini. But how do we find this down current? Chopper asked. Robin, who finished putting her clothing, replied. The down current should look like a giant waterfall in the ocean. It also has a few sets of conditions for it to happen though. Nami then started explaining the conditions. However, Chopper, Usopp and Zoro did not understand anything, so they leaned on the rails. So there's some mysterious currents, they exclaimed while sipping hot tea. Luffy just laughed and caressed Nami's hair. She was pouting at the stupidity of the crew, but the pets decreased her irritation. Honestly, what a bunch of idiots. She pouted even harder as Luffy chuckled. Nami, I see it, Frankie exclaimed in the front of the ship near the helm. Everyone stopped and went to the front of Sunny as they admired Mother Nature. They looked at the giant waterfall spanning miles wide. It is really fast, Nami remarked. Amazing. What a magnificent current. It must be thousands of meters in diameter. Robin looked impressed. Hearing about it is one thing, but seeing is another. Yo-ho-ho, I can't see the bottom. It is pitch black down there. We're finished. We'll be slammed against the ocean floor and be smashed like bugs. Are you sure it's okay to go down in this current? Nami asked. Don't worry about the ship. Sunny was made from the jewel tree atom wood. She's the ultimate ship, Frankie boasted. Hey, Luffy's mouth started watering. Can you sense that? There is a huge octopus down there. Can we catch it and make takoyaki later? He asked Zoro while grinning. Luffy, that's not an octopus, that's a kraken, you know. Both her and Zoro prepared to fight, because down there was a giant sea monster, a legend. One of its arms had crushed a giant galleon-sized ship with little effort as he glared at the Sunny. Captain, would you like it for lunch? Sora pointed at the kraken. What are you saying, Sora? Take a good look. It's gigantic. It must be hundreds of years old. The kraken is a monster that appears in countless legends. Both Usopp and Chopper cried. I see. Hundreds of years. Its meat must be of the highest quality. The meat must be so tender, a banquet fit for the pirate king. She murmured. A creature that's all flesh and no bones. It's the exact opposite of me. Brooke sipped his tea. Hey, that's a pretty super octopus. You don't get to see one every day, Robin remarked, sketching it in her notebook. You are sketching it. Isn't there something else you should be doing right now? Chopper screamed at her. It's fine by me, but do you have a plan, Luffy? Yeah. Sora, can you go and catch it? Luffy asked. Yeah, no problem, Luffy, Sora replied, looking at the kraken. Nami halted the ship's speed for a while. He ordered his chopper. Usopp cried in the corner as the ship halted. The other caribou pirates came to save their brother. However, before they could, they were crushed by the giant octopus arm. All the Straw Hats saw them floating into a watery grave. Their bodies outside the bubble were crushed by the pressure. Nami, Chopper, and Usopp were crying their eyes out in fear. They look like jellyfish, Zoro remarked. Sora had enough of this food. It shouldn't be this cheeky. She jumped out of the bubble and continually jumped in the water. She closed the distance between her and the octopus head in less than a moment. The Straw Hats were shocked at her speed. Be glad that you will be the main ingredient to the lunch of my Captain Octopus, she whispered. Concassor. She spin-kicked the octopus in the head, knocking him out. She did not kill it, as octopus was good freshly served. Afterwards, she grabbed the kraken by hand and returned to the ship. She was dragging away a 100-ton creature like it was nothing. Jumping in the water, Luffy grabbed the octopus from her and put a giant hook on him, increasing the durability of the rope by the power of 10 with his powers. As she entered the bubble soaked, he put a towel over her as she huffed and puffed. The pressure gave off a good exercise. How much stronger did she get? Nami, Chopper, and Usopp exclaimed, shocked. After properly hooking the octopus for later, he saw it release a giant shark. He approached the ship and Luffy gave one of his mighty pats on the head. It nuzzled a bit and thanked them. It also had a shirt on with a criminal logo on it. The shark then left. It was all a bit weird, but they had seen worse. The Sunny entered the sea waterfall. The rapid descent made them hold on to something while Luffy nonchalantly sat down and bounced around the ship. It's too fast, Nami commented as they descended into pitch black darkness. The deep ocean, a world untouched by light, where unearthly creatures make their home. Luffy looked around. He couldn't see much, only faint outlines of giant scary monsters and eldritch abominations. He could feel the sea all out and could hear voices calling out to him, but there was no one there. He was puzzled, but then he liberated his oar, so as to protect the ship and the octopus from these sea abominations. As they could eat his lunch, the crew looked around and Frankie activated his light feature. On his nipples of all places, Luffy grinned a bit, showing a bit of what lied beyond the curtain of darkness. Mostly everyone screamed, but man, they were ugly. They had eyes whited out as they could not see and were blind. But the jaws the size of cities were mildly intimidating. These sea creatures were something else, something out of a horror book. Afterwards, Frankie activated the sunny light feature to show them the way. The seafloor is too vast. Even these sunny lights can't penetrate very far. Frankie steered the ship. This is bad. I get nervous in the dark, Brooke sighed. There's no end to this, where should we go? Usopp worried. Well, we can't stop the ship, so keep following the log pose for now, Nami replied. Oh, that rope. Has anyone seen that pirate? Brooke asked, holding the rope that Caribou was in. Huh, Frankie responded. I completely forgot about him, Usopp replied. Where did he go? Chopper looked around. I haven't seen him since we got to the deep sea, Nami replied. Maybe he got thrown off the ship when we entered the downward current, Robin reasoned. Caribou in his hiding place aimed a dagger to the throat of Nami. He jumped and tried to slit her throat from his hiding place. Nami looked back and was scared that she was going to die. But before he could reach her, he was seized by the neck by a furious Luffy, his grip tightened. You bastard, what were you going to do to Nami? He choked the 200 million berry pirate. Caribou tried to talk back, reason with him, but the hold on his neck was too much. He could only utter unpleasant sounds. As tears fell, he could not hold the dagger as Luffy slowly walked to the side of the ship. Having a pirate on the loose like this had proved dangerous. A permanent removal was in order. He pressed Caribou's body against the bubble. Everyone watched their captain. They knew this was an execution. They may be good-hearted people, but they were still pirates and close as kin. If he had hurt Nami, anyone here would be ready to kill him. They watched dispassionately as he forced a struggled whisper. Please, were his last words, as he and Luffy's arm passed through the bubble. Luffy held Caribou's body outside in the water with his arm outstretched outside, holding the offender's neck. The man eventually got crushed by the deep-sea pressure and bled out from every orifice and every injury on his skin. Luffy then let go and retrieved his soaked arm as the man called Caribou died. He floated above until he was eaten by one of the monsters. He was already long dead, and his body served as food for the ecosystem. How nice. There was nothing to comment after that as Nami gave Luffy a hug that he gladly returned. However, minutes later the seafloor started steaming. They were hydrothermal vents, an active volcano region. It warmed the ocean floor a lot, so they quickly took off their winter clothes. Sora turned her lecherous eyes at the generous cleavage displayed by Nami and Robin. They quickly moved away, for if it erupted it would spell doom for the ship. The crew was then chased by carnivorous tube worms, a giant crab, and several other creatures that were mindless and did not understand the aura Luffy was producing. What's that really bright light? Maybe it's Fishman's Island, Chopper asked. We definitely haven't descended 10,000 meters yet. Frankie then used his nipple lights to ask WHOREYOU. Why are you using that to send a message? Usopp slapped Frankie's body. He had sharp teeth and his eyes were mad. It's an anglerfish, Luffy noted, as they were presented by the sight of one of the ugliest creatures they have ever seen. However, the fish just trembled, not approaching. Koro, Luffy looked on as a giant humanoid giant monster came into view. But now, a man, it's a Yumabuzu. The giant creature had round eyes and black hair and beard. He was wearing just pants. He was a very hairy sea creature that was taller than any giant and walked on the seafloor. Even Robin was sweating, from the heat or the fear she did not know. The creature just hit the fish in the head, creating a comical bruise before the fish could eat the sunny. Hey, don't stop. How many times I have to tell you that? Captain Vanderdecken will be angry. Did it just save us? Nami asked. Don't be so sure, Nami-chan, Sora replied. Run. I don't care what he did. Let's run. They are both monsters. Usopp cried out. Dead men tell no tales. Dead men have no desires. In this blackened nation where not even a crow flies, a song was heard as a giant ruin of a ship appeared. On the sail was the letters Flying Dutchman. Find it. Find it. The sunken treasure is mine for the taking. I'm the richest man in the world. Captain Vanderdecken. The Straw Hats had a mini heart attack as a ghost ship appeared. If you eat the ship, we can't get its treasure, then smash it. Is it the monster of the North Pole? The man on the ship looked at the kraken anchored to their enemy ship. The Yumabazu winded his fist. He went for the punch, yet Luffy matched him. The pressure from Luffy's punch knocked the giant monster to the ground of the ocean floor. However, the area started to shake. Even Zoro, who was resting, woke up. This is bad, Captain Decken. Oh no, the submarine volcano is about to erupt. Nami broke into a sweat. The black water became bright red as the volcano started. Men, retreat. Watatsumi, pull the ship out of here. Aye, the giant monster only had a large bruise as a wound. Full speed towards the Fishman Island, Nami exclaimed. The eruption started as lava started covering the floor, the sea of molten rock coming at them at extreme speed. Frankie, use Coop to burst, Nami ordered. Yeah, just a bit. Coop to burst. It's not going to be enough, Luffy said. His outstretched hand touched the ground of the sunny. His hand was coated in haki. He raised the speed of the ship by the power of 3. Their new speed threw them for a loop as they outran the lava. The heat was like a hot sauna as they started to sweat. They were saved by the power over exponentials. Nami-chan, the way to Fishman's? Sora asked, worried. It's straight ahead. Almost there. Head for that trench. Are you serious? That's an abyss. Trust in Nami, Usopp. Luffy spoke out. He was still kneeling, putting more speed into the ship. They sailed down as an avalanche of rocks appeared from behind, but they were saved by Usopp's pop green. Great job, Usopp, Zoro said out loud. The seafloor 10 kilometers deep down. We're saved, Nami cried in relief. The ship landed on a sandy floor. Light, why is so bright here? It's blinding and I don't even have eyes, yo-ho-ho. Brooke joked. Look up there, guys. It's our destination, Luffy grinned. Yes, there's no mistake. The needle's pointing that way. It must be, Nami replied. Fishman Island, everyone said at the same time. The isle was surrounded by a bubble and there was another above it. This encapsulated the entirety of Ryugu Kingdom. It's surrounded by a giant bubble. Maybe there's air inside. Sora cheered. They celebrated and cheered, gearing the Sunny to make the last trip up towards the gates of the bubble. However, they were surrounded by giant sea monsters. Riding them was few members of the Fishman pirates. They asked to submit to them as they had a sliver of respect from Luffy's previous actions. However, as always, Luffy replied with a big no. In the meantime, Frankie prepared the coup the burst. Nami wanted to use their remaining air to burst them until they hit the giant bubble. After launching themselves, the coup the burst and the bubble of the Sunny deflated and pushed them into the ground. Luffy had a tight hold on Sora, Usopp, and Chopper. He activated and boosted the speed of the ship again as he walked to the helm and directed the ship towards their destination and escaped the pirates. They broke through the first barrier. That barrier destroyed the coating of the ship, but they immediately hit the other. This one, however, had seawater and blew everyone off the ship. The Kraken fell from the ship and Hook and Luffy thought it was a waste of good food. The current is too strong, Nami whispered as her mouth got full of seawater. And there are 4 devil users, Sora whispered with a good strength to sustain herself underwater. Robin already passed out. Brooke was nowhere to be seen. Chopper was firmly in the hold of Luffy, as Sora herself grabbed hold of his giant arm and put under her thin shoulders. Luffy used his other hand to grab Usopp's collar before Sora dragged them to the surface. Luffy could not swim so far underwater, so he let Sora do all the work, but he believed in the others for now. They would survive and find their way back to him. He landed on a beach with Sora on his side, Usopp and Chopper on the other. His tank top disappeared, leaving his torso bare. He also lost his shoe somewhere along the way. He was tired, dead tired. Being so far underwater like that and having the strength to still push his legs forward to help Sora did have a huge toll on his body because of the 2 devil fruit. However, before he passed out, he saw a mermaid coming to him. She had familiar green hair. Kami. He smiled before he passed out. XOX. The fishmen were looking upwards at the Ryugu Kingdom. They probably went through the barrier and got killed. Shall we follow them, Hammond? They are probably dead. Hicka Swordsman Octopus said. We should check anyway. I don't want the Neptune army finding them before we do. But first we need to report back to Noah and tell the boss. That Straw Hat Luffy, the one who crushed Arlong's ambitions, is here, Hammond replied. Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification. So when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.